Hello and welcome back to the Triple Crown Wargaming studio, where today you have me leading proceedings, Scott the Duke McHugh, and I'm joined by Max the Chieftain Hurley and James the Lawmaster Lamin. And today we are taking you through the Ogre Kingdoms deep dive. Now, for those of you who don't know and you haven't seen these videos before, the deep dives are a series of videos dedicated to the competitive analysis of every army book and supplement in Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition. So in this video, we're going to, as I said, break down the Ogre Kingdoms army book. We're going to look at army special rules, the specific lore of magic, the big names and their magic items, as well as analyse each special character and unit choice in the book with our dedicated competitive rating system. If you are looking for the ultimate guide to building a competitive Ogre Kingdoms army, then you've come to the right place. Should we get started then, chap?
Let's do it.
So, today's video, we're going to break down into 5 distinct sections. We've got how the rating system works that we're going to use, first of all, again, in case you've not seen it before. Then we're going to go through the army-wide special rules. Next, we're going to go through the special characters and unit ratings using that rating system, followed by the analysis of the army-specific items and magic lore. Then finally, we're going to discuss some sample competitive army lists, both in a non-comped environment and within the framework of the Triple Crown comp system itself. So, let's move on to that rating system. So, here is that brief explanation or recap, if you've seen it before, of how that rating system works. So firstly, we divide every unit in the army into its battlefield role. So this creates a system that accurately represents how competitive a unit is at its job. So just because it doesn't kill 50 models in a game doesn't mean that it's not competitive. And those battlefield roles are as follows. You have battle line units, the regiments that form the fighting line of your army. Flanking units, those shock units you use for hitting your enemies in the flanks in support of your battle line units. Ranged units, those that offer you that dedicated shooting threat. Chaff units, the units you use for hitting lone targets like war machines and then sacrificing for battlefield advantage. Support units, which are those uniquely Warhammer units that offer sort of buff or damage, sort of unlike anything else, and then special characters, which is what it says on the tin. There are 15 different criteria for scoring, however each of the battlefield roles are scored on the 6 that are most relevant for that role. So we'll outline which criteria are used for each battlefield role, and the full details of how each criteria is broken down can be found on the ratings page of triplecrownwargaming.com, and you can find a link to it on the deep dive page. Each criteria is worth up to 4 points, giving a total out of 24 for each unit in the book. The higher the number, the more competitive it is at its job. And then the criteria for each battlefield role are as follows. Battle line units are scored on the strength of attacks, the number of attacks, special rules, command options, survivability, and cost. Flanking units are then scored on, again, strength of attacks and number of attacks, special rules, manoeuvrability this time, and again, survivability and cost. Ranged units are scored on threat range, strength of their shots, accuracy, the versatility, again, survivability and cost. You'll see those a recurring theme across the roles. Chaff units then are scored on manoeuvrability, number of attacks, special rules, the slot that they come from, their survivability and their cost. Support units are scored on their manoeuvrability, their special rules, their synergy, their risk, their survivability and their cost. And finally, special characters are scored on their output, their special rules, their synergy, their risk, and again, their survivability and their cost. Well, thanks for that counting there, Max. That's super helpful. But a handy tip in general is if a unit scores more than sort of 18, it's a really solid choice.
Really harsh, yeah.
Yes. But with that out of the way, let's move on to the Ogre Kingdoms special rules. Now the formalities are out of the way, let's deep dive. So, in the Ogre Kingdoms Army Special Rules section, you will find just a single special rule, and that is Ogre Charge. So this rule applies to most monstrous infantry units in the army, and essentially means that they have the impact hits 1 special rule. On the turn they make it a successful charge. That's a tricky word to say. Now, that's not bad on its own. However, that is far from all it does. So in addition, models with this special rule that are part of a unit may add their current rank bonus to the strength of those impact hits they inflict. And it's, considering you start at strength 4, which is the strength of the ogre, that's not bad.
No, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It can tot up quite quickly.
It really can. But wait,
there's
more. If a 10 or more is scored on the 2 highest dice when determining their charge distance, they increase their impact hits from 1 to D3. Again, adding the strength, whatever their rank bonus is. That's really good.
I just want to congratulate you on milking that one special rule so much. So much screen time.
There's a solid, probably quarter of a page here of 10
Yeah,
on a single special rule. But I mean,
it's one of those beautiful things when you're in a game
layers.
And you think
like an ogre.
it's one of those beautiful things when you're in a game
I made that joke last time.
and you think to yourself, I really want to get on this unit. I really need to do the damage. It's a big moment, and you throw those dice. And you roll that 10 or you roll that 11 and you go in there and absolutely steamroller. I particularly enjoy it when you're like 4 inches away and you're like, no, I'm rolling it. I might roll a 10.
You always roll it.
Always roll the dice.
And I think the thing is, it's one of those things that is a great Brucey bonus. If you're a Brit of a certain age, there you'll know what a Brucey bonus is. But it's a great little bonus. But I think the problem in competitive play is anything that's that random.
Yeah.
And that when you start breaking down the statistics, I think it's only going to affect about 1 in 6 charges.
It's not many. I think it's slightly over 1 in 6, I think.
Because
or
they
slightly under.
Slightly ogre 1 in 6 chances.
Is it 10 plus?
It's 10 plus.
So I'll work it out in a second.
Yeah.
But effectively,
it's not
that
happen
often.
No.
Yeah, and I think again when we talk about maximising this rule, I want big rank bonus if I can. I want at least two ranks beyond my first, so I can get that magical strength 6, and then I'd like to roll a 10. It's a very situational special rule. This one.
It is. But I also think if you ignore the sort of increase from 1 to D3, just having impact is 1 and increasing your strength for the rank bonus is still really solid. Are you counting it in your head how many options
6.
there are?
It is 1 in 6, ladies and gentlemen. It is a 1 in 6 chance.
I think that's really solid because, you go into something like elves, and to be fair, you go into anything. You're an ogre. You're initiative 2. You go into basically anything that doesn't have a great weapon, and it gives you those hits to do first. Now, against a big unit, that's probably not going to make any difference unless you roll the big D3 and take a dozen of them off. But if you go into like a chariot or a monster or a small unit, that can really make the difference because you're getting less attacks back at you.
With the chariot and the monster thing actually as well, because you're 40mm bases in general, not every base, but pretty much every base in the army is
every monstrous infantry is,
which is
everything
the army
that's got this
basically.
rule.
Oh, yeah, of course, because the Mournfang have a separate rule, don't
Thank
they?
you.
Apologies. So your likelihood is most monsters you'll fight will be at least 50mm wide. So you actually get 3 ogres to do those impact hits with. It's not bad, and something that I don't know if you're going to cover, but have you mentioned how this interacts with characters as well?
No.
I've
not got it on my cheat sheet.
I'm going to jump it off of the not cheat sheet, but obviously if you take something like a tyrant, his impact hit would start at strength 5.
Yeah.
So suddenly, if he's in the front rank doing his hit, it's actually strength 7 when everyone else is 6.
Yeah.
So you can kind of stack up the characters in those layers as well, and
like an onion.
And sort of deliver even more strength, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't even need the Lord levels for that. The Bruiser, who is your BSB option, he's strength 5 as well.
I mega rate the Bruiser actually. I think he's I think the Tyrant's good, but I probably do want a Slaughtermaster.
Yes.
And I actually think like Bruisers have got the stats to compete with a lot of enemies Lord level characters.
They do.
So they're definitely an undermined gem, a bit like Thanes in the Dwarf book.
They are.
I often find you better to spend your points on lots of Thanes instead of one Lord.
But we'll get on to that later with the list.
Sorry.
Back to special rules. So like I said, there's only one sort of that you'll find on that section in the Ogre Kingdoms army book. However, it's worth mentioning that basically all units in the book also have the fear special rule. So the only things that don't are Nobblers and the monsters which have terror instead. So,
better fear.
Yeah, just better.
That's the only things that don't have it, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah,
Yetis might not cause fear.
I'd imagine they're a big scary Yeti, mate.
Yeah.
Let me have a look quickly. Get the book going.
But
have you found it, Yeti?
Yeah, I found it. They do have fear.
They do have
fear.
And yeah, so like I was saying, you're probably going last as an ogre in combat anyway. So if you can make your opponent hit you back at weapon skill 1, that means you've got more ogres attacking when you do eventually get to attack. So you're going to lose less, and you're going to be able to hit them more often and do more damage, which super helpful.
Which helps with ogres generally flat weapon skill.
Yeah,
which is pretty
it's
much,
not great.
It's 3 across the board pretty
now,
much.
you know, fear doesn't come into it that often. You get lots of units that are immune psychology, or that cause fear themselves, or that are leadership sort of 9+ with a BSB reroll. But when it happens, it's a nice, as James said, Brucey bonus.
I also like with this that I can't be terrored off.
No.
So ogres don't have stellar leadership.
No, they don't.
And so not automatically running because something big and scary charged me is great because I downgrade that terror to fear. I also don't take fear checks, which is really scary for a leadership 7 ball.
Yeah.
You know, so you're fighting something like Phoenix Guard and they're like, nah, do you know, it's just too much for me.
It's when you fight a zombie, mate.
Or a zombie, yeah. But
zombie.
having fear yourself is a huge leveler for them
Yeah.
in that way. So it's as much a protective rule, I think, as it is an offensive rule on a lot of the ogre units.
Yeah, absolutely. But that really is it for the ogre special rules. So with that out of the way, we're going to move on to the special characters and the unit ratings. So, special characters and unit ratings. Firstly, though, we're going to address the elephant in the room, and that is generic character profiles. So when putting together a system of rating choices in Warhammer that actually has value, it's really hard to do this for generic characters. So units like the Tyrant, for example, they've got so many options available to them that really does, sort of the choices you make at that stage really does define their competitiveness. So we don't rate them in this deep dive. We do, however, have a couple of ways for you to get a rating for your own Tyrant or Bruiser or any generic character build. And that is, you can either send them to us on Facebook, Instagram, or to our email, which is thetriplecrownguys@gmail.com, and we will put it through our rating system and, you know, send it back to you with any, maybe some ideas, or if you have any questions about what you might want to improve, we can come back to you on that. Secondly, you can put it through the rating system yourself. Like I said before, it's on triplecrownwargaming.com/the rating system, and there's a link to it on the deep dives page. Or you can send us your army list, and we'll sort of look through the whole thing. Or the final way to get that sort of rating is the competitive character series, our snippet series, where we sort of give you some competitive builds for generic characters in Warhammer. Now, we've not done
The Tyrant. We've done a Tyrant.
We have done a Tyrant.
At the time of this video being produced, you will find the Tyrant for the Ogre Kingdoms in that snippet section.
So, you know, feel free to head over there and see what we think the best builds for a Tyrant
They are teethy Tyrants.
No, just stop.
I wouldn't want to fight them.
They are big boys.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. With that out of the way, we're going to divide those army book units into their respective categories, those roles, and then put them through that rating system to get them the competitive score. Now, if we feel a unit could be in sort of 2 roles, we have put it in multiple. We've not done this all the time, where we think, you know, oh, this could be chaff and flanking, for example. And there is one that could be that in the Ogre book, but they were the 2 that just came to my head. So, you know, if you think you want to use a unit in a different role, again, head over to the ratings page, put it through the system, see how it ranks up. But first off, we're going to start with battle line units for the Ogres. Now, these are Ogre Balls, Iron Guts, and Man-Eaters. So your 2 core units, and then flavouring it with a bit of special in there as well.
Not a lot, is there?
There's not a lot.
There's not a lot.
No, there aren't that many choices, really, in the Ogre.
Let's say core.
To be honest.
There's 3 core choices.
There are 3 core choices, yes. And we're going to start with one of them, and that is the Ogre Balls. Now, they come in with a competitive rating of 13 out of 24, just over half. We get there with a 2 for strength of attacks, a 4 for number of attacks, a 1 for special rules, 2 for command options, 2 for survivability, and 2 for cost. Now, number of attacks is really where they get the sort of bulk of their score from, and all of the Ogre units do. With a base 3 attacks each for all of their monstrous infantry, plus the stomp, that scores them the maximum 4.
Plus the impact hit.
If they get the chance.
Yeah,
there's so many ways they can score
Exactly.
the max out on that.
Yeah, and lots of units have more than 3 attacks anyway. I think it's only the core, actually, that have 3.
You can give balls 2 hammer
Additional
pins as well.
weapons, yeah.
So.
Again, the strength of attacks, every unit scores at least a 2 in that because they're all base strength 4, all the monstrous infantry anyway. Some are actually base strength 5.
It's unsurprising with a big meaty man that is an ogre that
It
they're
is.
pumping out that many attacks.
Yeah, and you may be surprised by the 1 for special rules. So ogre charge is good, like we said, but it is very situational. It only happens, you know, if you charge every turn of the game, you'll get it once on average.
Yeah, you'll get the good one.
The
ones,
good,
won't
yeah,
you?
the extra impact hits ones. Which,
And if you never make the charge because you fail it and you get counter charged, you get bogged down that way.
Yeah,
you don't
yeah,
get
no
it at all.
impact hits.
I've played many games where I've not got it with any of them, and it's annoying, but you know it happens unfortunately fairly regularly. Also, their survivability, that is based on them having iron fists, which are essentially shields. But as James said, you can take them with additional hand weapons as well, which will drop their survivability by 1, but increase their number of attacks. They're already maxed out at that, so it wouldn't actually increase their.
It actually just drop their
it'd
rating.
drop their rating by 1. Yeah.
But you would get more dice. But I think in the case, as you say, the iron fists are clearly the best option.
Yeah,
on these guys.
100%. Yeah.
There aren't too many units in the Ogre book actually that are very anvil-y,
No.
that are good at kind of dropping in and reliably knowing that in 2 turns time
They'll probably still be
they'll
there.
still be there,
Yeah.
and you'll have been able to clean up other things around the table.
Mm-hmm.
And I think balls are probably the best option you've got for that.
Yeah.
So I do think iron fists are the
I
way
definitely
to
think
go.
it's the way to go, yeah.
It's a pretty good score, 13.
It's not bad.
A standard core regiment.
Yeah, it's not bad.
A lot of its ability is also based on the fact they have 3 wounds apiece as well.
Toughness 4.
Toughness 4 as well.
Yeah.
Like, wounds doesn't come into effect with our rating system, but you do have to take into consideration they do have 3 wounds apiece.
They're all monstrous infantry.
Yeah,
so
they're
they all
all-
have 3 rings.
Well, you do pay the points for those.
You
rings,
do pay
Yeah,
the points
which
for
is the
them,
other thing.
Yeah, that's the other downside of it. But
Yeah.
They are 30 points plus 1 or 2, depending on which weapon option you
Yeah.
give them.
not the prices out there.
No,
I think they're alright.
I think they're reasonably priced. Hence the 2.
Yeah, I think you struggle to exploit them. I think that's the problem.
Yeah, they can't take a magic banner,
No.
No.
which does hurt them.
Yeah, it does.
And you know, maybe if you could take a magic banner, you could potentially exploit them. Depending on the points.
There's not a
but-
lot of good character synergy with them either.
No.
It's not like you can go, like, I'll put these characters in there and they'll buff them up like this,
Mm.
and that will be particularly useful because their raw problem really is their super average weapon skill, and the strength of 4 is decent, but when you're only weapon skill 3,
You actually hit that much.
you've got to make it. It's very difficult to make strength 4 hits really stick.
Mm.
I mean, even if you think about something that's sort of the same weapon skill as you, like Empire Soldiery.
Yeah.
Say you had 6, you got 18 attacks, you're going to hit 9 times, you're going to wound 6 times because you're only strength 4.
Yeah.
And then, you know, okay, they probably won't have much of a save if they were swordsmen, you might save 1.
Yeah.
But again, 6 models is 180 point unit. 180 points of Empire Soldiers is 30 models back if they're halberdiers, say, and the halberdiers I would fancy to,
Yes.
at that point, start giving you a real kick in.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, they don't have a great save. They come with light armor. Like I said, you can give the Iron Fist for that extra run and the parry, which is definitely the way I'd go.
Yeah.
I
But
can
yeah,
see the argument
not
for
a great
additional
save.
weapons.
I
can
think
see the
you
argument.
lose the benefit in the second rank, and you want ranks for overcharge.
Yeah, I agree.
I can see like you running like little units of 3.
Potentially, if you run units of like 3 or 4, maybe
Yeah.
As like a chaff, because as a chaff unit sort of.
you
thing.
could. Run them
I
as
think that we're going to discuss another unit
That's
that I
better
think
for that.
does that better in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I see the point you're making.
But moving on from the Ogre Balls, we have the second core monstrous infantry unit, and that is the Iron Guts. And they come in with a competitive rating of 16 out of 24. So good, sort of noticeable 3 points better there.
Yeah.
So we get there with a 4 for strength of attacks, 4 for number of attacks, again 1 for special rules, 4 for command options this time, just a 1 for survivability, and a 2 for cost. So the big one here is their strength 6 with their great weapons.
Yeah.
Obviously, great weapons, so you do go last, but you're initiative
Initiative
2 anyway, you're probably going last. Why does that matter?
No.
They come with slightly better armour, they come with heavy armour. So you'll have the same armour save as an Ogre Ball with an Iron Fist, but you don't get the parry. So slightly less survivable. But yeah, that 3 attacks at strength 6, plus
Yeah.
the impact hit, plus the stomp at strength 4, they pump out a lot of attacks.
Unless you know you can reliably beat them, you don't want to touch these guys.
No, there is not a lot that wants to go into Iron
A
Guts.
big regiment dishes out lots of attacks. I mean, if you were just looking at the same example we just discussed,
Yeah.
suddenly you're getting a lot more kills, and
Yeah.
they're sticking.
Yeah.
I think the big difference for me, though, as someone who plays against the ogres, the Prophet of the Great Moor next to me, quite regularly, is the magic banner.
Yeah.
For me, it's the fact they can take that they've got the gold standard 50
do.
point magic banner.
That's my
option.
next point on my cheat sheet.
Well, I've nipped your
Stolen it from me.
filthy little hobbits. They stole it from me.
Wrong franchise.
But
We'll
yes,
move on.
other franchises are available. But
It's a big leap as well. Like the Ogre Balls, they didn't have no magic banner. All of a sudden, the Iron Guts get 50.
Yeah,
it's a massive.
yeah,
leap.
it's huge, and that gives them access to the really spicy ones.
Yeah.
But crucially, it gives them access to the standard discipline.
Yeah, which for me is the best banner on them.
Yeah.
There are arguments for an ogre specific banner, the Dragonhide banner, which I can absolutely see.
I do see a lot of people put it on.
I just think that's better on a different unit.
Yeah.
I think it's very good, and I do definitely try and take it all the time. I just think it's better on a different unit.
Yes, I only ever see you take it on a different unit.
Yeah, see, I've played the Dragonhide banner on Iron Guts quite regularly at GTs, and it is very scary because we'll discuss the banner in more detail later. But effectively, it means the Iron Guts are basically going to reroll wounds on their main attacks, which is excellent, and they're going to reroll probably a third of their misses as well, which is just excellent. They're really good. They also have a bit more of that synergy. I think you're right with the cost on them because they are quite expensive on a 2.
Yeah.
But I think you can do more with them because they can take that magic banner for leadership or the Dragonhide banner, and then the characters can offer you maybe something like stubborn, and suddenly that's a really difficult unit to shift.
Yeah,
whereas stubborn balls don't grind or kill a lot.
No, I also think the synergy you can get with these guys from characters, you can get from a Firebelly.
Yes.
So he comes with a normal hand weapon. He can take additional hand weapon or a great weapon, which we have one over there.
I'm going to point at Firebelly.
But crucially, he has flaming attacks.
Yeah, they're 1+ in the unit.
They really are. So if you want him to go first, he's also got a breath weapon that's a strength 4 breath weapon. So even if you go with a great weapon, he goes at the same time. You just blow the breath, get rid of the regen, and that unit go into something like trolls. Oh, it's terrifying. Take your trolls off.
Just avoid the magic weapon on him.
Yes, because then he loses the benefit of the flame. You could take it and then just rely on the breath weapon. I wouldn't, but that is a way. If you really want a magic weapon on him,
I played a guy many years ago, and I don't remember his name, and it was just at an event, so he probably doesn't remember me either, so that's not such a big deal. But he actually took a potion of speed on his Firebelly.
Yeah, I was thinking potion of strength.
And that's also good, yeah.
Because he's going before the Iron Guts anyway.
He took a potion of speed and was like, I'm going to rock that, and I'm initiative like 6 or 7 then. And then he's like, I'm just going to blow my breath weapon, because breath weapon's done initiative.
Yeah.
Toasty! That was really, really effective for getting rid of the regen, and the guts just cleaned up. It was super solid. Yeah, really good play.
We're seeing the beginnings of what is affectionately known as the gut star.
Yeah. Now, so you could argue a 3 there for cost, but I just think their points is a little too high to really warrant that.
They have 13 more points.
I agree. I think they're very expensive.
Yeah.
13 more points than an Ogre Ball for additional point of armor and a great weapon.
Yeah, 12 more points.
And leadership, I think.
Oh, and a point of leadership. So you
gain a point of leadership.
So the armor on the ball will be a point.
Yeah.
So that's 12 points for additional point of leadership and 2 points of strength.
Great weapons on ogres are generally 8 or 9 points on their characters at least.
Yeah, I mean on a regular one, I wouldn't pay more than. To be honest, I wouldn't pay more than 6 points for a great weapon. Really, if I was looking sensibly at it. So I'm looking and saying I'm paying sort of 6 points for losing my parry save. I'm assuming you've gone with the Iron Fist.
Yeah.
To have the same armor, and then I'm paying 6 points for the access to the magic banner. You got. That's probably something you should pay something for.
Yeah.
The extra point of leadership. They're good things.
But it probably won't actually make
It probably won't actually make 6 points worth of money. So I think you could look and say, well, they may be a bit expensive, but because you can do so much with them, you kind of find yourself in that middle ground where you say, no, these guys are actually about right.
Yeah, you also, like Max said, they are terrifying for basically anyone to have to deal with.
Yeah.
No one wants to go into them.
They are can openers, and Knights don't want any part of them.
Nope.
Which I think was their main use in like 7th edition was literally tin can openers for Knights.
Yeah.
And they still do it in 8th. I can assure you.
Infantry, strength 6 will just mulch a lot of infantry and their stomps will work out on them. Monsters, unless you're a Frost Art Phoenix.
Yeah.
They're to be honest,
even them.
People say this all the time. I don't put Frost Darts into them.
No.
They wound me on a 5, right? Which is actually for a Frost Dart. For a Frost Dart, that's not a regular occurrence that I take wounds on 5s. I can't stomp on them.
No.
I say this to people all the time. We all know the Frost Dart's great, but its big weakness is when it can't stomp, it really struggles. It's only got 4 attacks.
Or monstrous things.
They'll get, on the equivalent frontage, they'll rock 18 back on me.
Yeah, they are pretty spicy.
18 back on me on the equivalent frontage.
Yeah. I think 9 times.
5's to wound. So they'll do 3 wounds. I'll probably only save 1 of them. I'll take 2 wounds.
And he maybe does 2 wounds back.
That's not a good rate of return.
3 wounds.
You have to be sure that you can go into these guys reliably.
Yeah, you've got to put it all in.
Yeah.
All or nothing.
Yes.
We'll take the lot.
Guts out. Guts out. That's what you want to do.
So we've chatted about the Iron Guards for a while there.
Scott's favourite unit.
They are my favourite unit by far. But we're going to move on to the final battle line unit, and that is Man-Eaters. So we're moving into special for this one. Now these come in with a competitive rating of 18 out of 24. So
spicy.
Bumping up again.
Yeah.
So we get there with a 4 for strength of attacks, a 4 for number of attacks, a 4 for special rules, a 4 for command options, 1 for survivability, and 1 for cost. Now, before sort of these guys jump in on anything here, I just want to say these were a really hard unit to sort of give their ratings to, just because of the sheer number of options.
Yeah.
In this slot, they are best with sort of combat weapons. So I've taken the strength of attacks as an average between additional hand weapons and great weapons. So they start at strength 5, and obviously great weapon will make them strength 7. You need to be strength 6 to score the 4 for strength of attacks. I've sort of taken it as an average because you can mix weapons in the unit.
Yeah.
So if you have a unit of 6 or 8, you go front rank, they'll go additional hand weapon because I don't use any attacks. The back rank will go great weapon.
Scary good.
I don't know of any
So
other,
good.
I don't actually know of any other unit that can do that.
There isn't.
There isn't. They're the only ones.
They're the only one.
No, I think they are, yeah.
And the sort of fluff reason behind it is that they're basically, they go off to other sort of civilizations across the old world and they sort of learn their trade and hire themselves out. They're basically mercenaries.
Basically mercenaries.
So you got your ninja man-eater. You got
You
your
got pirate man-eater.
You got your man-eater with a rolling pin.
You do. You
With
have
a
the
pinny.
Empire, yeah.
Paymaster Man-Eater.
You do. There are lots of
Yeah.
different ones, yes.
Great models.
They are fantastic models.
I love
They
are
are.
nice.
the Empire one who's got like the Sigmar statue in his hand.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's not just weapons that you can combine on these guys. You can also choose 2 special rules from a list of, I think, 8.
There are 8,
8
yeah.
special rules. And the combinations you can select are ridiculous. So I'll let Max read out the 8 you can choose, and then I'll go into what ones I think are the best with the different types of weapons.
Yeah, so you got the 8 special rules you can choose from are Immune Psychology, Poison Attacks, Scout, Sniper, Strider, Stubborn, Swift Stride, and Vanguard.
So I'll be honest, there are, like, none of those are bad.
No.
Not really.
Straight off the bat, really, none of them are that bad.
Also, so you can only take each special rule once in your army.
Yeah, so
So,
if you've got like,
2 units of man-eaters.
multiple units, you're not going to be able to take the same. Now, that's not the end of the world because I think you probably just go with 1 unit.
Yeah, I agree. You don't really have the points in a
No.
Ogre Army to start splashing out on a lot of
No,
a lot
not
of
really.
spamming, if we're being honest.
Not really, no. But yeah, so the best specials I think for them, it depends on their weapons, absolutely. If you go for sort of shooting weapons, because they can take a brace of Ogre pistols, which are 2 sort of strength 4 armor piercing shots.
More on this later.
Yeah. then I think probably poison attacks and
Sniper, maybe, if
you
you
can
wanna
go
go like
poison attack sniper if you want to sort of hunt out those characters, or poison attacks and scout
That's very strong.
to get them into sort of close range really early on. They're probably the best 2 combinations for the shooting variant.
Especially Scouts, Sniper, Poison, you want to be fighting against like the undead armies. So like Tomb Kings and Vampire, you shooting out their characters.
You want to try to, yeah.
Yeah.
It's unlikely. It could happen. I've seen it happen, but it's unlikely because of the negative.
We've seen it happen to your brother.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I've seen. I think the thing is, you get caught on it once, and I think there's so many really great counter deployment things you can do that it's a bit of a gimmick. The sniper one, I'm with you. I actually think that the Scout Poison is the best combination because then I'm quite happy to just charge them in and beat some face there too.
Because the brace of Ogre pistols counts an additional hand weapon as well. You get an extra attack.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, but I think certainly if we're looking at them in this role,
In the combat, in the sort of battle line role, then I think again you've probably got 2 options. For me, it always includes stubborn.
Yeah.
100%. That is the first one you take. The second one is a choice between Scout and Swift Stride. For me,
interesting. Okay.
there is an argument for Vanguard in there as well.
I'll also be looking at Poison Attack.
I like poison attacks. I'd have stubborn poison.
I think they're strong enough to not need the poison.
No, but you always like a little boost though, don't you?
I mean, strength 5 basic, 7 with a great weapon, and I think you definitely go a mix of additional hand weapon and great weapon.
Yeah, I agree.
I just don't think you need the poison attacks, and I think the Scout, it gets you closer. The Swift Stride, crucially, makes it more likely.
That
would
be my choice. For me, it would be stubborn. That's boxed. We're just going to box
100%.
that. We're not going to
the
talk
first
about
one
it.
you take. Yeah.
Then it's either I'm going poison or I'm going Swift Stride.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
So Scout's not one for you.
Not really, because I don't want them to get isolated. Because I might lose them if they get isolated, because they're not shooting.
No.
So I want to bring them in really with my blocks, if I can, just to ensure they don't get sort of surrounded.
Yeah.
So I would stick with it, but I like the Swift Stride because of my Ogre charge.
Yeah.
I also like Swift Stride because it's a rule that makes me more consistent at charging. Anything that makes me more consistent is competitive, so I'll take it, you know?
Yeah.
I think it all comes down to your playstyle, realistically. Yeah. Like, again, what we discussed in a couple of weeks, or a week or so ago, it comes down to playstyle, how you want to use your army.
Yeah.
I probably would go Stubborn Poison. Because I have experience with mass poison attacks in a combat unit, as a lot of us do.
You like that, yeah.
I really, because it just takes out a lot of the unreliability of failing to wound.
With the Swift Stride, actually, as we're talking tactics, really, aren't we? We're talking about a competitive video here. Don't get caught up with the Swift Stride thinking, well, it averages a couple of extra points.
Charges.
Let's go for a bigger charge. Don't do that.
No.
That's a bad use of the Swift Stride, and that's really judgmental. But it is a bad use of it because you're playing to be lucky again. So you're taking away the thing that you got from Swift Stride.
You're taking away its benefit that it's given you.
Its benefit was that you don't need to be lucky. You can in fact roll slightly below the average
and
if
still
you're making average charges and still get there. Yeah. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a point on that.
And like you were saying, it does sort of go back to playstyle. If you want your managers to try and sort of act on their own, then I think Scout and Stubborn is better for them because you know, scout them, get them into a flank. They're not going to go anywhere. They've probably got to kill them to the man. They're literally 8 basic. And with Stubborn, you know, they're going to have to kill them to the man. Or if you go with Swift Stride, you keep them close to your general, close to the BSB, keep them with your blocks. And again, if you can get them into the flank, great. If not, just go into the front of something. Dish out a million attacks.
Am I right in thinking they move faster than regular?
No.
They move 6. That might have been just in my head then. I thought they moved
I
slightly faster.
I was only impressed they had an additional wound over regular Ogre.
No, they have an additional strength
attack,
and an additional attack.
Unless I'm thinking of the previous book again, maybe they additional... I don't know. I can't remember.
I really like the fluff side of these as well. They're a pullover from Dogs of War days. Goldfag Man-Eater, which we'll discuss later, was the character that kind of did that. He was the original bad boy.
The OG.
I think that what we haven't talked about that's probably worth a quick mention is that these guys really fall down on cost.
Yeah, that was my...
Max just looks at him, obviously.
That was my final point on my cheat sheet. They are 50 points a model.
They are spenny.
In light armour.
Yeah, 50 points per model.
And you can increase that to heavy armour for 2 points.
4 points.
4 points.
4 points a model.
54 points for toughness 4 with 5 up save.
If you're taking these guys, you are going all in.
Yeah, I'll be honest, if these were 45 with the heavy armour baked in, I'm talking about a 9-point reduction now. These would be an absolutely ridiculously competitive unit. They would go to a 3, I think, on cost.
Serious choice against Mornfang.
And you'd be well over 20 on their score.
Yeah.
It's just that's a huge drawback. And to be honest, they're not very survivable either.
No, they're not.
You can mitigate lack of survivability though. We know there's really powerful units in Warhammer that don't hold a lot of survivability, but they do so much punch. These guys could join that elite, but they're just so expensive.
Yeah.
They're more points than like any sort of knight that's out there.
Yeah, they can take a 50-point magic banner, which is very good. But you're at that point, for me, I think you're just putting points in that unit to lose. I don't see this unit really ever surviving a battle. They're just not survivable enough. You can put them into loads and they will kill a hell of a lot.
Let's be honest.
I just don't think they're really ever going to sort of consistently survive a battle.
Some of the Ogre magic you get, and especially like Laura Greatmoor and Laura Beast, if you take that, you can make them pretty survivable.
You can make them quite tough if you get them regen, that's quite good.
Regen, Wiston's Wild Form, all of that, Toothcracker, all that sort of jazz.
Yeah, they can be quite tough. I just think that lack of save. I mean, regen obviously offsets that, but that lack of save.
Yeah.
Just really
I think the problem is you don't get all of those defensive things off, and if you're spending all of that defensive effort on them, you're not spending it on your other regiments either potentially.
Yeah.
A lot of those spells either can't be bubbled, or when you do bubble them, they're such big cast values that you don't get the luxury of then going, oh well, I'll also have like this one and that one. My opponent's only got to dispel that one. I mean, really, when you're playing against ogres, you're looking at that bubble regen, and you're like, "That's the one I need to stop."
Yeah, probably.
So,
bubble regen,
or a savage beast if you're in combat.
Yeah.
From beasts, which is terrifying.
Bubble regen, bubble +1 toughness, Wiston's Wild Form.
I'm not sure if you can bubble +1 toughness or if it increases the range.
We'll find out later.
We'll go into that later.
We'll find out later.
But I think their final point on man-eaters, they are very expensive. They are not very survivable. They are, however, weapon skill 4.
Yeah.
They are a better weapon skill than like every other ogre out there.
But this is skill 4 as well, which is quite nice.
Yeah, so which helps their shooting.
Although it is worth pointing out, I think they've got a brace, haven't they? So multiple shots.
Yeah, they can take a single.
They can take singles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
I would take a brace.
I would also take a brace. And you could just choose to not multi-shot with the brace.
Yeah, that is true. I always forget that you can just go.
so do
I think I'll
I'll
single shot.
I'll just shoot one.
Yeah.
I'll just shoot one of my 2 pistols.
Yes. But yeah, that was the final point on Mannington's. 18 out of 24, really solid. Slightly let down by their cost.
Yeah.
Really.
Super cool though.
Very cool.
They are super cool.
Yes. That is the battle line units covered. Now it's time to feast upon your enemy's formations with the Ogre Kingdoms flanking units. So here we've got quite a lot more choice. We've got Mournfang Cavalry, we've got Yetis, we've got Man-Eaters again, we have the Gorger, the Giant, the Stonehorn, and the Thunder Tusk.
Why not?
So we basically have the Ogre Kingdoms army book in this section.
Special and rare. Yeah, take special and rare, anything that can shoot, take it out, but then special and rare.
Why are the Nobblers not in this section? Come on, man.
Nope.
Give the people what they want.
Nope. So, Mournfang Cavalry. These guys are up first, and they come in with a competitive rating of 20 out of 24.
Ooh.
Yeah.
These are probably my favourite unit in the book.
You
I would say.
already said.
You said Iron
I
Guts.
got some of my favourite that I have to take, because I have to take Gore.
Oh, man. What a
I,
cop out.
I do love my Mournfang Cavalry. So we get there with a 3 for strength of attacks, a 4 for number of attacks, a 4 for special rules, 2 for manoeuvrability, 4 for survivability, and 3 for cost. So they do have some options, but I'm going to assume you're taking heavy armour and iron fist for the 2-up save and a parry, crucially, and they can parry even though they're mounted.
Specifies that in the Iron
That's
Fist.
the sort of the benefit of an iron fist. 4 for special rules is it's that synergy between the thick-skinned, which means the Mournfang give you +2 to your armour, not the normal +1 for being mounted, and that the model's armour save to give them that 2-up save. I mean, 2-up armour on monstrous cavalry. I mean, really, it's only Skull Crushers and Demigriffs. Yeah, and that's so good considering both really rider and mount are terrifying. Like Demigriffs, you're like, I don't care about the rider; it's all about the mounts. Skull Crushers are the same. You do
Care about both.
Worry about both. But crucially, Mournfang Cavalry, they don't have the Ogre Charge special rule. They just have a fixed impact hits D3.
That's pretty big.
All the time, at the strength of the Mournfang, which is 5.
Right.
That's really good. You're guaranteeing you're doing those hits every time you charge. And they're Swift Stride, obviously.
And superior movement as well to
They are
most
movement.
things in
Yeah.
Warhammer. What, they 8?
I think they're 8.
Movement 8.
Yeah, so again, this is where the impact hits rule for them goes from being really a situational special rule to actually a consistent one.
Yeah.
Because you pretty much will get a charge
Yeah.
in every game with these guys unless something's gone really wrong.
You're playing a game of chicken with Mournfang most of the day.
You did.
I always play games of chicken and it always doesn't seem to come out on top. It always just ends up being my Skull Crushers playing the game of chicken.
Yeah, well,
with the
you
Mournfang.
failed the game of chicken with your warriors against my Mournfang.
Yeah.
You also failed the game of chicken using my ogres
Yeah,
against the
I did.
rats.
I'm not good at chicken.
Yeah,
I'm not good at the game of
doesn't
chicken.
I think as well with these guys, I think they're the only monstrous cavalry in the game that do impact hits.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know that there's going to be people screaming that Rhinox Riders are a thing from Forge World.
They are a thing.
But
They're not in the book.
They're not in the book.
they're not in the book and they're not in our events. So,
Because Moranox is terrifying.
Oh,
But
they're God, yeah.
anyway,
They're
beyond
another level. They're about 28 out of 24.
yeah, but yeah, certainly very strong.
They are expensive though. With those upgrades with the heavy armor and the iron fist, they are 70 points a model.
It's still the same price as a base Skull Crusher.
Yeah, so I don't think they're too expensive.
I don't
I just
think
think they are
that.
expensive.
I don't think that-
Still less than two Iron Guts as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think this is the unit you put the Dragonhide banner on.
Yeah, you always
Not
put
the
you
Iron
always
Guts.
put on the Dragon.
This is my favourite unit for them. So as we said, we'll get into exactly what it does later. But it lets you reroll some hits, some wounds. It also lets you reroll some armor saves. Now I think that bit essentially is wasted on Iron Guts because most of the time the stuff that's really going to wound them a lot, they won't get a save against anyway.
Yep.
Whereas these guys will because they've got their 2-up save. It's also got actually not a bad breath weapon.
No, strength 3 if you hit by it, always strikes last. We'll get
It
into
is.
it.
I think you have to be wounded by it.
We'll
But
find out later.
We'll get
yeah,
there.
but I think that works better. The Always Strikes Last works better because it means the Mournfang are going first, whereas it just means you're going at the same time as the Iron Guts.
Yeah.
And I think, denying those attacks back at you is better than just giving yourself all of your attacks.
Let's not forget they also have that strength 5 stomp.
They do. The Mournfang is strength 5.
Yeah.
4 attacks from the mount as well.
You can also mean units of 2, which is very nice. You can say
Yeah,
little, not in redirects, but sort of little 3 units of 2. I think it'd be quite nice.
Yeah,
I've seen that
essentially.
done actually. 3 units of 3 and 3 units of 2. just sort of darting them around and doing the damage, because they still kick out a really impressive
lot
amount
of
of damage.
attacks.
Like
Yeah.
that. I think they're one of the few monstrous. I think actually, I mean, I wouldn't on Skull Crushers. I know Max does. So for me, I think they're probably the only monstrous cavalry unit I'd bother to put a magic banner on. I'd bother to put a banner on in the first place. I'm not a big fan of banners on those units. I want to use them in the flanking role. I want to take a low number of models. I want to put them in and just thrash stuff out and keep the points as tight as I can. With these guys though, because that Dragonhide banner, now it's a big consideration for me.
Yeah, they are up there as one of the best monstrous cav in the game.
Yeah, I also think if you've gone Dragonhide on your Iron Guts and you want to put it on there, or if you don't want to take Dragonhide, I think Razor Standard is another really good option for them.
I could see
They've got lots of attacks, decent strength, lots of strength 5 attacks from the Mornfang, 4 from the Riders. I think Razor Standard's a good choice.
They've actually got a lot of good banners, haven't they? Because plus
banner.
on movements, really.
Movement
strong.
9.
I'm
Make
suddenly a
movement 9.
Mornfang cavalry as fast as an Elven Steed.
Yeah, and that's again, we're back to that getting the
It's
impact hits
terrifying
off my
for the horse,
charge.
isn't it?
I'm much more likely to get that in with an extra point of movement, and that's a really cheap 15-point banner. The list goes on really. These guys are pretty stellar. You should be considering at least a regiment, possibly 2 in your list.
This is why you don't reseat Manny, is because they're competing with
against the
Mornfang.
Mornfang. Yeah, I really do agree.
And that's another thing. We just talked up how great the man-eaters are, and they are really flexible and really versatile. But these guys are only 20 points more fully decked, and they will stay on the table far longer.
100%. Oh, also, if you want to go cheap, Magic Banner, Flaming Banner.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it?
Strip the regen off for your Iron Guts to go in and wreck face.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's all good stuff.
All
here.
good stuff. But we're moving on from the dizzying heights of 20 for Mornfang Cavalry, and we are dropping back down to 13 for Yetis.
The Yeeties!
The Yetis. So we get there with a 3 for strength of attacks, a 4 for number of attacks, 2 for special rules, 2 for maneuverability, 1 for survivability, and 1 for cost. So these are an interesting one. I really overlooked this unit for a very, very long time. I started playing Ogres in 2010, I think it was.
Yeah, so that time, wasn't it?
So it's been, when we filmed this video, about 11 years. I think it was about Christmas 2010. So it's been about 11 years. And I only bought Yetis about...
4 years? 3 years?
No,
about 12 months ago.
Yeah, he was.
It must be
No,
something like that. You bought them for
I bought them
Kemri.
for the Scorched Camera
So
Series,
about
maybe
2 years.
2 years ago. Yeah. And so in that event, as James said, I bought them for the Scorched Camera narrative event. And in that event, they did get a buff. If you took the special character, they got a regen 5+, I think it was. For the Menagerie upgrade, which I really like the name of. And, they did really well for me. And I actually took them in a couple of games after that without that upgrade. And they still did okay. So they've got no save of any kind. Which is, hence the 1 for survivability. They're toughness 4, which is why they get the 1 point. But they've got no save. And I looked at that and thought, they're just going to get shot off. They're easier to kill than an Iron Gut, and loads of them get shot off. But they just don't, because people don't target them. They target the Iron Guts.
They target the Iron Guts.
Yeah. And they've got magic weapons, which is probably more of a...
I think it's a massive advantage for Ogres, actually.
Yeah. Okay,
I know you
it's
think
interesting.
Because, alright, we know the botwood, we know what it does. But for me, your Iron Guts will slaughter that White Lion unit anyway, unless it's got a Lariel in it.
Yeah.
But you don't want your Ogres tied up by, say, a Spirit Host.
Yeah, and you don't have a lot of magic weapons.
And I've definitely done that. I've definitely had Gutstar, and I'm like, I've got like a Spirit Host. He's 5 Hexros in the flank. That is just death. That's not good for them. And I think that's something that the Yetis really bring to the table.
That is very true. That is very true. But then you do have that downside of if you face the Banner of the World Dragon. But you just they've got magical attacks. You can probably guess that their unit's got Banner of the World Dragon. So just charge them into everything else.
As a point on that, if you were in that position, something that I would do with my Yetis, I wouldn't take a huge unit of these guys.
No, I'd 3, maybe 4.
3, maybe 4. But I'd deploy them in a dart then, 1 wide.
Yeah.
Put them in the flank and let them do their other core abilities that we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
And don't worry if those White Lions try and attack them, because they're not going to get tons. If it turns out they don't have the Banner of the World Dragon, then reform 4 wide and lay some beat down.
Because they've got additional power weapons as well. So they've got 5 attacks, 4 attacks each.
4
so
attacks apiece, yeah.
4 attacks each. That other benefit that James was talking about is their Aura of Frost. So this is a fixed -1 weapon skill to any unit in base contact, any enemy unit in base contact. Now, that doesn't rely on them not having the Banner of the World Dragon, doesn't rely on them doing any wounds, nothing. If you're in base contact, you're an enemy unit, you're -1 weapon skill. Now, you know, ogres aren't great weapon skill.
It's not
so
stellar all the time, really.
no, it's not amazing on its own. So, but you know, ogres aren't great weapon skill. It helps. Might mean it probably is only going to affect them hitting you back. You know, unless you face some
enemy core units,
other
chance
weapon skill 3.
Yeah,
average weapon skill out there is 3.
Still 3. Yeah, a lot of core units should be hitting on 3s with your ogres then.
Yeah.
But what is the main?
The biggest benefit though is that Aura of Frost does not cap at weapon skill 1.
No, it does not.
So if your enemy fails their fear check and their weapon skill 1, and then you Aura Frost them with the Yetis, they are weapon skill 0, which means they cannot attack and they are automatically hit.
Yeah.
Absolutely disgusting.
Incredible.
I want to point out, I've never done this. It's never worked for me. I nearly did it. If I'd have done combats in a different order, I would have done it. But it's never worked for me. However, when it does, your iron gut or your balls or whatever unit is in with the Yetis, because you want something in with them. They dish out a lot of attacks, but if you know that enemy doesn't fail their fear check, they're probably going to die. So you want something in with them, and whatever that unit is absolutely going to devastate whatever they're fighting.
Those little units are 3 as well. They thrash enemy chaff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely
fantastic for it.
thrash enemy chaff, which
Yeah,
is great.
their movement's 7, I think. They're
Movement
quite
7?
quick.
They're the
They've
ones
got
that are
Swift
quicker.
Stride.
They have Swift Stride as well, yeah.
Yes, and they are super quick. I tell you what, they're also really good at flank charging knights.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because they're strength 3. They'll still win you back on 5s.
Yep.
It's quite hard for the knights to really sort of do a lot of damage to them. You're strength 5. You're cutting through a decent amount of armor. They're making them -1 weapon skill, so they're not going to hit you back as much. They're really, and they're as quick as most knights, most sort of armored knights.
Again, terrifying for those horses out there.
Yeah.
You see this Yeti running along.
bounding along.
See, I think you've been a bit harsh on their score. I'd have given them a 4 for special rules. There'd be a 15 for me.
They are flammable.
Yeah.
So there'd be a 3. Then knock a point off.
They
the
are
flammability.
flammable, which is why we've dropped a
Yeah.
point on their special rules.
Did they get 3 then or 2?
They got 2.
So I'd have made them a 14.
Yeah,
Been
it's,
kind
for
of-
me that magical attacks is sort of situational because most of the time it will do nothing.
Yeah, but that's good then.
Yes, but it doesn't benefit them at all. Sometimes it's really good if you fight basically just vampires. Because Tomb Kings don't own anything ethereal, do they? So it's just vampires. And then if you face high elves, it's going to mean that you're never going to want to get them into white lines.
It's that aura of frost and the fear though, where you
Yes.
can do that magical combination
Yeah.
of just you're automatically hit, mate.
Yeah.
That's absolutely just self-containingly
Yeah.
disgusting.
You're banking on a failed fear test, though,
Yeah.
which doesn't happen often because of the leadership bubbles you can get.
You're one of the 13 armies that can take Law of Death. Don't ask me why I know 13 armies can take Law of Death. I'm not worried about making that video. You're worried about making that video.
You're making the video.
I think fine, I'm not.
You can drop their leadership with Demon Darkness from Death, but that is the only way that you can affect
Yeah,
leadership.
it is. Yeah.
And it's very, and to be
That's
honest,
very
I think
situational.
for the 13 armies that can take Law of Death, ogres are probably the ones that take it like the least.
At least, yeah.
It certainly doesn't offer them as much as their other laws offer them.
No.
And I find a lot of the time with laws of magic in general, it's not that the law's bad on the army, it's that there's other
Other
laws that offer so much more that you just sort of relegate a law out of the consideration.
Yeah,
Always funny to
absolutely.
see a slaughtermaster on a flying carpet, though. Just a Hawaii 5-0 in the background.
Can't really do a surf move on here. Not really the space.
Surfs up.
But yeah, back to Yetis. Away from Hawaii 5-0. Back to Yetis.
Other cop shows are available.
They're good. I think they've got good potential. Is probably the best I can say about them.
You have to work around them.
Yeah,
You
they're
do
also quite expensive. They're a point more than an Iron Gut.
To 44 points.
44 points.
Yeah, that does feel expensive.
It feels
for
a
what they do.
tag too much for no save at all. Even
Yeah,
if they just had like light armor even, or
I'd say
like a 6-up regen, or
6-up
something, or
scaly skin.
Yeah, it would make more sense than
No,
light armor.
like Scaly Skin 6 up because they're so encrusted with frost.
Yeah,
something like that would be nice.
Although I would say I think that a Scaly Skin 6
It
plus
would
would
do
be
nothing,
completely
but-
worthless, really.
Yeah,
You tell that to
a
the
5-up
blood.
scaly
You tell that
skin.
to the bloodletter and the skink, mate.
Well, don't worry about that,
The
mate.
bloodletters have 6-up scaly skin.
Yeah, when
they
we get to
do.
those deep dives, I will tell it to them.
Okay.
Your Scaly Skin's trash.
It's trash, dog.
But with that, we are moving back to man-eaters.
Just before we do, I think
Yes.
you can use Yetis in that support unit role as well.
I was saying they're
I know we haven't really
yeah,
covered that
bordering
as
on a
much
support
today,
unit.
but I think they border on that just from
Potentially
that
for
little
the
rule.
aura.
But it is such a one-trick thing
Yeah.
that is difficult to treat them as a proper support unit.
As a sort of entirely, it's a bit
Yeah.
like when we the vampire counts deep dive with the Terrorgeist.
Yeah.
You can use him in just, and he's better at it, but you can use him in just that sort of support role with his screams. But he really becomes phenomenal when you combine that with the flanking role.
That's it, yeah, you bring it all together.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Just as a point for you guys at home, really.
But as I said, moving on to man-eaters again, this time coming in with a competitive rating of 16 out of 24. So dropping off a little bit from their battle line role. Again, we get there with a 4 for strength of attacks, a 4 for number of attacks, and a 4 for special rules. 2 for manoeuvrability, 1 for survivability, and 1 for cost. So their difference is coming from dropping 4 from command options down to a 2 for manoeuvrability. Because their movement's 6, they're reasonably fast, but that is it. They can have swift stride, which helps, or scout, or vanguard, which help.
They have a lot of movement rules they can take at the beginning of the game.
But you know, it's nowhere near as they're not as manoeuvrable as like fast cavalry or something like that.
In a flanking role, I think you deploy these very differently as well.
I think you definitely take scout.
Yeah,
that would be the one for me, even over Vanguard. I think Scout is significantly better.
Interesting. I'm not sure.
I don't think he agrees with you.
No. It's not that I don't agree. I just think this is the thing with man-eaters. There's so many ways to play them, and I say interesting. It's interesting to see like that Scott's tactical move. I think mine would be different, but I don't know what it'd be. It wouldn't be stubborn though. I'll say that. I wouldn't invest in stubborn. I think I'd take poison in the flanking role. I'd probably take 4, and I'd probably take 2 hand weapons, and then beyond that, I'd have to have a think about it because
I just think Scout because even if you can't, you know, your opponent deploys quite well, and you can't deploy out of arc of sight or anything, or out of around the flanks or anything, you can just really reactively deploy.
I like Scout because I think people forget that you can just deploy in your own deployment zone if you need to.
Yeah, you don't have to deploy sort of like behind everything and, you know, to the sides of things. You can just go, actually, I'll put them next to my other unit.
And it's really strong for getting the first turn as well because you're likely to get all your drops down before because Scout drops are separated off.
You deploy them like a couple of inches outside the deployment zone.
Yeah,
easy enough.
Yeah,
but I think Scott's right, getting them in the side. That helps the Scout helps to counter the manoeuvrability issues they have.
Yes.
If you give them that, they can buff.
Exactly. Yeah. That manoeuvrability score does assume you've only selected one of the sort of movement / deployment special rules. Yeah. So if you select Scout / Vanguard and Swift Stride, they'd score an extra point on manoeuvrability by bumping them up to a 17. I don't know if I can see them being sort of taken in a flanking role in the same size unit as before, so a 6 or maybe an 8, and still taking stubborn on them. But I can also see the argument of a unit of like 4 with additional hand weapons. I mean, that pumps out like 20 attacks.
I just think at that point you're just convincing yourself that battle line unit's a flanking unit. It's battle line unit to me. It can flank, as all battle line units can. But I think if I was dedicatedly building it for that role, I'd be like, it wants some manoeuvrable stuff. Exactly what you're saying is spot on. And I'd probably take like small. And I think you could be quite clever. You could say, well, I have 2 units of 4. I'll give one Vanguard, one Scout.
One like sort of Vanguard.
And then maybe Vanguard Poison, and then maybe Scout Swift. Vanguard Swift Stride, quite good, because I can get the better range. And then Scout and Poison. Yeah. Obviously the classic combination of Scout and Poison.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's really good uses for them. I also think you're probably only going to want 2 units if you take both in a flanking role.
I completely agree.
But
you don't want more than 8 in your army ever.
No.
Whether you put them in one unit or 2.
Yeah,
you never want more than 8.
18. A horde of 18.
You do not have the points to back that up.
You really do not.
Only wins that base.
Like 1900.
900 points.
900 points.
Yeah, that's fine. You got another...
Before equipment, they've just got hand weapons. Yeah, light armor.
You got 600 points to play around at that point in time.
You're a psychopath.
I want to see it done. I'm gonna do.
Also, you don't. You have 350 points to play with.
Yeah. No, I want about the rest of the army.
Right, okay.
600 points the rest of the army.
Anyway, moving on to another new addition, we have the Gorger. So he comes in with a competitive rating of 15 out of 24. So not bad, not bad. We get there with a 3 for strength of attacks, a 4 for number of attacks, 3 for special rules, 2 for manoeuvrability, 2 for survivability, and 1 for cost. I am staggered the score was that high. It's really helped out by that 4 for number of attacks, 4 attacks with frenzy and a stomp and an impact hit.
No impact hit.
Has he not got ogre charge?
Yeah, he doesn't have ogre because he's skinny.
Okay.
Gorger skinny in the flank.
Okay, so he's only got 4, 5, 6 attacks with his frenzy.
It doesn't affect the score.
That 7th attack is the one that's really defining
pipping him over the edge. I mean, that is a lot of damage being pumped out.
That's a lot of damage.
That is a lot of damage. They've only got 4 wounds. I say only, but they've got absolutely no save.
Yeah, unless you combine it with someone else. We're going to talk about
Yeah,
later.
unless you combine them with Scrag, one of the special characters. And again, unless you combine them with him, they can only be taken in units of 1.
Yeah. That's not their biggest issue right now.
No, they're also skipping over their biggest issue for now. They're also still only weapon skill 3, so they've got a lot of attacks, but probably won't hit all that often.
Banking on that fear.
Yeah, their leadership 8, are they?
Leadership 8.
Trying to read from the book.
It's very good.
It's good for an ogre, and it's not bad for frenzy. But their biggest problem really is that they've got ambushers.
Yeah.
Their biggest problem in this role, I think, is they've got ambushers. It's less of an issue in say chaff, where you can say, "Well, I'm going to use my hunt machinery." Anyway, but they've still got to come. It's still not a good rule to have, but it's better in that slot than this one.
So they do lose a point on special rules for ambushers because it's just not a good special rule. What they would have got 4 for special rules for, though, is the fact that they are unbreakable.
Unbreakable.
Baked in, they're unbreakable. You have to kill them. Now, that's not, like I said, they've only got 4 wounds with no saves. It's not tremendously difficult, but if you charge them into something like Spearman, basically any Empire Corps that isn't Swordsman or Halberdiers, because they'll get the extra hits on the weapon skill and the extra strength from the Halberdiers, they're going to kill a lot for a while before you actually take them down, especially if you get them in the flank.
To be honest, they're a little bit like the way that you might have seen us employ Vargals on the channel.
Yeah, similar.
You sort of chuck them into a very average unit, they're going to struggle to get through them, particularly if you can get something like a Wissons off on them. And, you know, suddenly they're quite a handful.
This is weird. That's when my brain went to good comparison was is the Gorge and the Vargolf.
Yeah.
The issue I have between the Gorge and the Vargolf is the Vargolf's a monster, this is a monstrous infantry.
Yeah.
There is no fundus.
He's got a stomp, not an under.
It's no fun to stop.
Also, he's not called Vernon. That's a huge problem.
No, it's called Gregory.
Gary. Gary the
yeah, well, Gary is not a name with a lot of stock on the channel at the moment. The last Gary on this channel was unceremonially decapitated by wood elves.
No, I'll go Gregory the Gorger.
They do also have Killing Blow.
Yeah,
baked in
because their jaw, fluff-wise, their jaws distend like a snake, so they can swallow you whole.
Terrifying.
These were really popular. It's worth saying they were really popular when the book came out in the competitive scene. And I get it. I do get it. I do think you look at these guys and they are the type of unit that I think as a competitive gamer you get really excited about because you think there's so much potential here. These guys throw a lot of dice. They've got 6 attacks killing blow. Ooh, you know, like that's so you can see the potential.
Absolutely.
But I think 90 points, as you've discussed,
90 points
too high.
Is too high.
Wow, too much. Yeah, and
I can see them working really well with chaff clearance. If they didn't have ambushers.
Yeah, and if they weren't frenzied, I don't... Because I think all that being pulled away where you don't want to be ends up sort of meaning they clear the chaff but actually don't necessarily...
Just probably then end up in the way anyway.
And because they're frenzied, they don't double up very well as a sacrifice chaff. They're only really good for sort of getting on the back and killing war machines. So...
Although, they are unbreakable, so you could just turn them around if you wanted to use them as chaff.
That's a very good point, actually. I'd do that.
Spin, because they're single model, so spin them around, move him, march him 16 inches, turn him around again.
Yeah,
12 inches.
That's a good shot. 12.
How's your movement?
He's only moving 6.
Yeah, he's leadership 8, sorry.
Yeah,
that's the potential. But again, ambushers, so that really, for me, takes that role away from them.
Yeah,
I think you could use them in that role if they come on, say, turn 2, kill a war machine, and get into a position where you could use them in that role. I think absolutely use them in that role.
What's the ambush roll? It's a 3+, isn't it?
3+ on turn.
It's a 3+.
Oh, is it just fixed? I thought it got better.
I think it's a
it's a fixed 3+.
3+.
That's not an awful roll. 2
No,
time, you do turn up.
Yeah, but then you turn up and you're like on a board edge.
You can't charge after it either. Yeah.
I do actually think that that if you're going to do it, they're actually just better to use 1. I think 2, you're pushing your luck.
It's a lot of points
Because you're putting in the points. And it's the opportunity cost we just talked about. The flexibility of a unit like Man-Eaters, which does have their drawbacks, but they are very flexible and tactical players will enjoy that. Similarly, Mornfang we just talked about. There's other, the characters we talked about in passing as well, which we want. And we've got other regiments on the table next to me that we're going to discuss shortly, which are also key regiments to victory.
100%.
It's hard to see where you find the gorgeous points.
It is.
Sad times for a Gorger.
Sad times for a Gorger, indeed. But we're going to move on from that overcosted Gorger, and we're going to move on to the overcosted Giant.
Looks over the cheat sheet, I'm like, equally overcosted.
Who comes in with exactly the same score, 15 out of 24. So he gets a 4 for strength attacks, a 4 for number of attacks, 3 for special rules, 1 for maneuverability, 2 for survivability, and 1 for
I'm
cost.
so disappointed. He's almost shot for shot the same scores as the Gorger. He just gets 1 less for maneuverability.
One less maneuverability and 1 more for strength.
Yeah. Oh, it's so upsetting.
The third time he's turned up, and it's the first time he's not a Chaos Giant.
Yeah, I have said here, if you've seen our Beastman Deep Dive,
Or
Warhammer Deep Dive as well.
you'll know what we think about the Giant already. This one's no different. He's randomly 25 points cheaper than the Beastman Giant. He's still overcosted, but he's just 25 points cheaper.
It's just 25 points less overcosted than the Beastman Giant.
Yeah, they can be a lot of fun. They really can. But, I mean, I had one put my Bretonian Lord in his pocket.
In a bag.
In his bag.
Yeah.
Did he,
and then did the same to the BSB in the following turn.
Oh, did he do the same, or did he just chuck the BSB across the battlefield?
Oh, he might have thrown the BSB, yeah. He threw one, he put one in his pocket. He had enough.
It's terrifying that pick up and all the results are just death.
Yes,
They're all dead.
Scary.
But they're inventive deaths.
Yeah.
Stuff down your pants.
They're fun, they're just not the most competitive option. And by most, I mean they're probably the least competitive option.
Yeah,
I know Stonehorns are out there.
they're out.
I think Stonehorns are better than that.
Their output is good. Just to recap,
Yeah.
because people might not have seen it. Their output is good, and the fact that their weapon skill 3 is really massively offset in general by the special attack.
The fact they don't actually roll to hit.
They do sort of randomly do different things. They don't usually roll to hit very often.
No.
But they're still a monster. Still have a Thunderstomp, strength 6, but toughness 5, no save. That's a huge problem. They're under threat from basic magic missiles, any artillery in the game.
Most shooting. Basically any shooting.
Well, any shooting any strength 4 shooting is terrifying.
Particularly, yeah.
That's terrifying to them.
Even bows. Really, if you've got enough of them. You've got enough of them. You've got no save.
Poison, they're terrified of poison.
Yeah.
The list of things that these guys struggle with goes on and on and on.
Yeah, it really does.
And you need... There's 4 manis.
Yeah.
You know, but,
and we said they're a lot.
We said they're overcosted. So,
and
you know,
I'd definitely take 4 man-eaters over a giant.
and I think that probably covers that.
Yeah. On to the first ogre-specific monster unit then, and we are starting with the Stonehorn. Now he comes in with a competitive rating of 16 out of 24, so I told you, better than the giant.
No, by 1.
Still better. He's got 4 for strength of attacks, 4 for number of attacks, 2 for special rules, 1 for maneuverability, 4 for survivability, and 1 for cost. At first glance, these things look terrifying. I've had some success with them in the past, but really it's that big sort of 4 for survivability because they cannot be one shot by a cannon.
No, they're unfettered by it.
They are at least a 2 cannon problem.
At least.
Because I think it's their stone skeleton.
Stone skeleton.
Yeah, so if any attack with multiple wounds wounds them, you half the number of wounds done.
Rounding up.
But they've got 6 wounds, which means you need to, if you roll a 6 on the cannon, you're like, nope, I've still got 3 wounds.
Even then, a 2 cans are really just not going to do it.
It's unlikely.
It really is unlikely 2 cans are going to do
about
it.
1 in 6, isn't it? If they both land, and then you've got the working out the
Got a
statistics.
wound.
Well,
both landing.
You can roll 5s as well. Because it rounds up, so 2.5 will go up to 3.
Yeah, so you have a 1 in
you
3,
need
1 in 3, and 1 in 3. So it's
yeah,
going
it's
to
about
work
1 in
out
6.
about 1 in 6. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very unlikely that 2 cannons actually kill them. They've got a lot of attacks, a serious amount of attacks. They've got 6 basic.
5 basic.
5 basic. They're frenzied, which gives them the 6. They have a thunderstomp because they're a monster, obviously. They also have impact hits.
In a weird way.
Yes, so they do 3d3 impact hits on the turn they charge. However, they swap their attacks for their impact hits.
If a Stonehorn makes a successful charge, it inflicts 3d3.
Yes.
Um,
If they roll a bit like Ogre Charge, if they roll a 10 or more on their charge, you do 3d3 plus 3.
Yeah, it adds 1 to each dice that you roll.
That is terrifying when they do that.
It is, yes. A lot.
But as Scott said, you are swapping out a guaranteed 6 attacks for 3d3 attacks.
Yeah, which you should on average get 6
No,
for.
you're swapping 3d3
Hits.
automatic hits.
Yeah,
Which
that
is
big.
I think, a lot better.
You still get the guy on top attacking, who's, an ogre.
He's
got
just,
3 strength 4 attacks.
he's just a bloke.
I mean, what's the weapon skill of the monster?
3.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. 6 attacks, you'd be lucky it hit 3 times.
Yeah.
The worst ways round on that charge, you're
You're
going
gonna
to
hit
do
3
3
times.
hits.
Yeah.
But you have
Plus
to,
you've got thunderstomp.
you have to charge though. You have to be charged.
It's also
Yes, you do,
also a shame it's not in addition to, like most impact hits are. That's the sort of big
It
one.
does
for
do a
me.
fantastic amount of them though. If it was in addition to it, it'd be an absolute
Yeah, it would be a lot.
powerhouse
It would
of
be
a
too many.
monster.
Too many.
Yeah, you also do still get your thunderstorm. So you get
You
a
do.
lot of automatic hits on the
You
charge.
do. Yeah, you do. They are only leadership 7 though, and they
Yeah.
are frenzied, so they can get pulled around quite a lot.
Yes.
Which is a big sort of downside for them. They obviously don't fly, so they can't sort of get around any enemy chaff or anything like that. If they do get chaffed up, they're going to be running all over the place.
They won't panic,
No,
which is good.
No.
But they are on an absolutely massive base.
they are on a 100 by 150 mil base, so that's sort of
Terrorblast
Terrorblast
base,
base. Yeah, they are big, quite cool models though.
And
Weak.
that does make them quite easy to control positionally by your
Yeah.
enemy as well, which is a huge problem for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice natural 4-up armor save as well. Natural armor. So if you got
Natural
Laura,
armor.
Laura Metal in there,
If you somehow get Law of Metal, which is ogres can't take,
you
but
can.
you know,
Wizard that.
This guy gets it, wizarding at.
Get your top armor save on your stone arms, baby.
you make me
Could you,
sick.
could you imagine how good that would be?
Yeah, I also want to point out the picture of the Stonehorn is fantastic.
It's very cool,
Just
isn't
his Bretonnian going, "Wah!"
Yeah, horribles. No way.
Getting absolutely devastated.
Yeah, I think that's enough for the Stonehorn. I think there's anything
Yeah, I
else
mean,
that we-
Beast Rider, I don't think...
I think it means they don't suffer the -1 to hit when they shoot. The guy on
Yeah.
top shoots his harpoon.
But they
reaver.
can't march, they can only move, I believe.
I think you're thinking of the Thunder Tusk with its Smooth Rider.
Yeah,
So
it's its
Beast,
sphere. I don't know,
Beast-
that was its sphere. Its stone thrower thing.
quickly
the
going
Tusk
over, I
was
think basically the guy on top used the movement, toughness and wounds of the monster itself.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
basically what Beast
So
Rider
it's,
is.
it's just a howler.
So it's basically
Yeah.
Howler. It's
Yeah.
what model? Oh, Stegodon.
Stegodons have howlers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like basically the exact same rules as a Howler from a Stegodon.
Speaking of the Thunder Tusk, that is what we're going to move on to next, and that also comes in with a competitive rating of 16 out of 24. So we get there with a 4 for strength attacks, a 4 for number of attacks, 3 for special rules, 1 for maneuverability again, 3 for survivability, and 1 for cost. Another, okay score. A decent amount of attacks. It's helped by the fact it's got 2 riders, which each contribute 3 instead of 1 rider. It comes with a cheeky stone thrower type attack, which it can fire even if it moves, although it can't march and shoot it.
Yeah, not much.
It does move 7, I think, though.
6.
Oh, it's only 6?
Yeah,
I thought it was
it's
7.
only 6.
Okay, it's only 6. But, enough for it to keep up with your
The
your normal
Stonehorn
troops.
was movement 7.
Ah, that's the one that was moving 7. Okay, fine. It's the stone thrower itself is only strength 6 under the hull, but it is multiple wounds D3. It's not D6, but, it's
It
not...
doesn't specify it's under the hull though, it just has multiple wounds D3.
Yeah, because it's a stone thrower, the main
Yeah.
stone thrower rules cover you to explain that. Is so the multiple wounds is only.
Is that covered on the actual main
Sit
stone
in the
thrower?
main rule book.
Oh, okay.
The big reason to take this note is none of the things I've already mentioned. They're alright, but it's not the reason you take it. The big reason you take it is its numbing chill special rule, which we'll get into more when we get into the support section. For now, though, essentially, it just makes all of your units within 6 more likely, essentially all of your units within 6 more likely to go first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not going to specify until later on.
We'll get into that in the flanking
Okay.
roll, because that's, to be honest, that's how I would take a Thunder Tusk. I'd
Is
take
it
it more in that
support?
flank, in that support rather,
Yeah, I can see
rather
that.
than
Rather than
a
the
flanking.
flanking.
Yes.
I think it's a bit of a both, and again a bit like the goose.
Yeah, I think you throw it into
Could-
stuff that you know it can
Because
sort of come
the
straight out
range
the
of
other
its
side.
special ability that we're not talking about heavily at the moment.
Yeah, just
you,
hinting at.
you would probably
It's going to be close to
you'd
getting
probably
it anyway,
be well
so-
you'd probably be wise to just commit.
Yeah.
Just commit to the raw combat of it.
Yeah, it's not super easy skill. It's got 5 up armor. It's toughness 6.
6 wounds.
It's not bad.
Yeah,
It's not bad.
again, it just suffers with the base size. It's a big base.
Yeah, again, it's on that Terraglass
and it's
size base.
expensive. How many are they, Max?
250
250
points. Both monsters are the
It's
same.
just so hard to I mean, they're good, but it's just so hard to justify that.
They're a
points
lot of
cost.
points. Yeah, they are a lot of
I mean,
points.
they do
Really
get the smooth ride. So Thunder Tusk Riders ignore the hit modifier for moving and shooting.
Yeah,
So
but they've got like a
they come with a chain trap and harpoon launcher.
harpoon launcher, yeah, which, I mean, it's okay.
The chain trap is just the coolest thing ever.
It's like 12-inch range, strength 6 killing blow, I think.
It's
Yeah,
a
terrifying.
bear trap on a train, mate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's literally a bear trap on a chain.
It's. I like to think though that it pulls the Thunder Tusk along. A bit like Super Mario.
A chain, a chain chomp, yeah. Oh,
Other Nintendo franchises are available, but
Moving on then, that is it for the Ogre's flanking units, and we're going to move on to ranged units. So there are a few in this book which have ranged attacks, but I'm not going to class them as a ranged unit, like the Thunder Tusk.
A la Thunder Tusk.
And Nobblers, which have throwing weapons. But let's be fair, they're not a ranged.
They're going to have a very poor score if you
They
range attack them.
really are. But the section in this section, we're just going to look at lead belchers, man eaters again, because they can take, as we said, those brace of ogre pistols.
They're
everywhere,
everywhere,
basically everywhere. The Nobbler scrap launcher and iron blasters. So lead belchers are up first. They come in with a competitive rating of 13 out of 24. So
13 in this book.
lowest so far in the book. I will say so far because we've got
Joint lowest.
yeah, joint lowest.
With the ogre balls.
Yeah, because we've got Nobblers to come. So.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hold on to your horses.
Yeah. So we get there with a score of 2 for threat range, 2 for strength of shot, 2 for accuracy, 4 for versatility, 1 for survivability, and 2 for cost. So I think you can run these in 2 ways. I think small units of 3 or 4 can work, or probably one larger unit of like 8.
No, 2 or 4 to 8.
Yeah. I think that's probably the best way to run them. I think 2 units of 3 or 4 is better, because while you can still shoot at the same thing, if you're only shooting 10 Glade Guard and the first unit rolls 18 shots and wipes them out, you've got that second unit of 3 or 4 to then shoot something else, like a second unit of 10 Glade Guard. Whereas if you're in that unit of 8, you're really going to devastate that single unit.
I think from a tactical point of view, actually, we talk about this a lot, but I don't know if we've talked about it much on videos yet, is that if you've got a range threat and you can spread it, so say you're thinking about 8 lead belchers, say we stretched to a 9th one and did 3 units of 3. Now they can all then shoot different targets, as you just said. That doesn't stop them all going, you know what, I really want to kill that one thing. Bang, bang, bang. Everyone goes in on the one. It doesn't prevent you doing the exact same job you would have done with the 1 unit.
Yeah.
But the 1 unit does prevent you doing the job you could do with 3 units. So in general, if you can, you're actually better to split your range units down. Although there are certain circumstances where it's better to go the other way. For certain buff spells, Laura Metal being a good example, or High Magic might be a...
Neither of which ogres have access to,
but it's a
in
side
general,
point,
yeah.
That you might look at certain spells and say, well, actually, because I can
Because I
improve their
want
hit
this,
ratio or whatever, I want that. But in general, you're probably better just to split them up.
Which is why you see lots of units of 10 Glade Guard in Wood Elf Armies, and not like a big unit of sort of 20 or 30.
It's always fun to roll 8d6 shots, isn't it?
Oh, it's a lot of fun, I can assure you. So that is, for those of you who don't know, that is how they shoot. They don't fire 1 shot each, they each fire d6, strength 4 shots, armour piercing, with a 24-inch range. They also ignore a couple of modifiers. They ignore moving and shooting, and they ignore multi-shotting.
Yeah.
So they're ballistics of 3, which is not amazing, but you can always move and shoot them, and you're still hitting on 4s, and you're always going to multi-shot. So again, not a problem there.
I'm interested. Could they just choose to shoot 1 shot then?
Yeah.
I guess so.
I don't know why you ever would. You ignore the penalty for multi-shotting.
I was curious. I'd never thought they could just choose to shoot 1 shot.
They could, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Choose to shoot their shot, if you will.
Just yeet the actual cannon itself. Ah!
They are armour piercing, but they are slow to fire, so you're not going to get any standard shoot.
They are that magical strength 4 arm piercing.
They are, which is very good, especially if you fight Bretonians.
Yeah, Bane of Bretonia, as I like to call it.
Terrifying.
A giant doesn't like them either.
No, he does not.
To be honest, a lot of monsters don't like this. A lot of monsters are toughness 5, and they just don't
With
like
a 4 or 5 up save. Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of these.
I mean, to be fair, there's almost nothing in Warhammer that isn't concerned.
No,
in fighting
that's it.
8 or 9 of these.
I'm a huge fan of them. I really like 3 units to 3 if I can do it.
Yeah.
I'll settle for 2 units of 4 if I have to.
Yeah.
I'll settle for 1 unit of 8.
1 unit of 8 is also good. I just think that, as we discussed, it's almost a bit overkill, which is something that you said earlier.
I think the only reason you do that is for comp reasons.
Yeah,
for going
Highlander.
Absolutely. That's the only reason I'd ever do it.
Yeah, I agree.
And if the enemy does get close and you think, actually, I want to just throw these guys in, they're still an ogre. There's still 3 attacks at strength 4. They're not bad with a stomp and ogre charge.
Yeah. Those small
They're not
regiments
bad.
are also not too many points to have lost.
Yeah,
it helps to offset that poorer leadership of the ogres as well.
130 points ish.
Yeah, I
I think they're the same as 9.
43 points more.
Yeah, so 120 points for a unit of 3.
Solid. They also come with my favourite ever quote from Warhammer Army book. Boom, ha ha ha.
Bellow is excellent as well, guys, actually. Invest in bellowers.
Yeah, which are just ogre musicians.
Yeah, three with a bellower.
Yeah.
That's the way
I think you find you can have musicians or bellowers. They're an option in the book.
They're literally exactly the same. I don't know why that says musician or bellower. They're exactly the same. They can take a unit champion. I wouldn't. He just gets an extra attack. Doesn't even get extra ballistic skill. Just gets extra attack.
That's 10 points you could spend on better things.
Yeah.
10 points doesn't go a long way in an ogre book.
That's a third of an ogre, baby.
Yeah, cost those 3 units.
Cost those 3 units. That's a whole extra ogre.
So
With no equipment.
I can get an ogre's boots for 10 points. Yeah.
You get him up to about
To the knee.
About halfway up the thigh, maybe.
Okay. Not even gut. We're not even.
No, I think you're right.
Yet.
The gut is quite large, so maybe you get from the head to the sort of the gut, top of the gut, and then maybe you get from the feet to the
bottom of the sternum,
to the waist, and then you've just got the gut is the third.
Yeah.
to the window, to the wall.
They can't take a flag at all.
They can't take
a
Which
standard bearer.
to be honest, is great because that's just a
You
trap
probably
you're
won't.
going to fall
Yeah,
into
you
if
probably
you
won't
take
take it
one.
I
anyway.
don't want to take a flag. Gives you an extra point of fortune.
Chap just fall flaming banner.
Exactly. That's probably
That would
why.
be very good.
That's probably
That
why.
would be very good
If
on
they
the
could
next.
take a magic flag.
That would be very good on the next unit.
It would. And the next unit for shooting is, once again, the third time today, I think it's their last time though, is man-eaters.
I'll be very surprised if they turn up to support as well.
I'm going to be completely honest with you because I know he's a fan. Tim, they make you work hard, make you sweat hard. I've never seen him not hear man-eaters said when he says that. It doesn't say that.
They work hard, they play hard.
So they actually get by far their worst score in the shooting roll, and I'm not surprised, to be fair, but they score a 13 out of 24. So we get there with a 2 for threat range, a 2 for strength of shot, 3 for accuracy, 4 for versatility, 1 for survivability, and 1 for cost. Now, this is assuming you've gone with a brace of ogre pistols, not a single ogre pistol. I don't know why you bother with a single ogre pistol.
5 points cheaper.
You're paying 5 points for an additional hammer weapon and another shot.
You've invested the 50 points initially in the man. I think you probably stretched
probably
it
spare those extra 5. Yeah. They're marginally more accurate than the lead belcher, and you know the lead belchers do ignore moving and multi-shotting. So actually, when you come to shoot them, lead belchers work out most of the time to be more accurate.
Better.
Yeah, even though the man-eaters start at ballistic skill 4.
Do the brace of ogre pistols not have quick to fire?
Let's have a look.
I think they do.
In which case they'll end up being the same because
They will.
they're starter
do.
BS4, so they don't suffer the movement shoot penalty from the quick to fire, and they can always stand and shoot, which is quite nice.
It is nice. Also, if you go, you've still got the special rules, so you probably go poison if you go shooting. I think that's your first one as opposed to stubborn. I think that is your one
That's
go-to.
your go-to.
If you then go scout, or potentially vanguard, but probably scout, it means you're going to be short range the first time you shoot, and probably every time you shoot. So, you know, you're not going to be suffering that long range that the lead belchers likely are. So you do,
Evens
for the
out,
first
doesn't
few
it?
times, you're probably going to be a bit more accurate, and then potentially you're going to get, sort of come back to be on a level with the lead belchers. I quite like them in this role. I still think they're better in just a combat role, but this doesn't stop them. Doesn't stop you throwing them in as a combat.
Do you know what? I'm going to pick up on the wisdom of the Duke, the man who's played ogres more than any of us on the channel and really knows the army. And it's something you said right in the battle line section about man-eaters, which is you said they're really hard to place. They're really hard to kind of work out what these guys do. And I actually think, for me, and actually some of this is just coming from us having this really in-depth discussion about man-eaters that we've had across the sections.
3 times.
We talked about them in flanking. And I'd actually take them in that flanking role with the pistols.
Yeah.
I'd be like scout, poison,
Yeah.
pistols, and then maybe vanguard and swift stride, pistols. Run them up in the early doors. Bam, 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 and then just treat them. We said we'd go 2 hand weapons anyway
That's
on
what
them
I've
in that
been
role,
thinking, yeah.
so they can shoot. Then they get to stand and shoot if they get caught out, or they get a push on the flanks of the enemy and just beat them down with the butts of the
20
guns.
attacks.
Yeah.
The way
in combat.
The way I'm thinking about it while we have been talking is the unit Scott's on about. So the back rank of great weapons, and then have the unit up front with the brace of ogre pistols, with poison and stubborn, and have that as your main brick line unit.
See, I don't think I'd do that because I can't march and shoot the pistols.
No. You quick to fire.
It means I can move and shoot
Yeah.
without penalty.
Without
It doesn't let me march and
Skirmishes,
shoot.
so
I mean, you still move it. You still move 6 inches though. It's only 12. It's 20,
Yeah, it
24.
means you're not keeping up with your
Not keeping up with your iron guts, though.
because
Yeah.
they are just
They're
marching
good
12
at
inches.
If you're using flanking units, you're going to be pulling the flank anyway.
Oh yeah, but that's if you're using the battle line brick or the flank, isn't it? Again.
I that's how I personally probably run my man eaters.
Mm.
Is stubborn poison, brace ogres at the front with great weapons at the back.
Bold.
I think that could work if you swap Stubborn for Scout. I think that could work because then you've got a huge unit that just goes in the flag and goes, here's a million attacks.
Yeah, strong, and it will kill anything.
Yeah.
So again, we're back to the sheer flexibility of these guys. But
Yeah.
I would almost
play styles we all have.
Yeah.
I'd almost think for myself, looking at this now, weirdly, this 13 out of 24 for them as a shooting unit, I'd almost disregard that. I don't think you should. I don't almost think that they're worth thinking about with the
Solely
standard
as a shooting
criteria, if
unit.
you like. I think they're much better to think about as a flanking unit and saying, well, actually, these guys pump up a bit more by having the shots too. But that's
absolutely.
just my
because
thoughts
their
from
stat
what
line
you
is phenomenal. It's really, really good. And if you just take them in that shooting role, like we've sort of scored them here, you're ignoring all of that. You're ignoring all of their attacks, all of their strength. And you really, to get the most out of them, and you need to get the most out of them for 50 odd points. Probably 60 points by the time you've given them everything. You really do need to get the most out of them.
I do think they can easily find a way in the list.
Bit of a skill cap unit, I think.
Yeah.
And the
agree.
opportunity cost is Mornfang Iron Blasters, which we're going to discuss more.
Iron Blast not
shortly.
so much because they're in different slots.
It's the points though. It's
Yeah,
just the raw
you spend
points.
so many points on your characters and your core.
Yeah, because your characters are so wild.
That's it, I see.
So, but I think interestingly, just as a touch point back to something we discussed recently on another video as well, is because of the survivability and cost of these guys, we talked about how flexible they are and how good they are in terms of lots of different roles, but they're not broken.
No.
They're not a broken regiment. They're not something that really creates an unfair or unbalanced game environment.
No.
They're
Because
actually just really versatile.
because they're expensive. And
Really expensive.
you know, that's it. They're really expensive. So you're paying through the nose for that privilege, if you like.
Yeah.
And so they make for an interesting competitive game without necessarily being something that you'd want to annihilate on a composition score if you were writing your own system, or you'll notice on ours we don't.
Yeah.
For that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've more than covered man-eaters there.
We've spoken either 3 times about
Yeah,
man-eaters
we
as well.
have. So we're going to move on to what would normally be the first of the war machines, but are in the Ogre book, in fact, chariots, as you do. And that is the Nobbler Scrap Launcher. Now this comes in with a competitive rating of 13 out of 24.
Not big.
Not big, no. So we get there with a score of 4 for threat range, 1 for strength of shot, 2 for accuracy, 1 for versatility, 3 for survivability, and 2 for cost. I want to point out all of the ranged unit for ogres we've had have been 13 so far.
Okay.
Just had a little star on my little cheat sheet there. So they're all very much in sort of line with each other. I don't think there's too much to say about the Scrap Launcher. It's a stone thrower, but it's on a chariot. It's strength 3 under the hull blast. You don't get extra strength under the hull.
That is what kills its versatility, because it's
Yeah.
really only good at hitting
and
small
it
units.
doesn't have multiple wounds at all.
No, so it doesn't do the monster thing.
It does have killing blow though.
Which again means you could have possibly given it a second point for versatility, because you could probably chuck it at knights
Yeah.
at that point, so it could just try to get through with the killing blow. But
Yeah.
I think really, like you say, blocks and mass infantry is the way with this one.
Yeah. Big infantry, not a lot of armour. Basically elves. Elves or Empire. Yeah.
Don't like it much.
I used to think this was a large blast.
No.
I always thought it was a large blast.
How many pieces of scrap are they throwing?
It's
A lot
a
of
giant
forks.
spatula, mate. It's just
A
chucking
lot
it's
of forks.
flinging a fork.
Yeah.
Maybe it used to be a large blast? I used to remember.
I've got a feeling it might have been at one point now you say it. But
Yeah, I always remember being a large blast. But
put in the comments, guys, if it was once
Yeah.
a large blast and we can't remember, put it in the comments.
Before we move on, because I don't think there's much else to say, I just want to say my greatest ever achievement with one of these, which I always bring up whenever anyone mentions a Nobbler Scrap Launcher. I clean blowed Thankwell. Hilarious. Foulers Lookout, sir, that's a 6, dead Thankwell. Bone Ripper stood there, done nothing. Dead Thankwell. See you later, good night.
Fork in the eye.
Get forked. I've got it literally here. Get forked.
Get forked.
Cutlery to the face, baby.
It wasn't a fork, it was a spoon, mate.
Might have been, spork.
Spork.
Get sporked.
Yeah, let's spork.
Sporked, yeah, it was a spork.
There are sporks.
That
in Warhammer.
spork also went on to star in a major Disney franchise.
So we're moving on to the final dedicated ranged unit for the ogres. That is the Iron Blaster.
Oh, God.
And this, come on, Matt. This comes in with a very, very high for a cannon competitive rating of 20 out of 24.
Oh.
So high, I've picked him up.
Yeah.
He's been hidden by the steam tank parts though.
Yes, he is hidden by my steam tank parts.
He's in there.
You can see the Rhinox in there.
He's in there.
We get there with a score of
Hard to
3
see.
for threat range, 4 for strength of shot, 3 for accuracy, 3 for versatility, 4 for survivability, and 3 for cost. These are possibly one of the best cannons in fantasy.
Oh, yeah, they really are. In a raw, dedicated cannon job, they are top
It's
tier.
all the upsides of a cannon, namely it being a cannon, without the downsides of it not being able to move, because it's on a chariot.
Yeah, so you do have to be careful with this because you can't pivot it in a shooting phase.
Yeah, so
because
you
it's
have
not
to
an artillery piece.
Do all your
it's a
pivoting in the
chariot.
movement phase.
So you've got to get your angles right before you finish its movement.
Yes.
But I mean, that's such a small drawback.
Yeah, and it's a chariot, so it can just pivot exactly where it wants to. After it's moved, before it's moving, it's moved, all of the above.
Not easily dealt with by enemy chaff.
No,
thanks
because
to the attacks
exactly, yeah. If you do get it in combat, it's 3 strength 5 attacks from the Rhinox, 3 strength 4 attacks from the Ogre, and a cheeky one from the Nobbler.
Yeah.
The only issue is you only get the Rhinox in the front because it's a chariot. Chariots only get the things pulling the chariot in the front arc.
Do they?
Do they? I thought they got it in the flank as well.
Ooh, they only get in the front.
Max uses more chariots.
I do use a lot of chariots, so yeah.
We'll go with
Are
that.
you honestly telling me that if I've got a sky cutter, this massive bird on the front can't peck to the side?
Yep, that is what I'm telling you.
Okay.
Right,
I don't believe you, but
I'm going to check that in a minute.
yeah, we're going to check that. But yeah, it's got to be top 2 cannons in the game for me.
I think it beats out. I think it beats out the Skull Cannon.
So
Yeah.
I think
I think that is the other one. I think the Skull Cannon's the other.
So I think that it's interesting. I don't think it beats out the Skull Cannon because the Skull Cannon is just stupidly cheap.
It's cheap.
It's 15 points more than an Empire Great Cannon, and we'll discuss this in another video. It's redonkulous for its points.
Yeah.
Redonkulous for its
Yeah,
points.
it's 170
This, I think, is probably this is what 175.
170.
170. So I am paying something for it being on the chariot. I still personally think it's a little bit too cheap.
Yeah, we've got it as 3 for cost.
Yeah, I'd possibly go further than you because
I don't think it's
but-
undercosted.
But I do think that cannons are quite expensive in general,
Mm.
and so you can argue, well, it should be that. But it rolls 2 dice for the bounce distance,
does.
which means that it
And you pick whichever one you want.
which means it basically always bounces,
Yeah,
which
pretty
is
much.
horrible.
I've had it not bounce though a lot of times.
It gives you additional control over the quality of the cannon's sort of final positioning as
It
well.
does. It's also got a strength 10 grape shot.
Yeah, let's say it's a grape shot. It's then.
Hilarious. I mean, you basically never grape shot a cannon.
Yeah, I mean the guy shooting it still sucks at
He's
shooting.
BS3, yeah. So he very rarely hits. But I mean, if you haven't seen it yet, Max used it used it against the Lance of Knights Errant in our first. No, it wasn't. It wasn't a narrative report, was it? It was a
No, it was a competitive.
report.
War Council, head to the War
It was a
Council.
War Council report. It did not end how you would expect.
No.
No spoilers. But
No.
it did not end how you would
No.
expect. But yeah, it's a nice Brucey bonus, that strength 10 grape shot. Like James said, the guy firing it can barely hit a barn door, but
I'd just like the fact that in the late game, when everything's engaged in combat and I can't shoot my cannon anymore,
I just charge in on a
I've
chariot.
just got a strength 5. What is it? Toughness 6.
Toughness 6, 5.
Strength 5, toughness 6.
4 up armor
up
save chariot.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh mate.
Impact hits as well. You get
Impact
D6.
hits.
You are a chariot. So
Yeah.
you know.
Strength
Yeah.
D6, strength 5, 3 attacks from the Rhinox at strength 5. It's good.
Beast.
I like it. Yeah, I really like it. Moving on now though from the ranged units, we're gonna go into chaff. Now the ogres don't really have too many options when it comes to chaff.
Our Manny is in this lot.
They're not in this slot, no. They are too expensive for this slot, no. So yeah, they've only really got 2 options, and that is Nobblers and Saber Tusks.
These are another one of those armies though that do use a lot of other things, aren't they? As chaff?
Yeah, I think a lot of
But-
people use like a unit of 3 balls.
Yeah,
as
I've
chaff.
seen Yetis done that way
Yeah,
as well in sort of
potentially.
little sticks and things.
I've
but
seen,
I think
I've seen Manny's
Yeah.
used as chaff.
you're a liar. But I think you're right. They're the 2.
These are the 2
dedicated
sort
ones.
of dedicated ones.
Yeah.
You could argue Nobblers are battle line, but there's nothing that they ever want to go into. I mean, they can take full command. I didn't realise they could take a banner. But they can take full command.
I'll tell you what they want to go into. They want to go into Tomb Kings.
Potentially.
They want to go and kill Tomb Kings. Not the army. The actual
The
Tomb
actual Team King.
The actual
Yeah,
king.
but by extension, that means they're good at killing Edgar and Van Horseman as well.
Yeah.
The hierarchy of kills.
Maybe they are. Maybe they are. I've not tried it before.
But we are going to start with them first, and they come in with the lowest score in the book, a competitive rating of 10 out of 24. It's not bad for an ogre army.
shocked it's that high.
Nothing is in single figures. for
I
an
thought
ogre
it would be like an 8 or a 7.
How are they rated better than the High Elf Spearmen? I'll say it.
Yeah.
I will tell you how, James. I will tell you.
I know how. I've just realised where they're getting 4 points from.
So they get a score of 1 for manoeuvrability, 1 for number of attacks, 1 for special rules, 4 for slots,
Yeah, there you
because
go.
they are core, 0 for survivability, and 3 for cost, because they are very cheap,
Yeah.
And you can give them an upgrade that actually makes them potentially quite scary.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how they get their 10 out of 24. As sort of we've said, they are saved by the fact that they're core and they are so cheap.
2.5 points.
2.5. One of the few things that are still half points.
2 slaves.
Slaves
Slaves
are
are
the
the
only
only other thing.
That 2.5 points model means you can get a minimum unit for just 25 points.
Oh, what's the minimum unit? 20?
10.
Oh, is it 10?
10,
Ah.
yeah. 25 points. Now, they are slower than ogres, only being movement 4. So, if you want to use them as sort of traditional chaff to sort of sacrifice for that battlefield advantage, you're going to have to not march your ogres.
It gets to really work to actually make them.
Yeah, you are. Which is a shame. You don't really want to keep your ogres back too much. But you know, there's other options for them as well. You can keep them sort of trying to protect a flank for your Iron Guts, because Iron Guts don't really care where they go. They just don't want to get sort of overwhelmed on all of their sides
all
at once.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't really mind, because you're probably going to be stubborn. Spoilers, a lot of the lists have got stubborn crown in later. You're probably going to be stubborn, so you don't really care if you get charged in the flank. You just don't want to get charged in the front and both flanks at the same time. Yeah. And the Nobblers are good for that. They're good for sort of stopping that unit coming in and helping the other unit that's gone into your Iron Guts. And that upgrade that I was talking about that you can really exploit their cost for is Trappers. So this is 25 points, so it will double the cost of that unit, that minimum size unit. But potentially they can do a lot of damage. So it essentially means any unit that charges them has to take Danger Strain test. Is it any model that touches them, or is it any
every
unit
model in an enemy unit that successfully charges the Nobbler's front?
Yeah. So you've got to be charged in the front.
But
it's every model in the
successful charge as well. Which is a bit
Yeah,
upsetting.
they have to actually get there.
Yeah, the successful. Because I imagine you're not going to lob out a bear trap 10
Why
feet
not?
away, are they?
Why not?
Chain
Because
traps.
they're a Nobbler.
Chain traps.
I'd be surprised if they can even pick it up.
One of each of the Nobblers gets the arms of a Nobbler. They strap the chain. Hear me out. They strap the bear trap to him.
Hear me out.
You've got an arm. I've got an arm. Scott's got a leg. There's another Nobbler that we've added to the group who's got the other leg. We swing him. We give him a big old lob, and he just sort of hits the enemy unit champion square up. That's the end of that.
Bear traps in the face.
Terrifying.
It's over elaborate.
Their biggest downside though is that they're hard to actually get where you need them.
Yeah, they're just
They're
slow,
so
aren't
slow.
they?
They don't
In an
cause-
army that's sort of moving very quick.
Yeah, the good thing is though they don't cause panic in ogre units when they
No.
sort of
Yes.
die or run away. That is very good.
Well, no, it's not in ogres. Units of Nobblers do not cause panic tests when they are destroyed, break through, or flee for a friendly unit.
So they won't cause panic in anything, even in other Nobblers.
Other Nobblers.
Other Nobblers, yeah.
They
Or
literally
Sabertusk,
look at them
right?
and don't care.
Yeah.
Or the
Sabertusk is a big
Sabertusk one's a big one,
Yeah,
yeah.
because Sabertusk are not good.
But ogres wouldn't be caught dead leading them, so ogre characters cannot join Nobblers.
Yeah, you'd never put an ogre character in.
It'd be
Nobblers
funny, though,
anyway.
wouldn't it?
No.
I 5 wide, ogre guy and a
Yeah.
couple of ogre characters in the front, massive rank bonus.
Yeah.
I could do that all day
6
long.
wide and 3 ogre characters in the front.
Yeah. Here's 3 tyrants.
Oh, here's my
It's my
strength 10
8,000
impact
point
hits.
game.
It's my strength 10 impact hits because I've got the rank bonus of the Nobblers.
That's why you can't do it.
You can't do that. That'd be great though.
So yeah, maybe you do put the characters in the Nobblers if you
No,
could.
you can't do that. So I think that's, unless everyone's got anything else to add to Nobblers.
They're really bad.
Please let us move on.
Yeah, okay. We will move on to the Sabertusk pack, affectionately known by me as the Doggos.
They're not dogs.
They're dogs.
It's not dog.
Coming
They're
in,
not dogs.
they're dogs. Coming in with a competitive rating of just 12 out of 24.
Okay.
I'm really shocked it's
Yeah,
that
that's
low.
quite low.
So we get there with a score of 3 for manoeuvrability, 3 for number of attacks, 0 for special rules, 2 for slot, 1 for survivability, and 3 for cost. Now these can be taken in units of 1 for a really cheap sort of redirector, 21 points, so even cheaper than your minimum unit of Nobblers. Or you can take them in slightly large units for sort of getting rid of enemy chaff, hunting war machines, things like that. So I think they can do both roles. I think you probably take them in different sizes to do those roles.
Yeah, I agree. I think
I think large units can do that sort of chaff, like the redirecting type role. I just think you might as well not spend the extra points on the extra dogs. I'm calling them dogs, and just take them in a unit of 1.
Yeah, I think the ones are really powerful, and I think that they're really. It's unfortunate they get a 2 for slot because obviously the Nobblers are a chaff slot.
Yeah.
Chaff unit in the best
core.
sort of slot. Now, if you don't think of Nobblers as chaff, which
Yeah.
I think you kind of have to, but if you don't, if you say, well, because they're a bit slow, I don't really do the chaff roll I want.
Yeah.
And suddenly these guys are actually a 14 because they're the
Yeah.
best chaff available in the book, and I would argue they are the best chaff available in the book.
Yes.
That's really
Yeah,
good.
which
That's really good
plays
chatting.
out because they are a couple of points better than a Nobler.
Yeah.
They're just not in the best slot.
Yeah.
Which is their thing.
Yeah.
Now they get a
chaff in
0.
general.
They are very good chaff. They get a 0 for special rules. Now they do have fear, which would give them a 1. However, they can't use the general's leadership or the BSB's the BSB's hold your ground. Inspiring presence. So and they're only leadership 5.
It's massive.
4.
4.
Leadership
They're
4.
only leadership 4. I think Nobblers might be 5. Someone's 5. But it's
It is
so
Nobbler.
big. It's like so huge that not being able to use their leadership and being that low as well, which I think is why they are so much better in a unit of 1 because they can't panic from their own casualties because if they do, well, the unit's dead. So it doesn't matter.
Yep. I agree.
Keep them 6 and a bit inches away from every other unit.
Everything.
Literally everything. And you should be okay.
And they will deck most War Machine crews in combat as well. So
Even 1. Yeah.
they've got 3
Weapon
three
skill
strength
4.
strength 4 attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually still 4. Higher than
Yeah.
actual Ogre.
They're really good.
They're
really good at killing other people.
fight a saber-toothed cat and
Yeah.
tell me
Obviously,
that
it's saber tooth dog, so obviously I
it
can
is.
fight it.
It is.
It's a cat.
It's a
cat.
Doggo.
cat.
I also seen if it survives, you can also kill off like wizards.
Oh, yeah, easily.
Yeah.
Like if he won't survive it.
If you go into a unit with great weapons,
Yeah.
Or chip on the flank.
yeah. So he's only got a couple of attacks going. He's got 2 wounds as well.
I think I read a story or watched a video one time where someone put a single saber tusk into an elf unit and had Teckles. It didn't die. So the cat killed Teckless.
Amazing.
I'm not in any way surprised because
No.
he's got like the 0 stats. He would be hitting him on a 3 and winning him on a 2. Yeah.
Overall, though, they are my favourite unit, and I think, as James said, the best unit in an
That's your
overarm
third
to use
favourite
as
unit?
chaff.
Your third
Favourite unit to use as chaff.
Okay.
Chill.
Okay.
I generally don't take units of 1. I might take 1 or
No, you
2,
don't.
but I'll take like a unit of 5. I think is good if you're going for Highlander. It's also a plus in the Triple Crown comp.
It is.
And it is terrifying. That's going to kill basically any chaff that anyone puts in front of it. It's going to kill any war machine. It'll probably even kill an Iron Blaster, to be honest with you, in the flank. It's a lot of attacks.
Yeah, it's a lot of dice. Possibly not that far, but the Iron Blast will struggle to kill them back.
That's the thing. You'll probably beat it on combat res. If that is another thing with their leadership. If they do get beat by like 1, they are out of there.
Yeah, they're off, mate.
You've basically got no hope.
I say a big unit 20 with a hunter.
You can, so the hunters are the only characters that can go with saber tusks. You can't put any other
No
character in there.
characters can't be joined by other than hunters. But if you get a hunter in there, you get Vanguard.
They do get Vanguard.
And then he gains Swift Stride as well.
He does. So he does slow them down in that their movement is reduced.
Yeah, to
but
6. Yeah.
But they
They
don't
all
lose
get
their
Swift
movement special rules.
Yeah, you can buff that though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which we'll get onto later. But yes, they are generally my favourite unit to use as chaff.
I'm about to get you there again.
Moving on from a rather sparse section that was chaff, we're moving on to the final sort of battlefield role before we hit those special characters.
The
And that is
sparsest of sections now.
an even more sparse section that is support units. And they only really have one, and it's one we've already spoken about, and that is the Thunder Tusk. So, in a purely support role, he comes in with a competitive rating of 12 out of 24.
A big drop.
It is, I think it was 16, wasn't
It was
he?
16,
In
yeah.
flanking. So we get there with a 1 for manoeuvrability, a 3 for special rules, a 3 for synergy, a 1 for risk, 3 for survivability, and 1 for cost. Now, I think the fact he scores sort of quite significantly lower, as we've said, in this support role compared to that flanking role, shows you that you really need to do both with him to get the most out of him. You need to get him in combat, and his buff is just a buff on top of that, but really he needs to go in combat to do most of his damage. Now, that buff that we've sort of hinted at before is his numbing chill aura. So that is all enemy models within... Models, not units, it is crucial to say. All enemy models within 6 inches have the Always Strikes Last special rule.
It's crucial to say that it is models.
It is models. So, you know, you might clip the front rank of a unit, or half the front rank even of a unit with that bubble. The rest of the unit and those supporting attacks, they still go at their initiative order.
It's really weird they worded it like that.
Yeah, it is. And frustrating. It'd be so much better if it was just units within 6.
It just makes it makes for a ton of bookkeeping. Whenever I've played against these, I always find myself thinking, "Oh, goodness gracious!"
Why
You know
couldn't
what
you
I
have
mean?
just
We're
said units within 6?
measuring loads of extra stuff out. It just feels like a lot of my time that I'm not getting back. But Which is why also earlier I said I would have him in combat, which is
It's just easier then.
treat him as a flanking unit that gives a nice buff out rather than treating him as a pure buff machine.
Yeah, but I mean, even if you get him in the flank, if it's a particularly wide unit, if it's a horde, you're still going to not get the models on the other side of that unit potentially.
Yeah,
Especially if they're on like 25mm bases.
25mm bases, they would be, what would they be? They'd be 10 inches wide.
Yeah, you know, the whole 4 inches of the 4 models there that are not getting hit by.
Yeah, it's not so cool, is it? But if you can get it kind of,
I do think that's the best role for him though. Is him going in and giving his buff.
if you can get it working, it's great because we've talked about how much how often great weapons are used by ogres. Again, you could go great weapons on your Mornfang cavalry as well, I believe.
You could. It drops their armour, which is why I wouldn't.
We
but
wouldn't,
you absolutely could.
But you could, and again, certainly with your iron guts, and certainly with the man eaters.
Yeah.
He's got some stuff that he does that's good. Just cost.
Yeah, I mean, and even, you know, that always strikes last. You might think, oh, elves, it's not so good. Robs them of their reroll.
Does, yeah.
That's
Huge.
reroll.
The amount of times I've been charged by Wild Riders or, you know, Phoenix Guard
Wild
or
Riders are
something
so
like
scary,
that,
aren't they?
that they roll, and actually their first roll's a bit rubbish. They just roll a bit rubbish, and they roll the reroll, and everything hits. And you're like, great. Just robbing them of that reroll can be huge, even though they're going to have that better weapon skill and they're going to be hitting you on 3s. Doesn't matter. You rob them of that reroll, they're going to hit you a lot less. So even against them, really good. And, you know, it means you might actually go first. With your stuff that's not an Iron Gut or a Man Eater with a great weapon. You might actually go first. Always a plus when you're an almost army-wide initiative of 2.
It's very good synergy as well if you're fighting regenerating units and you can drop things like the Firebelly's breath weapon before your great weapons.
Yep.
That ordinarily they may have just chopped your Firebelly's head off.
Yep.
Before that happened. So it's there's synergy in there. But the question is that opportunity cost of that synergy.
Yeah, and you do really have to, like we said, get him in combat for that buff or super close to it, which is why his risk score is so low.
Yeah, nothing you can do about it.
No, there is not. But that is it for the units in the Ogre Kingdoms book. So we think we've earned, or you've earned yourself a break.
I think I've earned myself a break as well, to be honest.
grab a Coke, other beverages are available as always, and join us back here as we go through the Ogre Kingdoms special characters. So, now that you're back, we can get stuck into the Ogre Kingdoms special characters. Now, there are just 4. I say just 4, that's more than some books. There are 4.
Is it?
Yeah.
Italians.
Oh, yeah, fair play.
3. Thanks, Max.
Sit down!
You're my back. So there are 4. We have 2 lords and 2 heroes. We've got Grecius Goldtooth, we have Scrag the Slaughterer, Golfag Maneater, and Brag the Gutsman. First up, we have the Over-Tyrant of the Mountains of Morn, Grecius Goldtooth. He comes in with a competitive rating of 15 out of 24.
Ooh, it's decent.
He's terrifying if you get him in combat. We get there with a 4 for output, a 3 for special rules, 2 for synergy, 1 for risk, 4 for survivability, and 1 for cost. Couple of things to mention here. He is only movement 4, considering he's held aloft by a carpet of nobblers, which means he slows down every unit he goes with.
It's disgusting that he can't join nobblers. Just him.
That would be funny,
That'd
wouldn't
be
it?
cool. I mean, his base size, you take up, you only get 1 rank of nobblers at the front anyway, his base.
Yeah, it's 80 wide, isn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. He's a fat man.
He is. So, no, he's on a 50mm base. I've got it here.
Oh,
he's on a
okay,
50mm
there you
wide
go.
base, which means he also has to go on the edge of any ogre unit.
Which is really upsetting.
Because they're on 40mm bases. And the other lord is exactly the same. Scrag is on a 50mm wide base as well.
Yeah, what's the size of a Mornfang base?
That's 50
they're-
wide.
Hey, you're trying to
Chariot
join a
base.
Mornfang.
Sure.
He could.
If you get him in combat, though, like I was saying, he's really, really scary. He's got 3 strength 10 multiple wound D3 attacks. So if he goes into like a monster or character like Demon Prince or something, or monstrous cavalry, he's terrifying.
He doesn't be hit by. You don't want to be hit by.
No, he's only initiative 1 though.
What sort of special rules has he got?
Are you on the page, Max? You
I'm
want
on
to
the
read
page.
through the? He's
So-
got a couple, hasn't he?
He's got a couple. So he has the base fear rule. He doesn't have ogre charge.
No.
Very interesting. He doesn't have. He
Doesn't
doesn't
do
have.
the charging, does he?
The novelist charge. He
Well,
just
no,
happens to be there.
Technically, they could just throw him on them.
I mean,
what, really?
I'm
Yeah,
surprised
no.
they're holding him up.
Maybe not.
I am always surprised how they hold him up to it because
They aren't just crushed.
Yeah. Anyway, so special rules are the first one is everyone has their price. Master of bribery, At the start of each enemy turn, before any stupidity tests are taken, you can nominate D3 enemy units within 18 inches to gain stupidity
That's awesome.
for the remainder of the turn.
Yes.
Very cool.
Additionally, as I think it's Horde Master.
Horde Master, so Horde Master is a special rule. Unless Greasus is fleeing, all other units within 18 inches, including Greasus himself, adds 1 to their combat result scores and automatically passes rally tests.
I like that.
Yeah, good.
They're
Doesn't
very-
make up for his 545 point price tag, in my opinion. though.
No, it doesn't. They're good rules, but there's no way you can justify that ridiculous points cost. How many
No.
wounds does he have?
He has 6 wounds.
He's
Oh,
just
no,
got 4 award save.
6 wounds,
Crown.
toughness 6, 4 at ward save.
Yeah.
So he's
hard to kill.
He's tough as old boots.
Yeah.
But
He also grants his unit, himself and his unit, immunopsychology.
that's good and bad because then they can't voluntarily flee.
But I've never seen an ogre unit flee before.
Yeah, it's just when you've got like 2 models left. It's the
Maybe
last turn
turn
you're about to
6
get
and you're like 14 inches from the board edge.
throttled from something horrible,
Yeah.
and you
So-
just think I'll flee.
He also leadership 9.
Yeah.
He's very good for ogres.
So,
It's worth saying.
I want to point out, Scott did mention the strength 10 mob was D3. That only works on his regular attacks. It's not any.
It's not.
It's not his stomps.
Stomp.
And it isn't, apart from impact hits, which he doesn't have, so I don't know why I had to mention it. But
Yeah.
apart from his impact hits and stomps, he is strength 10 mob was D3.
Yeah.
He's only got 3 attacks.
Does only
3.
have 3 attacks.
Yeah, I think he's got a great model, and I'm shocked that it's a 15 on his score.
Yeah, there's just not a lot used with him, to be honest.
I think he's pretty rubbish. Can't go. So what I've learned, I didn't really know a lot about him, to be honest.
Because no one takes him.
But what I've learned is that I'm paying a load of points for a dude that can't go in a unit properly.
Yeah.
That actually, whilst he's really scary against maybe enemy characters or enemy monsters, he's pretty poop in combat other than
Yeah.
that. And that fundamentally offers me a mediocre buff. The rallying's good actually, but
Plus-
the
and plus
plus
one
on combat resis, they always overpoint that though. They'll charge like 100, 120 points for that roll, which is why he's 500 and a million, and just he's got a great model, guys. And you know there's
He does have a nice
that
model.
magical deep dive shelf, I like to call it. We have where you put all those great
Leon
models.
Kerr's up there as well.
He is, yeah.
Yeah, the model
Join-
just carrying a giant turkey.
Join
leg.
Marcus Wolfhart for
Yeah,
Empire
he's quite a nice
players.
model.
He's a lovely model. He's on that shelf and all.
Was Ludwig Schwalk still on that shelf?
Oh, Ludwig, definitely. No, not Ludwig. Avaland one.
Marius Leitdorf.
Marius Leitdorf. He's
Yeah.
definitely on there.
He's a
lovely
He
model.
is a lovely
A
model.
lot
yeah.
of beast
Rubbish,
models.
though.
They're on that
So-
shelf. But no, so yeah.
Should we continue?
Too many points.
Too many points for
Yes,
not much.
we will continue with the other Lord, who is Scrag the Slaughterer. He's up next. He comes in with a competitive rating of 16 out of 24. So slightly better. We get there with a 2 for output, a 3 for special rules, 3 for synergy, 3 for risk, lots of 3s, 4 for survivability, and 1 for cost. So this is a bit of an odd one for me. His scores all look like really pretty good. It's only really his cost that hugely lets him down.
Any points is it?
He is, I don't know if I've got it on my
You're
cheat
right.
sheet. You're the one with the book.
It's 425 points.
Yeah, he's a lot of points.
It's 120 points cheaper than Greasius.
Yeah, I'm not sure
That's-
that's necessarily a bellwether I'd want to measure against.
He just really lacks that final thing to make him like a great choice and
Lawmaster?
actually worth taking. That's the one that I'd give him.
Yeah.
I'd absolutely give him Lawmaster of Law of the Great.
So he
Khan.
does have quite a lot of special rules though. To my
No,
memory.
rules wise, no, not
Right,
really.
is it equipment that gives him like
It's
special
his
abilities?
cauldron,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Apologies.
special rules wise, he has frenzy, immune to poison, which all butchers and
All
slaughter
Butcher and Slaughter
Yeah.
must
have. He has killing blow, which is quite nice.
That's not bad.
Ogre charge, and he causes terror.
I like that. I'm a big fan of Terror.
You do
Uh,
like Terror?
With 4 attacks, toughness 6 and 5 wounds. He hasn't got a save.
No.
But his main thing is his Cauldron of the Great Maw, which is a magic item. It's an enchanted item. And all Scrag and all Gorgers in his army receive the blessings of the ever-hungry god according to the table below. So it depends on how many models Scrag kills throughout the game. So I'll go for it now.
Are they combat kills or are they magic kills?
Combat.
Models killed by spells or pursued in court for flame do not count towards this total.
What a shame.
Yeah.
It's only models killed in combat,
It
unfortunately.
really is a shame.
The bonuses are cumulative as well.
Cumulative.
Whatever I say, cumulative.
You
It's
say
fine.
it wrong.
But anyway, so if you kill one model in combat, Scrag gets regeneration, and Gorgers, all Gorgers have not entered play, do so in the next turn automatically.
Oh, that's so rubbish that it's if they've not entered play because now I'm likely to not score this till turn 2 or probably 3.
Three, probably.
And as a result,
They've probably turned up
they've
already.
probably turned up on
Yeah.
balance of play. That's rotten.
If he's killed 5 or more models, he gets +1 attack to go to 5 attacks, and so do Gorgers, so they go up to 5 attacks.
How many attacks do you have?
4
Yes,
base.
4. He's got frenzy as well. I think he's got additional hand weapons.
2 hand weapons. Yeah, he has.
So he's got
7
6 attacks to start with, including his frenzy.
And an impact hit. So he could do that in one turn. It's
yeah.
unlikely, but he could.
He kills 10 or more models. Scrag gains hatred, as do all Gorgers. It's alright. Helps out the Gorgers quite a bit.
It is, but is it one of those things that by the time he's sort of approaching the 10 model marker,
Your Gorger's
he's
probably dead.
And he's probably in a protracted combat where he can't use hatred?
Yeah.
Because it's beyond the first round?
And if he kills 15 or more models, Scrag becomes unbreakable and all Gorgers gain regeneration.
That's insanely good. The Unbreakable
Really good, but
is it though?
you maybe get it turn 6.
Well,
because he doesn't make his unit unbreakable.
yeah, it does.
Does it?
Yeah.
If he's in a unit, yeah.
I didn't think those rules passed over.
He can't.
You
the
can't-
unit can't flee and leave the character behind,
You
and
can't.
the character won't flee.
You can't. An unbreakable character can't join a unit. However, if they're already in a unit and gain unbreakable, like the Fleet Master, Black Ark Fleet Master from Dark Elves, you make the entire unit unbreakable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they would
The
be,
regen on Gorges is good as well.
Yeah, the Unbreakable is excellent though, because by the time he gets to that number of kills, he's likely right towards the end of the game. He's probably in protracted combats at that point. He may be getting short figures, and his survivability is pretty prestigious. He can probably hold his points up for you, so that's pretty decent.
So but the models killed, he doesn't. By looks, it does include his impact hits and his stomp as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yeah,
you can kill like 8 models a turn.
I think the big issue there that glares out to me is that he's a wizard, isn't he?
He is a level 4 wizard as well.
So why has he got nothing that makes him a better wizard?
That's what we're just saying. Like, with Lawmaster, they'll be better.
Yeah.
Or anything to improve his spellcasting.
That's what I think this table has pointed to the book. His sort of Cauldron's table. I get that it gives the combat buffs to Gorges. That's really cool. I like that. It should make him better at casting spells.
Well, he's a bit of a jack of all trades character, and we talk about these a lot on the deep dives. And that there's nothing wrong with including them in your list because you know that they can do a bit of everything. But you know, in general, specialists tend to be better.
More competitive.
Yeah, but not always. But in general, I find specialising your slots is better.
Yeah.
He's certainly interesting. I think he probably justifies that the score. Was it 16?
16.
Yeah, it's just like you say. He's not really
He lacks that something.
Yeah, that little something over the marker.
I mean, if you want to run Gorges, he does allow them to ignore the rules on duplicates.
Yep.
So you can take more
many
than
as
3
you
of them because they're a special slot. He also ups their unit size from 0 to 1, or 1 to 1 to 2. So you can take a unit of 2 of them.
Which I don't think is a bad shout for
A lot of points.
It's a lot of points.
180 points for a unit that doesn't have a save until Scrag's killed 15 models in combat.
I think it's better than 1.
I don't agree. I think keeping him at 1, keeping him at 90 models.
90 models?
90 points. Wow. 90 points. I think he's probably better for
How big
them.
is the game?
Well, if they're Nobblers, that's about 200 points.
Yeah.
But I would prefer if he doesn't get Lawmaster, maybe even Lawmaster be one of the benefits he gets from his Cauldron. That would be cool.
If I was on it, I would probably have swapped out maybe the hatred for Lawmaster.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think I mean we can talk all day about what I would have done to him. I'd have just made him better.
Yeah. I think it would be nice if he was more driven towards actually being a wizard, which is what he's supposed to be. But he is another one who's got quite a... I'm not mega keen on his model. There's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't excite me as a hobbyist. But I think it's a really unique and cool idea for a model, dragging that big cauldron. So
it's all sort of like chained into his back. He's not got hands either. He's got like cleavers that are stacked, stabbed into his sort of stumps.
Yeah, sort of.
Which is very cool.
He is also big.
Yeah.
He is like Grecius. He's on that 50mm wide base. He's on a chariot base. So again, he's on the side of a unit.
Painful.
Real shame.
Movement 6 this time though. That cauldron does not slow him down.
No, Cauldron does not slow him down.
Imagine if you cut it off of him, he'd be like absolutely.
That is it for heroes. For lords, then. Sorry, we're going to move on to heroes. And Golgfag Maneater is our first special character hero. He comes in with a competitive rating of 10 out of 24.
That is surprising.
Oh, I'm really gutted.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be high. Cause we like man-eaters.
I've also played against him a few times at tournaments.
Yeah, I can see him being probably the most common out in a tournament scene.
Maybe it's that reason that he's the best of the stack, even though his score wouldn't suggest that. So let's see why.
So he gets a 2 for output, a 3 for special rules, 1 for synergy, 1 for risk, 2 for survivability, and 1 for cost.
Yeah.
He just doesn't do anything for the army.
No, that's fair.
So his big special rule is easy come, easy go, which essentially gives Golgfag 2d6 times 10 points worth of magic items Is it a magic item or magic items?
At the start of the battle before your deployment, roll 2d6 and times it by 10. You may equip Goldfag with magic items with a total points value that is equal to or less than the result. The normal restrictions on choosing magic items apply. Remember, if Goldfag chooses a magic weapon, he cannot benefit from additional hand weapon.
Yeah.
They don't count against his points value or total points value of the army.
Yeah, so you know, if you kill Goldfag, you don't then also get the points for his
So that will probably be why you see him in the competitive setting, because although that's random and could be really rubbish, you're effectively saying you could get up to 123 points.
At a minimum, you're getting 20 points for magic items. And there are big items out there for 20 points.
I just think you're paying a lot in his points for the potential points that
see, this is the difficulty, isn't it? Because he's one of them where you look at, say, his survivability, and you're paying 2 for survivability on him. But I mean, if he rocks out 50 points and he puts himself heavy armor 4+ ward save on, suddenly he's up to 4, isn't he? And he's score jumps.
Yeah, but then again, you've got to not have used that item on one of your other characters.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's a hefty price tag.
He is 260 points.
Big.
He's 155, I think, more than a bruiser.
155.
Which is a lot. And really, you don't get too much more other than his easy come, easy go.
You get Goldfag's man-eaters. It's a situational rule in itself.
And what's that do?
Goldfag's man is always so he can choose to upgrade a unit of man-eaters. Doesn't have to do this, but he can choose to upgrade a unit of man-eaters for free. They always come with Stubborn and Vanguard. From their been there, done that. And when including an alliance, they're treated as trusted allies by all units on their side and count all units on their side as trusted allies in return. And he must set up with the unit and cannot leave. No other character can join the unit.
So in reality, what this
makes
is
no
a really
difference.
cool narrative game thing, which doesn't really give him a lot in a tournament setting. For 155 points, is he any better stat line wise than a bruiser?
He's got 1 more point of toughness, 1 more wound, 1 more attack. Oh no, I'm on about man-eater, sorry.
Yeah, no,
I'm looking at man-eater. And bruiser.
He's exactly the same stat line.
1 more point of initiative.
He's 1 more point in initiative.
There you go.
So, I mean, I'm not
And
really...
1 more attack.
What's his special rules? Are they Vanguard Stubborn?
He does
His
actually.
man-eater's rules are Vanguard and Stubborn.
He does have.
I assume he gains those rules.
He
if
doesn't actually have.
That's hilarious.
He doesn't have actually been there, done that, so he can't get any rules. He can only take. If he joins it, he only gets the Vanguard and Stubborn.
okay.
So you have to take his man-eaters to get his man-eater rules. Odd.
I just
That's weird.
I really do not think he's very good. I'll be honest with you. His 2d6 times 10 worth of magic items means you can slightly tailor him against the opponent you're fighting. I just don't think he's worth
I
points.
think you've paid points for it.
Oh, absolutely.
So when they
you've
say
paid loads of points
they
for it.
don't count for your
Yeah, you've paid loads.
You've paid a lot of points
You've
for
probably paid 100 points for it.
that. Yeah. Leave him at home, chaps. He goes on
Absolutely.
that shelf. No, ladies.
Or do you know
does.
what?
He's a nice model.
That's
So
it.
He is a beauty.
use him as like a man-eater unit champ. Convert him up a bit. Use him as a man-eater unit champ.
Use him as your BSB.
Or
Yeah,
or a base for
I've seen him
BSB,
use
'cause he's
the
got a
BSB
thing
with
on his
this.
He's
back.
got
Got a
hasn't
absolutely
thing on his back.
huge maw. Where is it? Where is it?
I
Come
don't-
on.
I don't
There
know.
he
There
is.
he is.
Yeah,
that's
no,
a big
good
model.
BSB. He's a lovely model.
He is a very nice model. Moving on to the final special character then. And this, I thought it was Nobblers, this is actually the lowest rating in the book.
Oh dear. So we do go to single fingers.
We
then?
do. It is 8 out of 24 for Bragg the Gutsman. And this is weird because I think he's the only one I'd take.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well let's.
But
let's
we get
unpack
there.
it.
We get there with a 2 for output, a 1 for special rules, a 1 for synergy, a 1 for risk, 2 for survivability, and a 1 for cost. He's just 1s everywhere. He's got a cool scythe and
Yeah.
makes a really good base for a BSB conversion.
Over there.
C figure.
Unfortunately,
C figure
though,
2.
Unfortunately, he's about as good as it gets for a roll Bragg.
Oh,
Like I said, he's got the lowest score in the whole book.
Doesn't he have killing blow or some sort of mechanic for that?
In a challenge, he gets heroic killing blow. I think it
Yeah,
is.
when in a challenge, he gets a heroic killing blow. If he slays his opponent in a challenge, any units in base contact with him are disrupted.
Yeah. Problem is, he's initiative 3 with light armor,
Light
maybe.
armor. Yeah,
Yeah,
light
and is his weapon great weapon?
armor. +1 strength.
No, it's
Okay.
just +1 strength.
Yeah,
So
okay.
strength 6.
Yeah.
There is literally no difference between him and a bruiser.
Yeah, exactly.
How many
same stat
points is he against Bruiser?
200 and something.
10.
10.
He's double the points for Bruiser. 105 points. He's way too over.
I think you're generous taking him. Saying you might take him.
And the only reason I take him is because of plus in the Triple Crown comp. That's the only reason I was going to take him. Because he's potentially scary for a character. But that's the only reason.
Challenge out of monster.
They don't really have the magic to support him. I think that's the big problem. Maybe a bit of Pan's impenetrable pelt.
Savage Beast.
Well, he's still
Regen.
initiative 3.
Regen.
Yeah, regen. You need to do something to stop him dying, don't you? That's what we're saying.
Yeah, he's just way too many points.
Yeah,
he doesn't do anything for the army apart from add some attacks in the combat he's in.
Potentially disrupt.
Possibly disrupting, yeah.
Yeah, he's got no save, really. He's got light armour, as we said. And he's no better than a regular bruiser by the +1 strength, which you can put on a bruiser for 20 points.
You can put a goal at Mania for 20 points.
You could.
Headbutts cabinet.
Yeah.
Breaks glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean...
I like Scott's frantically checking the cheat sheet to see if he's got anything
yeah,
nice
for
to say.
24 points, you can have more survivable... So, like, for 25 points, on 24 points, on top of the cost of a bruiser, you can have a more survivable bruiser who's just as strong, and he's 81 points cheaper than Bragg. He doesn't have HKB in a challenge, not the end of the world, and he doesn't disrupt if he kills a model in a challenge. Again, not really the end of the world. You do, however, get almost 2 Iron Guts for that.
Yeah.
So
you just don't have the spare points, really at any points value, because your models are so expensive. Even the ones that are sort of correctly pointed, you're still a low model count army with ogres, so you do need to make the points count.
Yeah,
again, yes, another really cool model though.
Lovely model. The blood dripping off the side is really nice.
And I can imagine that'll snap off at the touch of a button.
Yes, yeah. Well, my BSB is based on that model, and his flag snaps off regularly.
How many pins are in that model at this point?
None. No pins.
Wow.
Yeah, the flag is barely glued to the actual chain. It's
just
glued
glue
to his
and
gut
hope.
plate. It's glued to his gut plate is where it's glued.
Yeah.
And James picks up yet again. I'm expecting that to snap.
Glue and hope is what that is. Glue and hope.
Yeah. But yeah, that is it. That is it for the Ogre special characters, and we've already gone through all of their units.
So we went through the 10 Warriors of Chaos, which took about an hour to like 20 minutes for the Ogre Kingdoms one.
Yes, if that. But now we are going to move on to the Ogre big names, their unique mundane items, and their magic items, and their lore of magic in the next section.
Loads.
So, unlike other armies, non-wizard ogre characters have access to 9 big names. Now, these are a little bit like vampire powers, but they come out of your magic item allowance. So you don't have a separate allowance for them, they just come out of your magic item allowance.
So it's sort of more similar to virtues.
Yes, similar to virtues.
They come
for
out
the
of your
Patronians.
allowance?
They do.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that is interesting.
Yeah. Now, each model can only have a single big name, although multiple characters can have the same big name. So again, like virtues, you can only have one. You can't have sort of 2 on the same model. But unlike virtues, 2 models can have the same one, and there's no sort of additional cost or anything like that. It's also worth noting that a bruiser BSB who takes a magic banner can still take a single big name. Again, very much like the Bretonian virtues, up to 50 points, and that was cleared up in the FAQ. So that's the sort of blurb covered. Let's get stuck into the first of these big names. Now, this is Moorseeker. So this is Tyrants only, the Lord level non-wizard character, and it is the most expensive name at 40 points. Gives the Tyrant +1 toughness, but they suffer from stupidity. So I mean, that makes them toughness 6. They are leadership 9, so stupidity shouldn't be a problem. But it's never good giving yourself a negative special rule, really, is it?
Not really, not for the sake of it.
40 points as well is quite
It's
expensive.
a lot for +1 toughness when you've got 2 spells, effectively, that your army has access to that do that.
Really, +1 toughness is only worth about 35 points, if I'm being honest. It's one of those key stats that boost it makes general difference. So you're only probably looking at about a 35 point value on that. So you're paying more points for it
To
and
give yourself
you get a terrible
stupidity.
special rule. I think I'll leave it.
Yes. Wall Crusher comes next. Now, this one's 30 points, a little bit cheaper. Grants the bearer an additional impact hit on a successful charge. He also ignores the effects of any obstacles when attacking units that are defending them, although that doesn't benefit the unit that he's in. You're basically paying 30 points for +1 impact hit.
I say, because that benefit does not come into effect at all.
No. And the benefit,
Yeah.
the benefit I think is that you don't get impact hits when attacking an obstacle, a sort of defended obstacle. I think that's the only benefit it gives.
I've played this game for what, 10 years since it's been out, 10 or 12 years now.
I've never played.
Uh,
I've never that's never come up.
And I've only ever come up once, and that was at Cardiff Crusade a couple months
really?
ago when I played Tim Richardson, and he hid his nobblers behind a wall. Not nobblers, his
Hobgoblins.
hobgoblins behind a wall. My skull crushers charged them. I didn't get the +1 strength for my juggers. It's very upsetting. Anyway, it doesn't come up often. That's what I'm trying to say.
And so literally the only benefit for the ogres would be they're not getting impacted. So, I mean, he gets it. Woo.
Yay!
Not worth it. Leave it at home. The quite poetically named Kin Eater is next on the list. And again, we're back to being tyrants only. This is only 25 points, and it allows friendly units within 6 to reroll failed panic tests. Not bad.
No.
But I think you only ever take it in a bigger game.
I think this is excellent in a larger game.
Yeah.
This is one I would strong. This is one of the few big names I actually like.
Yeah, because you're spending the same points as a BSB, who does the same, but with double, better, because he lets you roll all leadership tests,
yeah.
and with double the range.
Is it only 6 this one then?
Yeah, it's only within 6. But, as we were saying, if it is a larger game, you're only going to have one BSB. So you have this on a Tyrant, your BSB over there, you've got sort of 18 inches of bubble across 2 different areas where you can reroll panic tests. It's the only time I take it, though.
It's it's good. You can kind of cover like, what's that? You're going to cover a lot. You're going to cover like 36 inches of the battlefield in rerolling panic. If you put your sort of BSB in the middle and you had your Tyrant sort of on the extremity,
Yeah, it's good, but only good in a big game.
Yeah, I agree.
So another 25-point name next with Mountain Eater. So this model can never be wounded on better than a 3+. However, hits that cause automatic wounds are unaffected. I mean, it's not bad, but you are toughness 5 anyway, so there's not a lot that's going to be wounding you on a 2.
I can see there's a use as on a Tyrant, again, on the Magic Carpet, as protection against cannons.
Yeah, but I mean, you're still getting wounded 2/3 of the time by that cannon.
Yeah, it's better than 5-6 of the time.
I'd rather spend 5 points on the Charm Shield, knock it off 5-6 of the time, and then charge the cannon.
I don't dislike this if you're gonna go for a hunter on a Stonehorn. I'm not saying you should, but if you're gonna, I don't mind it as much there.
Can hunters take big moves?
It's another dissuading factor that already the Stonehorn's half in my damage against multiple weaponry. So I might decide then I want to start hitting you with say banishments and things like that, or those types of damage, like sort of heavy magic missiles, which would potentially have an effect. Even the best of them are generally only strength 5. You've got a few that are strength 6, but.
So that wouldn't have an effect.
Wouldn't have an effect on the strength 6 ones, but it would have an effect on the strength 5 ones, wouldn't it? Or is a hunter not toughness 5?
Yeah, he's toughness 5, but he can't be wounded on better than a 3+. So you'd need to be strength 7 for it to affect it.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Where are you going from?
I think I was thinking of the +1 toughness for it.
James is about 10 minutes behind. Don't mind him. It's not very good.
No,
basically, it just doesn't come up often enough.
Very situational.
Yeah, me over here just trying to clutch at straws.
Yeah. Just let your Tyrant just tank the cannibal, go into the unit, and go from there.
I mean, he could stop it. He's got like 5 wounds.
Yeah.
He could just man it.
I also want to point out there's an episode of The Simpsons where they shoot home with cannonballs all the time, and he's fine.
Other American cartoons are available.
He's a Tyrant.
Giant Breaker is the next big name. This again is 25 points and gives them all +1 strength. However, he may never refuse a challenge, and neither he nor any unit he's with can flee as a charge reaction.
I just hate this. I like having negative special rules to balance stuff out.
Yeah,
I really like that idea. I just don't get it with the ogres. It's there on something that's already overpointed.
Yeah.
If that was 20 points or 15 points and it did that negative side of it, I'd maybe think, oh, okay,
even 20 points I wouldn't bother. I can take the sword of +1 strength. For 20
but
points.
I might go, well, I can combine it with a sword, another sword, +1 to hit maybe, or something like that.
Maybe.
But when I'm paying 25 points more than the sword of +1 strength, which incidentally doesn't make me have to fight unit champions all game.
Doesn't have to challenge.
You don't have to issue the challenge. You can just never refuse a challenge.
Yeah. So my unit champion.
No, the unit champ just issues.
I mean, if your opponent's clever, then yeah, that's probably what happens. But then you can't refuse it with your Tyrant. You can't just send the unit champion, can you?
No, you can't accept with someone else.
It is an issue.
Well, that's a sticky wicket, actually, isn't it?
I don't know if you can accept with someone. You just can't
what's
refuse.
the wording on it? You can't refuse.
It may never refuse challenges.
Well, someone else accepts.
I say you can't direct a challenge. The only person who can direct a challenge should be Wolfred the Wanderer.
Which I've got to be honest, you want to fight my strength 6 Tyrant, you go large.
Wolfred.
Or strength 5
that'd be an interesting fight, Wolfred going Tyrant with this.
Give it a go. I think
give
you
it a
get
go.
dead stoked in.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not as bad. Maybe we've been
They can't ever flee though.
I don't think it's as big as an issue with an Ogre army. That caveat.
Yeah,
Like James
maybe.
was saying though, you know, in turn 6, you're 13 inches from the board edge, and they need a 10 to get you, and you've got one dude left on a wound. You just want to flee.
Yeah, well,
that one could do something combination wise possibly, but
I still think it's too many points.
still not good though.
Yeah.
No.
So we're over halfway through, and we are going to move on to Death Cheater. So this one is 20 points. And once per game, you can nominate one model in base contact with you that is hit but not yet rolled to wound. That model must reroll all successful wound rolls this phase. That includes any wound rolls made by the model's mount, chariot, etc. It's very situational. Good if you come up against something like a Vampire Lord with your Tyrant.
Yep.
And you go, you know, I need to get my attacks in, so I'm going to make you see how many hits you roll, because you might roll one hit, and then I go, actually, I don't care.
Potion of strength, sword of striking.
Yeah.
Scary stuff.
Yeah. Again, if someone's rolled, drunk their potion of strength, and then they attack you that turn, and you go, oh, I'm strength 6, 7, whatever, you go, that's great, mate, you got to reroll your wins this turn. So you might be winning on a 2 or a 3, but you got to reroll them. Then next turn, when you're winning me on like a 5 or a 6, depending on what strength you actually are.
I think I'm having a moment. For a minute, I thought that was a friendly model you picked. The model
no,
base contact. It's an
No.
enemy model that
To
you
me-
make reroll.
Yes.
it says one.
Right.
Nominate one model in base contact. You could pick a friendly model if you
What,
want.
make them re-roll successful
I was
wound
going to
rolls?
say successful. I thought it
Yeah.
was reroll wound
No,
rolls.
it's
Reroll all successful to wound rolls this phase.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah.
You really are in a moment, Rolando.
Yeah, I know what's going on.
mate. You're having a mare.
Do you need like pick me up or something?
I just need some.
Let's go back to the Mornfang Cavalry. Let's talk about them again.
Yeah. Wobble.
I do think this is probably the best one of the lot, in my opinion. So I say, like, for those, you know, because a Tyrant very much could kill a Vampire in one turn.
I tell you where else this is
But you just need to
potentially
get those
good.
attacks in.
Things like the Frostheart again, where, you know, or monsters like that have got in because they can't stomp. They really need to make their main attacks rely on. You know, rely on their main attacks to score combat resolution. You can easily just deck all their combat resolution off of them potentially in the right terms and go, well, that's really cool, mate, but you're running now.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be wounds against the character, I don't think. It's just they reroll all of their successful wound rolls, weirdly.
Nominate one model in base contact that has hit the Death Cheater but not
okay.
yet rolled to wound.
So it is against the character.
That model must reroll,
Okay.
yeah. So, what does it work if you're on a monster?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
But if they attack
The monster.
if they attack the mount, no.
Yeah, it wouldn't work then, would it? Yeah, but not very
But
situational.
it does make their mounts reroll successful wound rolls against you.
Yeah, I suppose. There's a lot of ifs to this one.
I think this is probably the best one, and that is saying a lot, because it's still not amazing.
No, it's not that good.
It's just quite cheap, 20 points. So Longstrider is up next, and as the name suggests, you add one to your movement. It's 20 points again, and probably the one that I see the most sort of obvious use for, and that's on a hunter who's going in with some saber tusks.
So you're not reducing any movement by a massive amount.
Yeah, he gets Swift Stride if he goes in with a saber tusk, so he's not really slowing them down much. That is the only use for it, though.
Yeah.
Because there's no point putting it on another character unless you really plan on charging them out of units often.
Yeah.
Because the unit's just as slow or
Try-
as quick as them.
Let's try and find out what bits and pieces you can use them. There's not.
Yetis. Put a character into some Yetis.
Yeah.
Their movement's 7, but then they lose Swift Stride.
Yeah.
So you still wouldn't.
Yeah, Hunters and Saber.
Hunters in Saber
Saber
Tusk,
Tusk.
that is literally it. So, the penultimate big name, and this is the first one which is only available to Hunters. So this is Beast Killer. It's 20 points. It grants the Hunter +1 to wound against large targets. Sounds good, as long as he isn't using a magic weapon. Rubbish.
Boo.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure why the Hunter having a magic sword stops him knowing how to kill big animals.
Yeah, I'm just reading. I'm reading the little fluff bit. I don't see if there's anything to sign of it. No, there is not. There's no.
I've also put on my cheat sheet. Really not worth it, even if it was free.
I mean, I suppose you get. It's more so with like the shooting attacks of Hunter can get with like the bolt thrower and the
Yeah,
chain
the
trap.
trouble with bolt throwers
okay.
and stuff when you're using them against like large targets is they just
They just
don't
don't hit.
do the damage. They don't do enough. They really.
I mean, if you got that monster that's on 1 or 2 wounds left, this could come in a little bit of clutch, maybe. I'm like you. I'm trying to clutch.
You are clutching.
I'm clutching
Yeah.
straws, trying to help out a little bit.
Do you know
Here.
what I find the best thing to do
20
is just make up what the big name does and then just make some comments that the big name doesn't do.
That's worked really
That's
well
what
for
we're
you
doing
so
right
far.
now.
Really well.
That's what
for
you're
you.
doing.
It's playing out great for me.
So the final big name then is Brawler Guts. So this is 15 points, definitely cheap, and lets the model reroll failed wound rolls from their impact hits. And there we go. We can understand why it's cheap. It lets you reroll probably one failed to wound roll if you fail to wound, which is probably going to be wounding on a 3 at worst.
I've played against this one a couple of times.
I think it had specified, but not their mounts, because you stick it on a guy
On a stone
on a stone horn.
Terrifying.
I have played against this one a couple of times, and I think it's because the event we're at, you got
+1 for big name.
a positive for big name. Yeah, it affects
And
your
it's the
composition
cheapest one.
score, and it's very cheap.
Yeah, I mean, look, you might get 3 charges off in a game. If you're lucky, one of them will be an ogre charge. So let's assume you do 4 impact hits across a game. That's rolling a 2 on the D3 and then an extra 1 from each of your other ones. The only models that can take this are strength 5. So you're probably wounding on 2s because you're going to have the rank bonus of the unit behind you adding to that as well. But, you know, even if you assume all of them are wounding on 3s, you probably fail to wound a quarter of the time and probably wound on the reroll. So you've paid 15 points to do a single extra wound across a game.
He's got to be in the front row as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He has to be in the front row.
I mean, the only saving grace for this is the fluff bit. An ogre with this Brawl of Guts big name has earned a reputation for throwing his weight around.
I mean, look, if you've got 15 points, you know, left at the end of your army list and you've got nothing else to spend them on, sure. But you really should be able to find something for 15 points that is better.
15 points.
If you've got 15 points, just buy the Obstrix's Shard.
Yeah, there's so much better
It's
stuff.
good on ogres as well, because they're already quite strong.
They're not exactly wall save rich either.
No. So that is it for big names. We've got to the end of them. We're going to move on to the unique mundane equipment for the ogres. So the first one we've talked about a lot is the Iron Fist. It's essentially a shield. However, you still get a parry save even when you're mounted. So on your Mornfang, your characters can't be mounted. Hunters could on a Stonehorn. I think they can take Iron Fists.
Let's have a look. I'll go backwards now again, once again.
They might be able to take an Iron Fist.
Hunters hunt, they can take an Iron Fist.
Ah, okay. So it affects Mornfang and it affects Hunters on Stonehorns. Not bad. I mean, it's a shield. You know,
It is
solid.
a shield, but I see it parries well mounted.
Yeah,
very
solid.
nice.
Next up is the Lookout Nobbler. So this can be purchased as an upgrade to any unit standard or the BSB for 5 points and grants the unit champion or any character in the unit a Lookout Sir roll if there are at least 3 rank and file models in the unit, not the normal 5. It very rarely comes up, but if you've got 5 points, sure, why not?
Does so you got that? Like you got just take like a unit of 3. You do 3 ogres or iron guts and stick a character in there. That character's always going to get a lookout sir at that point in time until one of them dies.
Can't, because you've got to put it on a banner, so you'd have to have more than 3. Because they're not rank and file, are they, banners?
Yeah, the only ones that don't count for rank and file were champions.
Just champions.
Yeah, so
Okay.
musician and standard do count. But I think if you've got 5 points, you're going to put it on someone. Always put it on the BSB.
Yeah.
Don't put it on the unit banner. I'd always put it on the BSB.
Yeah.
Don't mind that.
Because then he gets it basically whatever unit he's in. He doesn't have to specifically be in that
Be
unit.
in that unit, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can he take lookout nobles in the BSB?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So Chain Trap is next. We've mentioned this one as well. It comes on the Stonehorn and the Thunder Tusk. It comes on their riders. It's 12-inch range, strength 6, and has killing blow. And it's free. I mean, you don't pay for it. It just comes with it.
Does it come with a Stonehorn?
Yeah. I think you can upgrade it to a...
He does come
harpoon
on.
launcher.
Yeah, you can upgrade. Or I say upgrade. You can exchange it for free
Oh, okay.
to a harpoon launcher.
Yeah.
It does come with chain trap.
But yeah, I mean, it's not bad.
I think the chain trap's quite scary. You don't fire it often because
No.
of its range, but I do think it's potentially very, very scary.
Is it quick to fire?
No.
Oh, that's a shame. That'd be nice.
Just
on the charge. Ah!
I mean, it's very funny as James said. You just launch out a giant bear trap and change someone's face in.
I think it's carries a lot of like sort of scare potential to stop characters trying to charge on their own and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a situational bit of point at that time though. It's very rare something that happen with it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's if you can move into position to get a line up a good charge. The turn after though, and there's some knights there, and you sort of chunk take points off. I'm not saying it's good. Like Scott said, it's free, so I think it's alright.
Absolutely,
it's
absolutely
quite cool.
terrifying watching your mate's head just pop off with his chain trap just come at you.
So the other option on those monsters, as Max said, is the harpoon launcher. It's also available to hunters, this one, so you can take it on your hunter. Again, it's strength 6, has a 36-inch range this time, and multiple wounds D3. It's a bit like a sort of mini bolt thrower. It is move or fire, although that doesn't apply if the model is mounted on a Stonehorn or a Thunder Tusk.
Yes.
So only take it if you're on a Stonehorn or a
Thunder
Thunder Tusk. I don't know whether I would swap the chain trap for the harpoon launcher on the Stonehorns and Thunder Tusks, probably is the best I can do.
How many points is a hunter with a harpoon launcher?
Max?
Yeah. Hang on. He is 140 points.
With the harpoon?
With the harpoon launcher.
Too many. Really. It's a shame. I was just thinking, could you take like some cannons? Could you take some lead belchers? Maybe some man-eaters with pistols? Maybe go like a bit of a gun line? Take a couple of the hunters?
Hunters can't join the units.
Oh, I don't want them to. I want to treat them as a bolt thrower. Like one
you take hunters with I said hunters with harpoon launchers and a beast killer. For 160 points, maybe. Might do so.
That's a use, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a use. Not a good use, maybe, but it's a use.
It's a potential. Has potential. I don't know if I'd invest the points in it, but it has potential.
So next up then is the Ogre pistol. So it's a 24-inch range pistol. Really, strength 4, armor piercing, and quick to fire. Some models can also take a brace of them, which is exactly the same, except it's multiple shots too, because there's 2 of them. And if you do have the brace, they also count as an additional hand weapon in combat.
It's literally just a quick to fire.
I think actually the single pistol counts as a brace of counts as additional hand weapon in combat as well.
An Ogre pistol can be used as both missile weapon and in close combat, following the same rules for additional hand weapon.
Yes. So even if you got 1, you get an additional attack.
Okay.
He combines it with his sword.
Yeah.
If
you've got 2 pistols, he just pistol whips you with both.
For a good old fashioned club and slice, I guess.
Club and slice.
Club and slice.
Yeah.
Combination I'm looking
The old
at.
pistol whip, eh?
Yeah. Straight around with a pistol whip and then it comes off.
Mr.
Like
Whippy's
a little combination.
Mr. Whippy's got a vastly different meaning in the old Warhammer world, hasn't it?
Does, mate. You just guide them in. Go.
That's interesting. Now I don't see the point of taking the brace of Ogre pistols, apart from the second shot. But still, it's like 5 points cheaper. But you still get additional ammo.
Well, it's the same points as paying for a single pistol. It's 5. A single pistol's 5 points. A brace is 10. So
I'm on man eaters.
Yeah.
I'll take the brace.
Brace pistol is 12, and the singular is 7.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So take the brace and shoot twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd just shoot twice.
I would.
I've been shouted down
Yeah.
once again.
I just think I would, because you're then getting like 8 shots from unit 4.
Yeah.
In half range, you're still poisoning on a 6.
Yeah, I suppose.
I'd go that way personally.
I don't think you ever see. You only ever see these things being taken on man-eaters anyway.
Yeah,
you don't see them taking
really.
any characters or an Iron Guts champion.
I don't think they can.
Can they not?
No.
That's upsetting.
It's only hunters, bruisers, and tyrants.
No, Mornfang champions can take a brace of pistols as well. The riding gun.
Hilarious.
Oh,
Like an Empire Pistolier. I want to do a unit of them now, all in Empire clothing, like Pistoliers.
tell you, mate. 3 to 2 champion brace of Ogre pistols, riding along.
Well, you wanted a gunline ogre army.
That's how you do it.
We need help.
So that is it for mundane equipment. We're going to move on to magic items, and there are a nice round 10 to choose from, and you probably take 3. But
Oh, no, don't say that, Scott.
but we will get to that.
When we did the Chaos book, like I read the last deep dive was the Chaos book, and we had a very similar, upsetting
very
kind of
upsetting.
entrance. Don't do it to us again.
Well, I'm sorry,
Don't do us dirty.
Maybe 4. I can see maybe 4. But anyway,
It's improving.
yes. The first one, or the first sort of 2 we're going to start off with, are the magic weapons. The first of which is the Thunder Mace. At a whopping 85 points,
Yeah, it's a lot.
you'll be expecting something truly gut-wrenching.
Oh.
I'm sorry to disappoint, both with the pun and what the weapon does. It's essentially a glorified great weapon. You can exchange all of your attacks to roll a single hit against the highest weapon skill in base contact. If it hits, you place the small round template, and every infantry, war beast, or swarm that's under the template takes a single strength 3 hit. The model under the hull takes a strength 9 hit with multiple wounds D3. Any other unit type don't take any hits at all. I don't think there is any points cost that I'd ever take this at.
That is just shockingly bad.
It's horrendous.
+3 strength instead of
Plus
+2.
2.
No, it's just a great weapon.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't even ignore the ASL. Like the Eurostrat last, you're still going last.
He actually has the ASL rule at the beginning.
Why?
A great weapon on a tyrant is, I think, 12 points.
But why
Might be
would I
10.
not just take the Ogre Blade on the Tyrant? I mean, it's named after him. And then I'm strength 7 the
It's
same,
12.
and I've paid 40 points, and I can also take a shield.
But you like
Shocking.
it. You want to take it. It's a cool name.
Shocking.
Thunder Mace.
It is a cool name. It's just shocking weapon. Moving swiftly on to the second magic weapon, it doesn't get any better, sorry. Siegebreaker, another 85 points. Again,
85 points again!
essentially a great weapon, plus 2 strength, the way strikes last, requires 2 hands. However, you roll to hit against the enemy initiative, not their weapon skill, and blows from the weapon can't be parried.
I'm going to be honest, I always look at these two items and think they're just the same item.
They're not very different, are
They're
they?
like
Really?
copy and paste, and then we'll just make some. What are we going to do? Right,
Yeah.
look, we'll just put all the stats on a board and we'll just throw a dart. We got initiative, right? What can we swap initiative for? Weapon skill, dart, weapon skill. Excellent. We'll swap weapon skill and initiative round when we do this item. It's rubbish.
Yeah.
Why is it so rubbish?
Well, wait. There's more.
There is more.
Oh,
When attacking a building, you can also swap your attacks for a single Siegebreaker attack, which inflicts d6 hits at a strength equal to the height of the building, capped at 10. I mean, you're strength 7 anyway. So unless it's a really tall tower,
Really
you're
odd.
probably just better off making
The
your normal
buildings have wounds? Why are you attacking a building?
attack. Oh no, you attack the unit in the building.
Is
When you're attacking a building, as in when you're
Why
like
does the
assaulting
height-
a building.
why does the height? What is it supposed to be knocking the building
Yeah.
down on them?
You don't destroy
Yeah.
the building.
I'm assuming you're not.
A bit of plaster from the ceiling
Yeah.
knocks you down or something.
I
That's
mean,
just-
So at strength 10 because it's fell miles.
honestly,
That's
just
such a weird.
save 63 points or something and just take a great
Do you know, just honestly, you'd be better to just not equip the tyrant.
73 points.
Just send him out as he stands.
Yeah.
That's a shocker.
To be honest, it's just, I'm just looking. It's like so you're risking 5 attacks for 1.
For d6 hits.
No.
And
I can
he's,
take that
he's
if
got
it was
good weapon
25
skill.
points.
Yeah, he's got good weapon
Weapon
skill as
skill
well.
six.
His weapon skill 6, so he'll
Because
probably hit
it's
on the
only a
throat.
tyrant, or a slaughter master, so a tyrant.
So is Aaron.
No.
I mean, it's bad enough you don't see in the sort of competitive scene anything from sort of 2000 to 3000. You don't see the big combat character lord
No.
as often anyway. So
No,
if you're
not
gonna,
really.
it needs to be spicy.
Yeah.
And that is
It needs to be a Vampire Lord, blend Tech A, basically.
that is not spicy.
It is not.
That is
Mild.
It's an
85
overstatement.
points. You can't
That's-
even. You get 15
That's
points.
lemon.
That's lemon herbs. Other peri-peri chains are available.
Other chicken shops.
Yeah.
That's 85 points.
Max can't get over it, but we are going to get over it.
They're both 85 points.
We are going to get over it. We're going to move on to talismans.
I'll never get over this now.
The first is the Nobler Thief Stone. So it's a much more reasonable 45
It
points.
certainly is.
It grants the bearer magic resistance 2. In addition, you then roll a d6 on a table to determine which magic item the Thief Stone has helped you to find. So on a 1, you find nothing. On a 2, you find the Luck Stone. 3 is the Talisman of Protection. 4 is the other Trickster Shard. 5 is the Ruby Ring of Ruin. And 6 is the Talisman of Preservation. However, that's not the end of it. If the magic item you found with the Thief Stone was already being used by another character, friend or foe, the other character loses the item. So, huge risk if you want to bring that 4-up ward save on, like, your general.
What if both of you
Or the 5-up would save as well because it
Or
hits
the
that
5-up.
one as well.
Yeah,
No,
or
five
the other
up,
Trickster Shard. No, Protection's the 6
six
up.
up. Six
Or the other Trickster Shard, Ruby Ring of Ruin, good for ogres, good for chaff clearance.
What do you do if you have it in your army and so does your opponent?
I think both lose it.
So do you get a 2-up war save at that point?
No, you don't get both of them.
Ah,
The
double the preservation.
I like this though, right?
It's big
because
risk reward.
I like this item. It's like you say, it's big risk reward.
Mm.
I like it on things like a fire belly.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, I would only take one item on that list if I was going to do it.
Talisman
Yes.
Myself,
preservation.
I'd only take one.
Yeah.
No, I'd probably take Ruby Ring. Or other Trickster's Shard, one of the cheaper ones. I know Talia Prez is there, but you don't actually need it because you
You've
can
got the
take
armour.
Armour of Destiny on either of your Lord level characters. Thanks for that wonderful FAQ.
Yeah. Thanks for that designer's note FAQ. Weird.
Yeah, there was-
Oh, this wasn't what we intended, but you absolutely can do it.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
So
not
do
not what we intended, but please play the game as we intended you to play.
When you've
No.
got the stats of an ogre as well, the 5-up
Mm.
ward save is good enough as well. So
Yeah.
you've got 3 other options there you don't need. So I wouldn't, and I think that is a crippling item competitively when you roll a 6 and rob that vampire lord of his 4+ ward, or you
Yeah.
rob that elf character of the 4+ ward they're relying on.
Yeah.
It almost always spanks the enemy general when you do that.
Yeah. Also, like half of the time, because MR2 magic resistance 2 is 30 points, so you're paying an additional 15 points to roll on this table. So you only need to roll a 4+, and you've at least got your points back. Or a 4 gets your points back. A 5+ actually gets you more points.
Oh, I didn't realise it was magic resistance to. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's MR2.
Yeah.
MR2 at the beginning as well.
Completely missed that at the beginning there. Yeah.
You've just had another moment.
No, I
see
just
some
was.
use in this.
I think it's. I really do think it's a bit
I think it's
of
potentially.
a missed item by people. It's quite cool.
I do think magic resistance 2 isn't amazing against ogres because not a lot of spells that you get saves against bother them.
It's alright. I think it's just alright. It's a nice little Brucey. I think I'm really taking it for the other elements, but I have to say, the thing that's really great about this particular list, Luckstone, very common in competitive lists.
Yep.
Talisman of Protection, not so much,
Not so
if I'm
much.
honest.
No.
But
The
other
three are,
tricksters,
yeah.
Ruby Ring and Talia Prez, 2/3 of these are items that people probably will have,
Yep.
and half of them are items that people build important elements of their game plan
Yep.
around. 4, 5 or 6 on that list. So definitely worth considering this one, guys. I find the problem with it is that it's not as high up my priority list as other items, and so
just don't have the
invariably
space
I
for it.
don't get it in
No.
because my ogre characters are so expensive.
Also worth saying, whatever character you put this on, if you do roll a 3 or a 6, if you get either the Talisman of Protection or the Talisman of Preservation, that will then combine with your magic resistance, which you get from the same item.
Oh, they gain the item, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
So also, potentially, if you put this on a hero for 45 points, you've got 5 points spare, so you could put, I don't know, Enchanted Shield maybe, or another cheap item, and then if you roll Talisman of Preservation, you've got about 70 points of items on that hero.
I like this on a fire belly actually.
I think that's probably the best place for it. Yeah, I do.
I like that you're not. If you do roll a 6, you're not exactly losing out points. It's the same points as if you would take the Talisman of
Yeah,
Preservation. as
even
well.
better, because
Way
you've also
better,
got
'cause
MR2.
MR2 with 30 points.
There
You
you go.
literally a 4+ and you're not losing out on
I
it.
think we could have another one here. You said just 3 or 4.
I think the reason is, though,
I'm
the other
concerned
3 are
that you included
significantly
that.
better.
Oh, did you include this
This
one?
was number 4.
Ah, good.
The other 3 are significantly better, and
Yeah.
this you just don't find a place for it.
yeah.
Right, well let's go next.
Next up then is the Greedy Fist. It's another talisman, despite the fact it's a fist.
Yep.
It grants the bearer +1 strength and a 6-up ward save. And if a magic weapon inflicts a wound that is saved by that 6-up ward save, then its magical properties are consumed by the Greedy Fist, and it's treated as a mundane weapon of its type for the rest of the game. Even more, additionally, an enemy wizard loses 1 randomly determined spell every time they are hit by an ogre with the Greedy Fist. Now that is in combat. That was FAQ'd to be only in combat. You can't put it on a wizard. Do 2d6 hits with the with the I think Brain Gobbler,
Bone Crusher.
Bone Crusher.
So
Magic
this
Missile.
when the book came out was really popular. Like the reason that FAQ exists is because when the book came out, this was a really popular combination with the Death Snipes
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
they do the
'cause they can
hits
also take
and
that.
then you roll to wound and you go put it on a hero and just do some hits and go, oh, you've lost
You're
your
not a
wizard
wizard.
levels, mate. You're not a
Yeah.
wizard anymore. So
Yeah,
that's why
I-
they fixed that.
Yeah, I've also, to be fair, I've also put here, it could mean your opponent's level 4 suddenly forgets all their spells in a single turn. However, if you've hit a level 4 times, you're probably just going to kill them.
It depends. It does depend. I would say like certain really competitive level 4s, things like high elf level 4s
Alarials.
in regiments, Alarials,
Yeah.
they're unlikely to be killed by just
honest,
4 hits.
that's true.
And this is
That's
baller
true.
because it takes away her ability next turn to protect both
buff up
her
her ward
unit
saves.
and
Yeah.
herself.
It's not even on
Absolutely.
save wound. It's just hits.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hits. Yeah.
it's hits.
She can pass that. She can pass a 2 at ward save.
Yeah,
You
you
imagine
can fail to roll a wound. Fail to roll a wound, just hit.
Yeah,
just
it's
take
a
her,
hits.
just make her a level 0.
It's very good against certain factions. So in an all-round list, you might want to think twice about it. But certainly, if you're looking at fighting high elves regularly, or even something like Warriors of Chaos, where the Demon Prince likes to get in, and these are sort of the more competitive
Vampire
armies.
Lords.
Vampire Lords, yeah. Although
He's probably only got 1 spell.
well, you know,
No.
you say that. That's something that I do a lot, and I know that's something that you've brought into your game recently. But I see a lot of competitive lists where they stick it all on the one
Yeah.
model.
Especially if you go Black Knight Bus.
Yeah,
Actually, then
very
generally they are
scary.
horrible
If you,
vampires.
if you can weather that vampire, and you use up
Well,
Bit of
again,
Death
the-
Cheater.
The Greedy Fist, yeah, Death
Death
Cheater.
Cheater as well.
And again, the other thing to bear in mind with the Greedy Fist is that it's how many points? It's like 15. isn't it?
40.
40.
That's a lot
Okay.
of points.
So it is, but I can still get the sort of swift slaying on him.
It's talisman that gives you +1 strength
Yeah.
and 6 at ward save.
So
Yeah.
something like the Sword of Swift Slaying is actually really good because I get all their strikes first. As much as I'm unlikely to get the reroll, it doesn't matter. I'm getting my attacks,
Yeah.
getting to do my jam.
Another one.
It's a
There's
decent item.
potential there. There's potential. That is it for talismans, just the 2. So we're going to move on to magic armour next. And the only piece in the book is the Gutmore. So it's 45 points for a heavy armour, which also grants the Terror special rule. In addition, they recover a single lost wound for every unsaved wound they cause in a challenge. Terror's good, and the recovery of lost wounds is okay, but they've got to do it in a challenge.
Up to a starting number.
Yeah, they can't gain additional wounds, it's just recovering lost wounds. And to be fair, at that point, you're not really going to be able to fit much else around it, even on like a Tyrant with 55 points left. He's going to be scary, but you're probably only going to really get like a 4-up ward save with him, and then like a really cheap magic sword or something
I'd be tempted to go armour on him, to armour him up instead.
This is armour.
Oh,
This is heavy armour.
This is heavy armour.
Yeah.
Apologies.
But I mean, yeah, you're not really, maybe 4-up ward and a great weapon is possibly the way to go with this.
It's 45.
Yep. James is catching up. Cogs are turning.
No, I'm just reminding myself of the points because the last
45.
one was 40 and this one's 45. Yeah, I don't know. It's
I don't think it's worth it purely the fact you only get the wounds in the challenge.
Yeah, I think it's not worth it.
But don't forget, because when you declare a challenge of an ogre character, people are going to be like, my unit champion will go for that, mate.
So you only do one.
Yeah, you get a win back. It's not terrible. They're quite hard to win in the first place, although easier to win when they don't have a mega save. The terror is what's pushing the points up, and I'm just not sure that
it's worth that.
Because you're only upgrading fear to terror.
Yeah.
So supernatural horror is only 25 points and does that. So you're paying 20 points if you were to compare it for the getting the wounds back only in a challenge. It's too restrictive, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth its points. So there's just 3 more types of item to go, and we are on to arcane items and the Grut's Sickle. So this is 50 points, and at the start of the Ogre Magic phase, the bearer can inflict a single wound on the unit he has joined, which cannot be saved in any way. If he does, he adds 2 to all of his casting attempts that turn. So this is really powerful and can effectively make you like a level 6 wizard when you're casting.
Or level 7 if you give the lore tribute from...
That's what I was about to say. If you're using, I played a guy years ago at an event, and he was using Great Maw, and it was just unstoppable. His casting power was just unstoppable.
Yeah. There is a downside, however. So at the end of the phase, you must roll 2d6. On a 3+, nothing happens. However, on a double 1, the units frankly had enough of being stabbed by its so-called friend, and they kill him outright. No saves, no rolling to win nothing, they just kill it.
Rude as a casualty, no
Not
saves.
great. Yeah, you don't have to cause the wound in every phase, so you don't have to roll the dice and get the +2 to cast it. It's a choice. You can do
it on that crucial turn in which you need your magic.
Yeah. So I really don't think it's worth doing it every turn. I don't think it's worth doing it turn 1.
No.
Depending on the
depends
lore
on where you're at
and what the game's at. But I think it's probably not worth doing it turn 6 if no one's in combat and things like that. You don't want to risk rolling that
unless
at
you're
1.
really desperate to get something off that's going to vitally sort of get you the result.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just knowing when to... A little bit of a skill cap element to that item, but I think it's powerful.
I think it's powerful because it's not... we talked about it going on the Great Maw. You can use an A-Lore you can take.
Yeah.
+2.
Take on Beast, take on Death.
Yeah. Like any +2, like +2 to cast.
Is this
powerful. Take on fire.
one... Is this one Butcher only?
No, it's just an arcane item.
So again, you could go
take
with it.
on fire.
We could take it on the
On
fire
fire
with the fire belly as well.
Yeah.
Another option.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't on fire.
No, I probably wouldn't either.
But you could do. It is expensive, but potentially very good.
I think with this one, actually, you're far better, as much as it's riskier, you're far better to put this on your level 4 as well.
100%.
Because you're getting +2 to every cast attempt, and you'll make more cast attempts because he knows more spells.
Yeah, and it makes you a better wizard guaranteed than what your enemy is going to be dispelling at. Whereas if you put it on level 2, you're just going to be as good as their level 4.
Yeah.
Which isn't as good for the 50 points. The next arcane item then is, frankly, an infamous one. The Mighty Hellheart. Again, it's 50 points. So this is one use only and must be used at the start of one of your opponent's magic phases. Immediately after they've rolled for the Winds of Magic. You roll d6 and multiply the result by 5. Every enemy wizard caught within range immediately suffers a miscast. And the Ogre player gains a Dispel dice for every enemy wizard which they cause to suffer a miscast in this way. Really good. I mean, it's phenomenally powerful, especially against those sort of fast wizards on like maybe flying mounts or just really sort of fast cavalry that, you're going to be really scared of those purple suns. They want to get in close to that unit. You go, oh, that's great. Before you even get a chance to cast, I'm going to make you take a miscast. And if you don't kill them, which is unlikely to kill them with a single miscast,
I mean,
It's possible. I've done it lots.
You've seen it too. Lots of times.
But it's unlikely. The big thing is you just rob all of their dice, because I think 3/4 of the miscast results result in them losing d6 dice.
Yeah, they'll lose dice or they can't cast.
Yeah,
When you start factoring that in, there's very few that they don't get really bashed on.
And you gain dice for everyone that you make take a miscast. It's so good.
And then you still roll your channels and all your normal stuff.
Exactly.
It's unlikely they're actually going to be able to get any spells off once the Hellheart.
It shuts down a magic phase. Comfortably.
You also have to remember to use the Hellheart as well.
Yes, Max, yes you do. Yeah. Not very good if you don't use it.
Or forget that you have it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say.
No,
it's really
it's
good.
absolutely
It shuts down a
devastating.
magic phase.
It's absolutely just kill all your opponent's characters possibly, all the wizards.
Yeah, to be honest, I very rarely kill wizards with it.
You use it to
But
protect
it
yourself.
just shuts down that phase.
Yeah.
It, that crucial turn where they've charged everything in, they go, I need some buffs here, debuff this unit. Nope, you've got 2 dice, I've got 8 dispel dice, good luck.
Yeah, or like you say, when they're on the end, they pop themselves on the end of your battle line, they're ready to drop the big bomb.
Yep.
And you're like, nope.
Yeah, then you turn your lead belchers round, turn your cannon round and go, bye-bye!
Nah, you got boom, ha.
Sorry, yeah, boom, ha.
Real great level of this item, actually.
Yeah, it really
and not too many points that you could play an army that doesn't have a wizard. You still recover the sort of points you've invested in it.
And cheap enough to fit on a hero.
Yeah.
Most armies have a scroll caddy. You have the Hellheart caddy.
Yeah, both. Why not both?
Why not both? On to the only enchanted item then, and that is the Rock Eye. Just 5 points, so super cheap. At the start of every ogre turn, you pick an enemy unit within line of sight. There's no range. Your opponent must then reveal any hidden models in the unit and any magic item carried by the unit or characters in the unit, but they don't have to say who is carrying them. It's nice and cheap. Could be helpful to know about sort of assassins or fanatics, although you can probably assume a Night Goblin unit has got at least 2, probably 3 fanatics.
So they don't have to reveal themselves. They just have to say they're in there.
Yeah. So it doesn't pop them out.
It,
just so you know that they're in there. But if someone's maybe trying to make you assume that they've got lots of fanatics and they've actually only got fanatics in like 1 unit or none at all, that's really good to help from literally turn 1, because you're going to be able to see them. There's no range to it. Just go, has that unit got fanatics? No, has that unit next turn? And so on and so on.
I think 5 points. If you got 5 points spare, just why not?
Yeah.
Just why not?
Also good on like a lone character, on like a monster or a Pegasus or something.
Get it on the
Hellheart exactly what
bar.
they've got. If it's a general.
If it's a lord, yeah.
That was a lord. Be a lord.
No.
Well,
The Hellheart's
50 points.
Oh, so I thought it was 45. I'm getting really lost.
Where are you?
I'm just getting confused. I'm sorry.
He's an old man. That's why he's getting confused.
I don't understand what is going on.
Geriatric.
You want to be careful. Sorry, 50 points. Yeah, apologies.
So it's not something that I really think is necessary, but if you've got 5 points spare, why not?
Very good with those Yetis, though. You were talking earlier about being concerned about Band of the World Dragon.
You know exactly where it is.
You know exactly where it is.
I mean, you
Really
know where it's going to
You
be.
probably know where it's going to be.
But
some
then-
people do try and sort of, again, like I said with Fanatics, they do try and make you assume that they've got
Bluff Hammer, there's a big amount of the game.
Bluff is the word I was looking for.
Where you just sort of, I mean, I do this a lot, very regularly. Don't take a lot of equipment or items on characters, so I can kind of maximise the points of my regiments. But people will assume that you've got a ward save, a good save, or some sort of really sparkly piece of excellent equipment that's going to cause them problems, and you just don't.
It's just helpful to know. Although you don't want to know what characters are in there or what characters carrying them. Just to know what's in a unit so you can prepare to see what's actually happening.
Yeah, and generally you can probably work out what items are
who's on where. Yeah.
Because a lot of the time they're only going to have one character in there anyway.
Unless you're a Bretonnian army or something like that.
Yeah, Bretonnians are the probably the biggest one. But if they haven't, they may well have a special character where you know all their magic items anyway. So you know any sort of generic ones are on the other character. You know if they've got a scroll. After probably 2 turns, you can know if they've got a scroll. Especially if they've got all their wizards in one unit. You go, what has that unit got? Oh, you didn't say scroll? Yeah, I haven't got a scroll in your army. Things like that I think can be really useful.
I think 5 points is just insanely good.
It's useful on, like, say, lone monsters or monster rider characters. You said Bluff Hammer there. The people bluff, they say they have the charm shield, they actually don't.
Yeah.
You use Rock Eye. I don't have the charm shield.
Looks like my cannon's going there.
Iron Blasters, you see that over there? I don't want to see it anymore.
I think it's really good. And how many times do you look at the end of your sort of list and go, I've got 5 points, squeeze something on one of my characters, I'll chuck a Dragonbane gem on him, and you don't actually use it because you've put it on a dude who sits in the front rank of a unit behind the rest of your army. He's a support character or something like that.
Just 5 points is really critical.
Something like this is actually really useful, and I think every army book in the game would be really excited to have that sitting in the
Again, to be honest, something that's really good on a Firebelly.
Yeah.
Because I generally find my Firebellies don't take magic items.
No.
It might take the Hellheart if the Butcher doesn't. But, it's one of the two takes it. And the other one generally just doesn't have anything.
These Firebellies really get tooled up on magic items.
They are. 45 points on that, the Nobbler Thief Stone. And then 5 points on the Rockeye. There you go. So this is 50 points.
Good, Again, I said the Hellheart a minute ago on that, Lord, you could still get 4+ ward save.
You could.
Talisman.
If you put it on a Slaughtermaster.
On a Slaughtermaster and the Rockeye. It's not too sad. My Slaughtermaster goes in the second row of my unit if I can get him in there, so I'll take that.
Arguably doesn't need the 4-up ward save. Swap it for the Grana Command.
Yeah, he might. You can't because they're both enchanted items.
Oh yes, enchanted.
So I'd stick with my ward because he might make way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Or the armour of 2-up arm save. That's spicy.
The Trickster's Helm is a particularly good item for ogres. Reroll successful win rolls. It's very good. Anyway, we are going to move on to Magic Standards and the penultimate magic item. This is another favourite of mine and a staple in most of my lists. It is the Rune Maw.
Yeah, it really is.
So this is a 60-point magic banner, so it can only be taken by a Bruiser VSB. When an enemy spell targeting a unit with the Rune Maw is successfully cast, roll a d6. On a roll of a 2+, the caster must choose a new target for the spell. If there are no other eligible targets, then the spell is wasted, but still counts as being having cast for the purposes of lore attribute. Spells which don't specifically target a unit are not affected by the Rune Maw, so it doesn't work against essentially sort of Vortexes, Comet Cassandora, that sort of thing.
Choir.
Choir. No, because the bubble does.
The bubble,
Choir does, because it targets every
unit,
etc. Whereas Vortexes don't, it just moves in a particular
I think the
direction.
FAQ says that the unit, if you roll a 2+, the unit, it would bounce over, but because everyone else is being hit in the bubble, that one's just lost, because they can't be hit by it twice.
You really like this one.
Yeah.
So it's purely because I remember a lot of time when you first started playing ogres, you used to get hit by a Pit of Shades almost every game.
A lot.
So this helps out mitigate that.
I think it's interesting because I know that I think you're right. That's where it came from, the idea of protecting you from things like Pit of Shades or those types of spells. But I actually think this is so much more powerful against the hexes. Yeah, that's where it's at because that's the stuff that loses you games when you lose points of toughness, you lose armor save points,
leadership,
you lose leadership points. You lose. Huge. I mean, so many, and again, particularly if you're building like a more gut style list, and it's not the only way to go with ogres.
No.
But it is certainly seen as a competitive way to go. Not being able to sniper out those characters' abilities or spells is also very strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
So was it 83% of the time it works every time?
It does. Now, for those of you reading along at home, you will notice in the army book it says any spell that targets the unit. The FAQ has cleared this up to be any enemy spell. So you can still buff your units, it's fine, you don't have to roll a dice. It's all good, cleared up in the FAQ.
One of the few things in the Ogre book that doesn't come with a massive drawback.
Yeah.
So I think I put 60 points to a lot though. Your Bruiser is not going to be the most survivable.
No, he's going to have a 4-up and a parry. Heavy armour and an iron fist. But he sits in the second rank, so it doesn't matter.
4 and a parry isn't too bad to you. It's not too sad.
But mine sits in the second rank. Mine level 4 goes in the front rank.
Still got 4 wounds, still toughness 5.
He's a big baller. He goes in the first rank.
He is. And so we are on to magic item number 10. The final one, and it is another magic standard one. We've talked about a lot on a couple of different units.
We hyped it up.
It is the Dragonhide banner. So this is 50 points, another pretty expensive item. All of them are, really.
They are very expensive.
There's sort of no middling items. There's one that's like 5, the rest are sort of 40 plus.
Insane,
40 plus points, yeah.
But yeah, this is a 50-point magic banner. Models in a unit with a Dragonhide banner can reroll all failed to hit, wound, and armor saves of a 1 on a turn in which they make a successful charge. In addition, the banner contains a breath weapon, which is strength 3, and any unit hit, not wounded, it is just hit by it, has always strikes last until the end of its next turn. So, a couple of things here. The real one is incredible. On either Iron Guts or Mornfang, for me, it's better on Mornfang, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
you get the charge off, aren't they?
You got to charge. That's the thing, isn't it? So
yeah. Secondly, the final bit of wording about the breath weapon is very important. So a unit hit by the icy blast has the always strikes last special rule until the end of its next turn. So the best time to use it to get the most out of that ASL is in your opponent's combat phase.
Yeah.
So you charge in your turn, you get the reroll 1s from the banner, fine. Next turn, if you're still in combat, if you think you're still going to be there, don't use the breath weapon, in my opinion. Wait until their combat phase, then blow the breath weapon, because then you've got 3 rounds of combat where they're always strikes last. Because it's the end of your opponent's next turn.
Oh, it's their next turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, it's not their next.
It's not
the
next
time.
the next time you
ends.
fight. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very clever. Yeah.
Oh, additionally, if you get charged, you don't have to charge to use the breath weapon. So if you get charged,
Just use the
you use the breath
Just
weapon
blow
straight
the
away.
breath weapon.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, I can see. On a Mornfang, but because
Yeah.
they charge more often, and they make more use of the rerolls of the ones.
Although in a horde of Iron Guts probably.
Oh, it's terrifying.
throws
Horde of
more
Iron Guts.
attacks.
Yeah.
But I think the Always Strikes Last has got a particularly nice option with the Mornfang because, as you said earlier, the Mornfang will
Means they go first.
strike before as
Yeah.
well, so you're actively reducing the incoming attacks back.
Yeah.
Allows a unit of maybe 4 models to grind out a much larger foe by making them go last and kicking them down before they can attack.
Absolutely. It's also worth noting going back to sort of the Always Strikes Last, you don't necessarily have to be in combat with the unit with the Dragonhide banner. You still suffer that Always Strikes Last. So if one of you flees, or if your Mornfang or whatever unit's got it is destroyed and something else charges into them, or they charge into something else, as long as it's still before the end of their next turn, they're still Always Strikes Last.
It takes
still
time
going
to warm
slow.
back up.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, overall, really, really good item. I really like it. It's always in my list, pretty much. Sometimes I've put it on the Iron Guts, but probably 95% of the time, it's on the Mornfang.
It's difficult to look past how solid that item is.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh yeah,
It really is.
a lot of these items have been solid. I think you sold us a lie there.
No,
Yeah, there's a good 5 there that I think are worth thinking about.
I just don't think you fit 5 in. That's the problem.
Well,
No,
but that doesn't mean they're not like
no,
competitive
I
items.
just think you only see 3
You
of
look
them
at the
because
Vampire
that's the 3
book
you
and
fit.
you get like 9 items and like six or 7 of them are really amazing.
Yeah, but you still only
2 of
see
them.
like 2,
because,
maybe
because
3.
it's fitting them in.
Yeah.
But there are some really good options there, so it's
Absolutely.
just working out what way you want to go. And
Just
certainly,
not the weapons.
certainly if
Yeah,
you want to
ignore the
avoid
weapons.
composition points, then going for some of
Yes.
those items like the gut
The Thief
sickle,
Stone.
the greedy fist. These are things that don't sort of hit those composition points, but actually add quite a lot to your army list.
Yeah, absolutely. That is it for magic items, but we are now going to move on to the lore of the Great Maw. With all of those items out of the way, all that's left for us to analyse is the lore of the Great Maw. Now, the way that we will do this is with our magic lore rating system, which can be found, again, on triplecrownwargaming.com/the rating system, and again, you can find a link to it back on the deep dives page. But to put it simply, we'll give the lore a score out of 24.
The scores on the laws, if you will.
A lot of rhyming in that
Scores.
sentence, which is going to be based on the following 6 criteria. So that's the variety of spell types, the power and frequency of the lore attribute, the average spell range, spell flexibility, the average casting value, and the quality of that signature spell. So let's summarise the lore of the Great Maw. The lore attribute first, which is Blood Gruel. So you roll a d6 immediately after resolving the effects of a successfully cast spell. On a 2+, the wizard regains a wound lost earlier in the battle, and they add 1 to the next casting or dispel attempt, whichever comes next. On the roll of a 1, they instead take a strength 6 hit. Now, strength 6 isn't a big deal really, as all of your wizards are toughness 5 at least.
Yeah.
Plus you get your save against it if you've got one, which the ones you probably care about.
They've also got like 4 wounds.
I say the amount of wounds. The loss of 1 wound isn't going to matter. Too much.
Not really.
And if you do cast another spell from the Lord Great Maw,
you get it back.
you just get the Lord back, the win back.
Yeah, I really like it. It doesn't stack, sort of, because it only affects the next spell, your +1 to cast and dispel. So
I'm interested, yeah. Adds +1 to this whole.
I mean, I was halfway through a sentence, but Max can butt in.
Go
Fine, go for it.
Finish your sentence.
I was going to say it doesn't stack the +1 to cast and dispels, but you're effectively a level 5 wizard after, assuming you've done it on your level 4, after you've cast your first spell, and assuming you're on a 2+. Now, what were you going to say, Max?
I'll say, out of interest, because it states total for the next time he attempts to cast or dispel a spell.
Yeah.
So, you find your last spell you cast in your turn You could do blood crawl. Does that mean you keep that +1 until you do your first dispel attempt?
Yeah.
In your opponent's next turn?
Yeah.
I've never seen that actually come up.
If you don't spend it on a dispel attempt because you hell heart them and they don't get any spells off because they've got no
Or
dice,
you use another wizard.
or use a different wizard, or they're a dwarf,
If part goes into your next
then your
magic
next
room.
goes
Yeah,
up to
you
next
get
cast.
I've never seen that. I didn't think it lasted that long.
Yeah.
I just thought it was until the
It
end.
lasts
of the
until
phase.
they use it. Yeah.
That's very
Like
interesting.
a
Very cool.
rolling effect. It's
Yeah,
quite good.
pretty good.
It's a very good lore attribute, to be honest.
It is.
I
It
really
is.
like
Gives
the
you wounds back
blood
as
crawl.
well. Nice.
It can really make your opponent. It can really make your casting just start to become a little bit on a train, a little bit.
Yeah, snowball effect, isn't it?
That's the one I'm after.
Onto the signature spell then, and that is Spine Marrow. So this spell is cast on a 6 and is an augment with a range of 12, which can be increased to 24, which is cast on a 9. The target gains the Stubborn special rule until the start of the caster's next magic phase. I mean, it's a phenomenal special rule for a very, very low cast value.
Yeah.
I mean, casting on a 6, so good.
Yeah.
You may well already have the Stubborn Crown as well on one unit. You may have Stubborn Man-Eaters. So you can get, a second
lot
or
of
a third
in
stubborn
dwarf,
in ogres.
I was
You
thinking,
can get a line
I was
dwarf.
thinking dwarves because I was about to say very similar to
Yeah.
the way you can get so much stubborn in dwarves. Something that makes them really hard to kind of get rid of. So
It's a good way of, if you're going to a comp tournament and they comp the Stubborn Crown, it's a good way of getting around that as well.
Yeah,
Obviously, it can be dispelled, but
I don't think if you're brave, I don't think you particularly need Stubborn Crown if you're taking a big caster on the Lord of Greatmore.
I mean, to be honest, I think if you're taking a level 2 on it, because you know the other spells, the ones you really want, the cast values do start to get a bit higher. So you're probably going to end up swapping for Stubborn anyway.
So unfortunately, you can't bubble it because the boost.
No, that'd be very
The
good.
boost is only an increase in range.
But
Yeah,
the
it
thing
does.
to bear in mind with it, of course, is that this is one of the lower cast values. So you can cast this to get your kind of your train running out of the station with the adding onto your cast values as well. It's a good spell. I've got to be honest. It's for me. It's probably not a replacement. If I was doing a Gut Star, it's not a replacement for the Crown, just because this guarantee. We're talking about a difference between guaranteed and getting off. But
It's good to cast on your Mornfang to make them stubborn.
yeah, if I wasn't running the Gut Star and I was running a slightly different
Sort of
shape to
units
my
of
list,
6 or a couple of units of 8.
or something like that, then I maybe wouldn't take the Crown and have this in the locker.
Yeah, I definitely think it's got options there. So spell number 1 then is Bone Crusher. It's a magic missile that's cast on an 8 with a range of 18 inches. That causes 2d6, strength 2 hits with no armor saves allowed. Strength 2, not great. No armor saves though, really
He's
good.
very good.
Yeah.
I think Strength 2 not good, but I don't think it's awful.
Yeah, I mean elves and things, Empire, Bretonians,
Empire Knights and
Unit
Bretonian Knights. This is where it's
Yeah,
at.
that's where
particularly,
it's really singing. Elf Knights too. You do see high Elf Knights from occasions.
Yeah.
But it's that no armor saves really.
The no armor saves
really
what
makes
actually
it
does it.
fly.
Even like Elf Fast Cav. They have some armor, but even then it's only 5s to win, just to clear some chaff.
To be honest, if you got in the bag as well, if you got nothing else to cast, you can just cast in monsters. You're winning on 6s regardless if it's Strength 4 or Strength 2.
Yeah.
So.
Even things like Steam Tank or
Steam Tanks?
Skull
Yeah.
Crushers, where you use 6s. But I tell you what, if I said to you, you can do this spell on an 8+ and it'll nick a couple of wounds off a Steam Tank, you'd be all over it, wouldn't you?
Yeah. You can also boost it to 36 inch range, which is cast on an 11.
Yeah, I do
Really
think
good.
ogres can do ranged quite well.
Yeah.
They've got some really good range threat from their spells. They've got the cannons. The scrap launchers are not amazing, but they're all right. The lead
Lead belchers,
belchers,
very
the
good.
scout man-eaters and stuff.
Man-eaters,
Man-eaters,
Some good
pistols.
options in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to number 2 then, and that is Ball Gorger. So it's an augment spell. Lots of augments in this lore. Although it feels like lots of augments, but actually it's fairly reasonably split. So number 2 is an augment spell with a range of 12 inches that grants +1 strength, and that casts on a 7. You can boost it to affect all friendly units within 12 for a 14+.
Yeah, these next two ones are the main buffs.
They are really good spell, particularly when you bubble it. If you've got if you go Gut Star or not, I think it's good. Obviously, less need to bubble it most of the time if you go Gut Star. If you go sort of units of 6, so 3 units of 6 or units of 8, really good when you bubble it.
I think the fact you can bubble it is so good because there's not. I can't think of any other spells that actually affect your strength like that you can bubble up. The others that generally improve your strength or reduce enemy toughness, if you like, which is sort of the same type of effect. They tend to target
Increase the
things
range.
singly,
Yeah.
and the bubble, if they've got a boost, it's just a range boost.
The only one I can
Soulblight
Soulblight
is,
is the only one that springs to
everyone within
mind.
12.
Yeah,
or
but
18.
that becomes like a 20 to cast.
Quite.
Though, or
Is
something like that.
Wisdom's a bubble?
No,
Or is
no,
Wisdom
range.
increased
extends
range?
the range.
Boost the range. Yeah. And I've said here as well, ogres are generally want to be quite a compact army. They want to be quite close
They
together.
need the leadership, don't they?
Yeah,
from the
so
general?
that 12-inch range really isn't a big deal at
No.
all. Next up is Toothcracker. Very similar to Ballgorger, as Max says. These are the sort of the two main buff spells. Again, it's an augment and it increases the target's toughness by 1. It casts on an 8+ and can be boosted to affect all units within 12 on a 16+.
It's not
Quite high to cast for level 2, a 16.
For level 2, yeah.
Level 4 though,
That is in the ballpark.
pretty
level 4.
easy,
easy.
especially with a +1 from the
Even
attribute.
blood gruel off, yeah.
Yeah, a bit of gut sickle,
Yeah,
blood brawl.
exactly.
You doing that on 2 dice, mate?
Yeah,
Yaha!
really good. Moving on to number 4, and that is Brain Gobbler. So this is a hex spell with a range of 18 inches. The target must immediately take a panic check. Units that are immune to psych are immune to it, though. It's cast on a 9 and can boost the range to 36 inches for a 12.
Probably the only spell in this lore that I don't like.
I think it's a bit rubbish. This one.
Yeah, my least favourite spell. It's got its uses, I think.
Most lore has one. Most laws have one. Even the really
Yeah.
competitive laws have one that you look at and think, oh, I don't really see when I'm
springs to
going
mind
to use that.
for high magic.
I think the best use for this is to drop it onto enemy war machines.
Yeah.
Using that to just make them cower under the machine potentially, because most war machines have not got great leadership.
Yeah.
So like Empire cannons, things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, dwarves probably don't care, but
Maybe chaff units?
Yeah, chaff units for me. Chaff units that have got out of range of the general.
Other ogre armies with saber tusks, make those saber tusks
Yeah.
take panics, that's Legion 4.
yeah, I just think the spell's too situational.
Very situational. Number 5 then, and Troll Guts. Possibly the best spell in the lore. It's an augment spell with a range of 12 and it casts on a 12. The target immediately gains the regeneration special rule.
So good.
You can bubble it to target all units within 12 on a 20+.
Yeah, the fact you can bubble this.
Yeah.
This is the bubble.
It's quite high to cast on a 20+, but that's probably giving your entire army 4+ regen.
I mean, it's not when
Yeah.
you got 13 plus 7 to cast. If you got blood gruel and
Yeah.
sickle off, that's a
Yeah.
13 to get this.
Yeah, I mean, this is the
Yeah.
thing, is they've got some really good stuff they can do, which I don't think they're traditionally seen as a really magic powerhouse army, but
No.
there is some stuff that you can do with ogres,
Yeah,
particularly if you stick to their sort of their lore, the Lore of the Moor.
Lore of the Great
lore, yeah, but it's better when I say the Lore of the Moor.
Lore of them all.
Lord of More. But when you stick to that, I think you do get that ability to really stretch the sort of cast numbers that you present to your enemy, or get the most out of your dice, shall we say.
Does help offset one of the main weaknesses, which is your low save.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
absolutely. They're already tough, and they're the way they sort of balance that out is by not having much of a save. So just give them a 4+ regen.
Now, you look at trolls. And trolls
Yeah.
are good. And you look at ogres.
You've got an army of trolls.
You got an army of trolls. At that
Yeah,
point then.
but they're not stupid.
They're not stupid. They got grey weapons. They got shooting.
Yeah.
It also affects like your saber tusks.
Yep.
Your Mournfang,
Yeah.
your
Man-eaters.
Iron blasters if it's in
Yeah.
range. Everything is affected.
Saber tusks.
Giants,
Saber tusks.
Stonehorns, Thunder Tusks.
Its only sort of real drawback is it's only a 12-inch range. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that it should be more. I think if it was any more than that, it'd be absolutely ridiculously broken.
Yeah.
But I certainly think that that helps to balance it up, if you like, a little bit.
Yes.
Because the
I think that's fair.
units of ogres can themselves be quite big.
Yeah.
And so actually maybe you're not hitting more than 2 or 3 units.
Yeah.
3 sort of units sounds in my brain sort of the
Yeah,
number you'll probably hit in a real world situation, if you like.
Yeah.
Which I think is still very good. But
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
for me is the standout spell in the lore. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
I even used to think this was regen 5+.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
no.
And I still thought it was a good spell then.
Yeah, it would still be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when I realised it was a 4+, I nearly bust my gut plate.
Oh,
That was brilliant,
That
you know
is
it.
shocking. No more of that.
Busted his gut. Plate.
Finally, the lore is rounded off with a direct damage spell, The Maw. So it's cast on a 15+, place the small round template anywhere within 18 of the caster, roll the artillery dice and scatter dice, move the template in the direction shown unless a hit is rolled. If you roll a misfire, your opponent places the template and scatters it again. Once you've finally determined the position of the template, every model under it must take an initiative test. If they pass the test, they take a strength 3 hit. If they fail, they suffer a strength 7 hit with the multiple wounds D6. You can attempt to boost the spell to use the large template, which casts on a 21. It's nowhere near as sort of powerful as your standard number 6 spells, the vortexes like Purple Sun, or other direct damages like Dwellers. But it's still a very good spell. Because it affects everyone no matter their initiative, no matter if they pass or fail that test. You're still taking hits.
I think that's the crucial element of this spell versus others, is that you look and go, well, when they fail the characteristic test, strength 7's good, it is strong, it's good, multiple points D6 is good, but I still get my saves, I'm not removed from play, those types of things, but I think it's the only one of this type of characteristic based spell where you take the test and even if you pass, you still suffer an ill effect.
Yeah,
it's just not as bad.
Even elves have got to be worried about it.
Yeah,
that strength 3 is terrifying.
It's maybe only strength 3, but you're still 5 to wound even the toughest of infantry models.
Yeah, I think Warriors of Chaos probably don't massively care.
That's why my brain automatically goes there because of the army I play.
But I do think if you were running a troll heavy list, that's a big concern because every one of those regens you fail is big trouble.
Especially if you throw a fireball
at them first, which we did some finger gun action when we talked about that earlier today, didn't we?
I mean, other things like other ogres again.
Yeah. The big problem though is how random the scatter is because it uses the artillery dice.
Yeah.
And it can scatter so wildly, like off target.
What was the range of it? Sorry.
18.
It's 18.
Okay, when you boost the size of the template, does it increase the range?
No.
Okay, so you are also going to be quite close as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably the drawback with it, but it's still got so much potential. And if you land one in 3 times you cast it, you're going to land a hit.
I've had my Vampire Lord killed by this once.
Banner.
Unlike turn 1, it was terrifying.
I think it's
Turn 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He moved up 6, mauled me, and I was like, oh dear, I dare.
Vampires have got eaten.
Killed like 15 skeletons and a vampire.
I do like just a little note here that it says when at the end of the spell, the more than closes with a satisfied burp.
Yeah.
And the template is removed.
Love it.
So that is it. That is the 7 spells of the lore and the lore attribute. So let's get that rating. So it's a 3 for variety of spell types, 4 for power and frequency of the lore attribute, 3 for average spell range, 3 for spell flexibility, 3 for average casting value, and 3 for quality of the signature spells. Lots of 3s.
All the
there.
3s.
Yeah, that is a total of 19 out of 24. That is not bad.
No,
at
it's
all.
solid.
19's very good.
Yeah, you love to see it.
Yeah, it's very much in the ballpark of a lot of the battle magic laws that are seen as sort of very solid and good.
Yeah. It's got, I think, really I was going to say the one thing that lets it down, but it doesn't really. I was going to say the one thing really that lets it down is it's a lot of buffs and hexes, but you've got a good amount of those damage spells in there as well.
Yeah,
You can sort of treat Brain Gobbler, the panic test one, as a sort of, it's a bit like Curse Years. It's a hex.
like a pseudo
that does
damage.
damage.
Spell,
because it
can make stuff run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I certainly think the fact you can back this lore up with access to fire helps with that side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Beast with Amber Spear.
Yeah, and you can just sort of batter off the damage you need there. You've still got a spell that is terrifying to basically almost every unit in the game.
Yeah.
And you've still got a fantastic... I mean, who wouldn't kill to have regen 4+ on a bubble in their lore? Excellent. That alone makes the lore a serious consideration.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
alone, the extra strength and toughness and the attribute.
I really like this lore. I know that me and you have different opinions in terms of the utility of the lore.
We do. I prefer beasts on my level 4 wizard. So you have to take a wizard on the Lord of the Great Maw if you take a butcher or a slaughtermaster. One of them has to be on the Lord of the Great Maw.
Yeah.
I prefer running my level 4 on beasts and level 2 on Great Maw. You are the other way around.
I like having the level 4 on the Maw. And having level 2, or maybe, as I said, maybe on Beast, or maybe level 2 on Heavens, or something like that, because they can take Heavens.
I like that lore for ogres too.
Yeah, I like Lord of Great Maw because you can get the big pluses to the cast.
Yeah.
You can get the big buffs off, and you get all like Troll Guts, Ball Gorge, and Toothcracker off. You're laughing at that point.
Yeah.
And because the lore's designed to pair with ogres, you feel like the spells are obviously things that are going to help the ogres with their problems. Even bringing their toughness up helps them with their survivability issues as well.
Absolutely.
So
I mean, as you said, there's not much damage spells, but the average ogre can pull out the damage once he's got the buffs off. He does. It's the range.
It's doing it from
range damage. But as James said, range for ogres isn't
not
actually
terrible.
that awful.
Yeah, they've got the lead belchers, they've got man eaters, they've got the cannons.
They got the nobblers with their throw weapons.
Good.
Right, well.
On that note, I think we'll move on to the army lists. So, as I said, now we're going to move on to the sample army list we've got with Max's patented book shut.
all I heard was doop.
This is a very slight. It wasn't so aggressive. Just boop.
So, as ever, for the Ogre Kingdoms, we've got 3 2,500 point lists. One of them is completely uncomped, sort of in short what one of us would likely take to a completely unrestricted event. And then we have 2 using the Triple Crown GT comp. One is quite a denial list with concessions made around the comp, and then the other is a sort of MMU style aggressive list, so multiple sort of medium-sized units and an aggressive list.
I don't know what MMU. I know MSU. I've never heard of MMU.
I think MAT is the version of multiple aggressive threat. I think they call.
No, it's definitely MMU.
What I used to call MMU, yeah. But
I've never heard of it.
Multiple medium units. So
the Mew.
Yeah,
the Mew.
The Moo.
The Moo.
The Moo.
The Moo.
The Moo. So the uncomped list is quite a denial list based on a sort of gut star. Which
You say Gusta.
well, it's not. There's not a gut star isn't an
A Scott
actual
McKee
thing.
special, as I like to call it.
And it comes in at 2,496 points. So this is the Slaughtermaster. He's a level 4 wizard on the Lore of Beasts. He's got the Crown of Command, a Dispel Scroll, and a Great Weapon. I have a level 2 Butcher on the Lore of Greatmoor with a Hellheart and a Great Weapon. Bruiser BSB with the Runemaw, Heavy Armour, and Iron Fist. A Firebelly, who's a level 2 wizard on the Lore of Fire, additional hand weapon, and the Potion of Strength. 14 Iron Guts with full command and the Standard of Discipline.
Some big unit.
4 Lead Belchers. 4 Mornfang Cavalry with Heavy Armour and Iron Fists. Musician and Standard Bearer with a Dragonhide banner. 3 individual Saber Tusks and 2 Iron Blasters.
Wow. That's a meat mountain.
It is. So that single unit of Iron Guts is about 659 points, I think it comes out at.
Yeah, plus then you put all the characters in
Exactly.
that regiment.
It's about 1,500 points.
I'm assuming it's going to be a horde point because you got 18, right?
No, I'd
No.
go 4 by 4 and a bit.
Because he wants to be able to keep
Hide
the
characters.
characters in the
Yeah,
back
hide,
rows.
in that list, I'd hide the level 4 in the second rank.
One of these days,
for
I'll
sure.
see someone take a horde of ogres, like 18
I've
balls.
seen 18 balls. Yeah,
I've seen 18 trolls as well, which
I just think it's too wide.
He's a hefty. He's a
really
hefty
wide.
block.
Yeah.
it's a big block.
You've got a lot of chaff in there as well. You've got 3 individual Saber Tusks, which are
Yeah.
really good chaff.
Mm.
Like I said, you've got about 1,500 points wrapped up in that unit with the characters, which is super hard to actually get.
Yeah, because it's protected from spells with the Runemaw.
Exactly.
It's
yeah.
stubborn.
Yeah.
Plus
It's-
on leadership.
Yeah, it's got standard discipline, so it's
Oh.
leadership 9. It's really not. It's got the reroll from the BSB. It's really not going anywhere.
You've got to be fully dedicated to be able to take that unit on.
Yeah.
Full blast.
And you've still got 4 Mornfang. You've only got 4 Lead Belchers. I was hoping for more, but I just ran out of points. But you do have 2 cannons.
yeah,
2 Iron Blasters, very scary. So
Yeah.
you can deal with those monsters that might cause you issues. Although, the army is probably not going to struggle as much with monsters because of the strength 6. But in the
only
flanks,
thing-
it's got to think about that.
Yeah, and the only thing is they can only deal with really 1 at a time.
Yeah.
The cannons are there to sort of
A
pick
couple
off
of
the other
chimeras in
monsters
the
or-
flank would be
Yeah.
a big issue. Certainly, if you then got a good block of something serious in the front.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you an idea, that would be like a -11 in the Triple Crown comp.
You're paying a lot of comp for the size of the regiment.
Size of
so
that unit,
that one big
yeah.
fat denial block.
The 3rd Saber Tusks, the 2 Iron Blasters,
Third Saber
the
Tusk.
Standard Discipline, the Crown of
Shocking.
Command, the Hellheart, the Runemaw, the Dragonhide banner. It's all there.
It's
the
all
good
in
stuff.
there.
I think you hit every single
Negative.
Ogre hard point. So I think-
and some of the generic ones.
and some of the
as
generic. I don't think there's a single Ogre hard point you don't hit with this list, which is brilliant.
well. Pretty crazy.
But yes, on to the Triple Crown list then. And the first one is another denial style list, but as I said, this one sort of I've made some changes to as a sort of concession to the comp, so it's not as badly hit. And Max actually used a very similar version of this list on the channel.
Not well.
No.
Spoilers. Spoilers.
Oh, I said not well. I could still win by not playing well. Just shows how bad my opponent was playing. At
Whoa, whoa, whoa! I have Bretonians, okay? That book is 2 editions old. Anyway, so this list, again, another denial list. So we've got a Slaughtermaster, again, level 4 wizard on Lore of Beast. This time he's got the Armour of Fortune and the Crown of Command. I've got a Bruiser BSB with a Runemaw, a Heavy Armour and an Iron Fist. I've again got a level 2 Butcher on the Lore of the Greatmoor with a Hellheart and a Great Weapon. And a level 2 Firebelly on the Lore of Fire with a Potion of Strength. I've got 20 Nobblers with full command and Trappers. And I've got 12 Iron Guts with full command and the Standard of Discipline. I've got 8 Lead Belchers with a Bellower, who's just a musician. 4 Mornfang Cavalry with Heavy Armour, Iron Fists, Musician and Standard Bearer with a Dragonhide banner. 1 unit of 2 Saber Tusks and an Iron Blaster. So this one which you might look at it and think, actually, that's a really similar list. The comp score on this is a 0.
It's a huge swing.
massive swing.
But-
Now, so as I said, it looks quite similar at first glance, but you've not got as much chaff. It's also not as good because you're having to use the nobblers as chaff. And they at 20, they're quite a reasonable sized chunk.
It's quite a big unit.
And
to
they're
use
not
as chaff.
very fast, so
No.
you've got to sort of think around that. You've only got one cannon. You've not got a scroll, which is a really big concession for ogres.
Certainly is.
You do have the Hellheart still. You do have that big unit of Mornfang, and you've got a unit of 2 Saber Tusks. Now, that does mean they've got more attacks and more wounds to come back at them. However, it does mean if you kill one, you could panic the other one off.
That is a panic poochie.
And that is a very panicked Poochie.
It's a cat. It's not a poochie, it's a cat.
It's a dog, Max, and we will kick you out.
There's some interesting things here, though, that I see sort of looking across the 2 lists. The first thing is they're going to play quite similarly.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that it doesn't take a lot to just take off the really silly, worst offending elements with the
absolutely.
comp. So that you can still build that style of list you want in the comp system. But it does make a massive difference competitively. Those extra couple of iron guts, those extra, having that dispel scroll, just those few extra bits here,
Extra
bits
couple
there,
of bits of chaff,
that
extra
second cannon.
Yeah.
Because those are the false multiplying elements.
Yeah.
And that's what we spend a lot of time sort of looking at in the fine details of the composition.
Yeah.
So, the feel is all going to be the same, but, certainly guys that play competitively a lot, and you guys, if you're sort of watching this moving into that way of playing, you'll experience this yourself. The difference is huge when you've got one unit of 2 Saber Tusks or 3 individual Saber Tusks. The difference is massive.
It really is. And a big concession on this list, or a big sort of where it gets a lot of its plus from, is the fact it's Highlander.
It's Highlander,
There's no duplicate choices. And those duplicates, although you might say, oh, okay, well, if he's got 1 cannon, he's probably going to kill my monster. If he's got 2, he's definitely going to do it. Yeah, but that second cannon just gets rid of so much of the variability, if that's a word, of having 1 cannon.
Yeah.
You could misfire it, you could fail to wound, there's so many options, but having that second one really sort of averages out.
That's
the
it.
damage.
And across a game in particular,
Yes.
you really see that come together.
The redundancy of having 2 cannons is that if you lose one, you still got another one back on. But if you lose one and you only got one,
that's it.
Yeah, from an opponent point of view, I'm like, I've got 1 cannon I've got to take out of play. I don't even have to kill it. I've just got to take it out of play. It might be that I cast a spell on it that stops it shooting on a 4+. It might be that I charge it with something that's probably not going to kill it, but I don't
probably enough to
care
keep
as
it
long
in
as it
combat.
doesn't run away.
Yeah.
As long as I don't run away, it's pinned. Pinning it's just as good as anything else. These things are all much harder to do when you've got 2 of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a huge thing. I mean, this is also using the 2022 comp pack now.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first video we've used the 2022 comp pack on. So that's shifted its score ever so slightly as well, hasn't it? 1 or 2 points?
2 points.
2 points,
2 points.
There you go. So it would have been a little harder last year with just the sort of adjustments to ogres. So that's another thing that's worth pointing out. Also, with the Iron Blaster, just to touch back on it, we didn't mention it, I don't think. It has its own misfire chart, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
It does.
Both
Yeah.
the
So-
Iron Blaster and the Scrap
So it doesn't explode as often.
It's only 1 in 6, I think.
So that's something to bear in mind that also makes it more competitive. Is that a regular black powder cannon fires a third.
When it
dies
misfires, it dies
a third of the time. There you go. And this one only does it.
Whereas
a
I
sixth
think
of the time.
on a 2, you break the cannon,
The
but
cannon's
you've
wrecked,
just still
but
got a
you've got
chariot.
the
Still a chariot
yeah.
at that point.
Which is not bad.
But again, it's still a case in point with
Yeah.
you've put it in for being a cannon, and you could still lose it a third of the time to misfire. That's where the second one and the redundancy factor picks up again.
Yeah, I just want to point out this completely unintentional pun that I've put in my cheat sheet. So I've got some notes to mention. I was like, Nobbler's actors chaff, but same gut of a list. Completely unintentional pun. Just thought that, had a little giggle.
Do you know, I haven't got the stomach for any
had a
more
little
of these.
giggle. Max is up, Max is off. Well, I enjoyed it. So, finally, we are going to look at what I've called a more aggressive list. Now, that's not to say these lists aren't aggressive. They do.
It's difficult for ogres not to be.
It really
isn't
is,
it?
yeah. But what I mean is a sort of where your threat is much more spread out. That it's not that single sort of Death Star, Gut Star type unit.
I think, the first 2 lists are much more focused on stopping you getting
They
victory
are
points
much more
off of.
denial hammer
That's it,
type
yeah.
lists.
I don't want you to get any points off me,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to win by sort of staying ahead because I'm not dropping.
Yeah.
Whereas this is quite different.
Yeah, this is more about just getting multiple sort of averagely medium-sized units into your opponent and then really sort of dealing the damage out. And this comes to 2,497 points. So, we have, again, a level 4 Slaughtermaster on the Lore of Beasts. You can tell I like the Lore of Beasts on my level 4, as I mentioned. He's got an additional hand weapon, the Armour of Silvered Steel, a Dispel Scroll, and the Talisman of Endurance. I've got a Bruiser with Heavy Armour, the Enchanting Shield, and Fencer's Blades. Fencer's Blades, there we go. So the Enchanting Shield won't do much when he's in combat, but if he's sort of in between units, because I've got multiple units down here, then it might help him out. I also had 5 points spare, then very little to spend them on.
Yeah, Rocker.
I could have
You could have taken a Rocker.
I've got a second Bruiser, who's my BSB. He's got a Great Weapon and the Trickster's Helm. I've got a level 2 Butcher on the Lore of the Great Maw with a Hell Heart and a Great Weapon. I think he's been exactly the same in every single list I've written. He very much is a staple for me. And I've got a level 2 Fire Belly on the Lore of Fire with Potion of Strength and an additional Hand Weapon.
Throw some dice.
Yeah. For core, I've got a unit of 6 Iron Guts with a Champion and a Musician. No Standard Bearer in there, couldn't get the points. Although I've got other units in core, so you could swap the points from them. I've then got 2 units of 6 Balls with Full Command and Iron Fists on both of them. I've got 2 units of 4 Lead Belchers and 1 unit of 3 Lead Belchers. All have got Musicians. And then I've got an Iron Blaster in my rare. So this one is a +1 list overall. The main plus being that you've not got any big units of Ogres, of Monstrous Infantry. You've got no Mornfang, which is probably my biggest concern with the list.
That's a big concession because they really work in this type of list well as well.
They do. You've got a lot of shooting though.
Yeah.
You've got, 11 Lead Belchers plus the cannon.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, you've got more than, well, at least 1 character per unit. You've got, well, apart from one of the units of Lead Belchers. You know, characters don't belong in Lead Belchers. They belong in the balls and the Iron Guts that are going to be crashing through your enemy.
They belong in the gut of your army.
They do. Hey.
I'll get involved this time.
Yeah. So the units individually, even with the character in them, they're not going to deal out, you know, crazy amounts of damage. Those sort of 6 balls and the 6 Iron Guts. But when you get them in together, and you get them in, to be fair, even if you were like, oh, I'll just put 2 units of balls in with no characters in, that's a lot of attacks.
Yeah.
Especially if you can get 1 in the front, 1 in the flank. Even if you just go front up with both, that's a lot of attacks they're dishing out.
The characters will do a lot of lifting.
Yeah, on top of that, you then add the characters into it, and it's phenomenal how much they add to a unit.
That's a lot of characters.
It is a lot of characters. 5 characters. The second Bruiser, I think, is really good because you want one as your BSB. I think you need one in an Ogre army. Your leadership just isn't that good. But they've got a really good combat stat line.
Yeah.
A really good combat stat line, especially for a hero. So you want to get them in and you want to, you know, put them in the front rank, let them dish out the damage. But with your BSB, they're not going to be that survivable. So you don't want to then risk your BSB. So having that second one that actually you can be like, yeah, he's going to be front rank, he's going to be weapon skill 10, toughness 5. All right, he's only got a 5 up armor in combat.
They've got to hit him, though.
They've got to hit him and they've got to wound him. His toughness 5 with 4 wounds.
He's a big boy.
Yeah.
Big meaty boy.
And I like the Trickster's Helm on the BSB, actually, as well. Because he's not gone for a magic weapon. I didn't think the Rumor was worth it in this type of list. Because you've not got one big threat. And that's a lot of points to protect 6 or 7 models. But the Trickster's Helm, again, helps him sort of stay out of harm's way, really.
Yeah.
Rerolling to wound against him.
This is much more combined arms, I think. You're gonna be looking to do shooting damage in the early phases to whittle the units, and then...
And from your magic, very much as well.
Yeah. And then you'll pick off and strike units at a time if you can. The thing is with those characters as well, whilst they are expensive, you can sacrifice one of them, run them out of a unit if you really needed to get out of trouble, basically.
Yeah.
You've also still got the power of the Hell Heart. You've still got a cannon. Excellent.
Yeah, you don't have any chaff. That's another big downside of the list. Apart from, like James said, using one of those characters potentially as chaff.
I think of the lead belchers to
three
take out the
chaff.
You can
chaff if they need to.
You can use
as well.
them as chaff, especially if you they get down to 1 model, then they're arguably better because they're much more manoeuvrable. But that you've not got any sort of dedicated chaff in this list, and that's probably another one of its big downsides.
With that amount of lead belchers, they don't have to turn one either.
Exactly. You just use the first turn is your lead belchers clearing everyone else's chaff. And you've got 3 units that your opponent has to deal with, so if one of them gets chaffed up, not the end of the world.
I played a similar type of list to this at Cardiff Crusade. Instead of having a cannon and the lead belchers, he had Rhinox Riders, which obviously sort of like experimental rules. But imagine having 2 very large units of Mornfang, be equivalent to having sort of 2 units of 6 Mornfang packed on the back, sort of instead.
That are randomly inherently stubborn.
And it was it wasn't too far off that sort of shape, and it was very, very hard work to try to break that list down, because every one of those units can still dish out a lot of damage, particularly to average regiments. And none of it can be stomped on, and you can't kind of rely on automatic hits too much because of that. And the characters, they do grind damage. They
really do. Yeah, like you couldn't really put any sort of medium-sized infantry unit into even the balls and expect them to really come out the other side in any sort of shape.
No, they'll lose. They'll take a lot of casualties, and that's exactly what I found. And I think, in a way, like the Rhinox Riders were easier for me to deal with the list I had, because I had Vampire Counts, I had the Terrorgeists, and they were and the Hex Wraiths, and they were excellent for that. Whereas in this, well, I wouldn't have those things, because you'd be blasting at them really quickly.
The Hex Wraiths less so. I've got to sort of direct some magic missiles at them, but I've got options for them. Each of my lords has got at least 1 magic missile. And
you've got guaranteed magic missile with the Law of Fire as your signature spell. So
absolutely.
Strong.
I think it's a good list, and potentially, if I get some balls painted, one that we might, or similar version of which we might try out on the channel too. But that is it. We have come to the end of the Ogre Kingdoms deep dive. Thank you very much for sticking with us. Hopefully you'll have seen in these lists and through the unit ratings, actually, that Ogres do have a few very good competitive units, but because everything's about the right points, they don't have any truly sort of broken units.
No, not really.
Mornfang are probably the closest they get, but their points stops them from being
They're competitive, I think. Very competitive, but nothing more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because of that, they can sometimes feel a little lacklustre against the sort of top tier of competitive armies. But with a good tyrant at the helm, there really is very little the brutes of the Ogre Kingdoms can't overcome. As always, feel free to give us your feedback on the socials, share your list with us, and ask us any questions. But thank you again for joining us, and remember to head back to the Night of the Realm Mustering Ground to check out the rest of our exclusive content.
Bye, guys.
Remember to tag your friends and like, subscribe and share. Then head over to triplecrownwargaming.com and become a Knight of the Realm today.
What are you doing, mate?
You alright?
Do it for Warhammer!